blah, blah. Welcome. Cheers, bro. We got over here on our podcast 19, Mike. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Love your hat, bro, by the way.
Heck yeah.
In fact, that's the reason why we know each other is because backstory for our guest. I started looking up how to import Skylines, or namely JDM cars to the States. And there was a lot of there's a lot of importers now, but there's a lot of fluff when it comes to that. Like they don't really tell you the process, obviously, because it's a pretty lucrative process. But there were like a handful of like small videos and smaller videos that just kind of tell you how to go through it, and then I came across his. And that's how I came across it on YouTube, and then I realized that some of the stuff looked familiar. I was like, and then I reached out to him on Instagram, and so after we did that, I reached out to him. We had lunch and we talked about the process, and man, it's a tedious process to get it in. So yeah, you have a 1989 89 Skyline GTR,
correct? Yep.
R32,
yes.
Amazing car, but man, what a tedious process to get it in, huh?
Oh yeah, dealing with getting it over here as well as just the general ownership can get a little tedious, but it's worth it because it's so much fun. I love that thing.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it's a very fun car. Obviously it's like heavily revered in car culture.
Oh yeah.
And Mike's pulled up some pictures here of like the R32.
Oh yeah.
And right there in the R34, obviously, but the Skylines in general from the R32 onward is so highly revered, and trying to bring one into the States has always been it's always been a process, and I understand that now it's so much more money to bring it in, namely from these guys, top rank importers that operate out of here, SoCal.
Correct.
It's so much harder to bring them in, and they're almost like worth double the price than they actually are just to bring it in here.
Yeah, the value on those things has gone obviously through the roof. I mean, lately the car market's been nuts to begin with, so everything's going real high. But yeah, getting one into the US, it's not a inexpensive process, but if you're in California like we are, it's 100 times worse getting
explain to our viewers why it is that having a car that's JDM is much harder for the Californians in particular.
Absolutely. The thing about so to start with, to even bring over a JDM car or any external car from the United States, there's what's called the 25-year law that people refer to a lot.
Right.
And that just means that the car is exempt from federal emissions and safety standards. So basically the federal government doesn't care if you bring it over.
Okay.
So for most states, that's all you need. You bring the car over, you can register it because the state's like, oh, the government says it's good, we'll let you have it. California, we have our own EPA called CARB, the California Air Resource Board. They don't like cars, really, is what it comes down to, and they make JDM or any gray market vehicle a lot more difficult. You have to go through an entire certification process, and that process is both technically complicated. You have to pass certain hurdles to get through that, but you can pay shops to just take care of it for you, and that is expensive to do. So there's usually a financial hurdle to have to make it a California legal vehicle, which is why you always hear about people registering out of state or doing other not so legal ways to get around it, because it's such an expensive and difficult process, both time and money.
I do notice that with a lot of Skylines that I see, that they're either registered in Florida or in Montana, sometimes like Nevada, Oregon, but very, very rare to see a California plate on one. Aside from yours, I don't think I've ever seen a Skyline with a California plate.
It's not very common. I actually know a few people that have California plates on theirs, but that's just because they worked with me and they understood what it would take and decided to make that jump. But it is, I mean, it's a thing where I would tell people definitely do it because it's such a release of headaches. I mean, I've had cops behind me and they don't mind that, I might be speeding a little bit, but they don't bother me because I have a California plate. They've got more important stuff to do. If I had a Montana plate, they're on you immediately. Stuff like they just want to try to get that, to catch you for that. But they respect that, okay, you went through the hoops, you did the right thing, so we're not going to, give you a hard time on it. But it is one of those things where you're spending a ton of money to get that kind of privilege, and not everyone has that. So totally understand. We were like, yeah, I just registered in Texas or Nevada or whatever. It's like, I totally get it. I wouldn't give any flack for that. The only state I would avoid personally, like I say, is Florida, because Florida will let you register literally anything. That's why you can see people. There was a lot of confusion you'll see from people that aren't familiar with the law. They'll see R34s in the U.S. and like, oh, so they're legal to bring over, and it's like, well, not really. No, I mean, show and display is a thing, but that aside, no, they're not legal to bring over. And people are like, well, I've seen them all over the place. And it's like, yeah, they all had Florida plates because Florida doesn't care. But they're still illegal federally to bring over, and they'll get seized and either crushed or auctioned off if you get caught with it. So anytime people are like, hey, I want to buy one of these cars, what should I look for? First thing I always tell them, I go, well, if it's got a Florida plate, just walk away. It might legally be here, but it might not. And unless you really know what to look for in the documentation, I would just walk away and go to a reputable importer like Top Rank or someone like that. Have them come out and make sure everything is done correctly. You'll pay more, but you know the car is not going to get seized.
Yeah, that too. And also, I think Top Rank is just very, on top of being reputable, it's like they're here in California, so you don't really have to go through this like you will see the car. At least if for us who have the privilege of living in Los Angeles, like, you know, county where they're at, we can actually see the car. So that's the cool part too, is just like, and they offer financial payment plans. So you don't have to pay for a lump sum, or you can just kind of like go through like 6-8 years, whatever they have. I was looking into it. I was damn, I wonder if I could get one.
Top Rank, they're good people. They've got good vehicles. They're a little expensive, but you're paying for what you get with them. I mean, they're going to get the best of the best cars. So if you get a car from Top Rank, you know you're going to get something that is in good condition. It's been gone over. Whereas if you go with some, you know, startup mom and pop shop, or you buy it from someone who just has had it for a while, you don't know where the car's been and what's gone through with it. And that can get a little, it's not like buying a normal used car from someone down the road. This is a car that's got special requirements depending on the car too. Right. Because if you're looking at like right-hand drive, you know, FDR X7, well, those were also sold in the U.S. So there's certain things you can look for. There's certain parts you'll be able to find. It's, you know, it's a JDM car, but the parts are available here. But when you're looking at something like a Skyline with the RB26 motor, that motor was never sold here. Exactly. So parts are going to be tricky to come by. You know, finding knowledge. You know, I can take a Japanese RX-7 to a mechanic who's worked on any RX-7, and they'll know how to work with it. I can't just go to any mechanic with an RB and know that they understand that motor. Right. Now, it's just, at the end of the day, it is just a normal motor, but it is a motor they will not have seen before. They won't know what's tricky about it or what to watch out for. Right. So you have to find a specialist usually to deal with that. Thankfully, here in SoCal, we have quite a few specialists for a car that's so difficult to get. Right. Including my mechanic. I go through a place called Specialty Z, and they do
shout
really
out
good
to
work.
You guys. Specialty
Z. If you have a car and you need it worked on, go to those guys. Sebastian there is amazing.
Nice. Sebastian. All right, look for Sebastian.
They do all the work on my car that I don't do. I try to do what I can on my car, but I have a small garage. I don't have a lift. I don't have a garage worth of tools. So if I need, you know, press, or I need blowtorches and stuff to like break loose part, I don't have any of that. So I just take it to them.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Or if it's something I'm just afraid to do because it might blow the motor up if I do it wrong, well, okay, I'm going to let the specialist handle that. But doing brakes, doing, you know, stuff like that, I'll just do that myself.
Those guys are the ones who were on high car, low car on a donut, right?
Correct. That's actually one of the places I first heard about them. And then other people that have, they work a lot on like R35s. Obviously, they work on like the Z chassis and stuff like that. It's the name Specialty Z. And they do really good work. I saw them on high-low. And then people that I knew that had these other cars were like, oh, yeah, that's who I go to. So I rang them up, and I remember the first time I reached out to them, they had this small shop. They've expanded since then, but I was like, okay, they seem pretty popular. They must know what they're doing. And I called them like, I'm just going to have them do an oil change, because an oil change in an RB is a pain, and I don't like dealing with it.
Oh my god!
The oil filter's up in a weird spot, and I'm like, you really need it on a lift. I'll just let them handle it. And I was like, I'm going to see how good these guys really are. And like, oh yeah, we can do an oil change for you in 6 months.
Oh my god!
That's how booked they were.
They were booked. That's how booked they were. I think this was like, I want to say it was like November at the time when I asked them, and they're like, yeah, we can have you in April. I was like, oh. And then they looked for something. They go, do you only need an oil change? Like, yeah, I just want an oil change to get to know you guys and like start a, you know, customer business relationship. Oh man! And they were like, well, I'll tell you what, in 3 weeks we can probably fit you in on a Friday. If you can drop it off at exactly this time and pick it up at exactly this time. I'm like, okay, cool.
Did you pull into a really, really busy shop? It looked like they're reputable, but
well, at the time,
they're real guys.
Yeah, at the time they only had, I think, like 2, maybe 3 lifts. I think it was just 2 lifts, and then they had a bay that didn't have a lift, and then they had a bay for their dyno. and that was like it. And they were like sharing a building with I think a paint shop or something.
Okay.
But they've recently moved out. They're out in the Simi Valley area now, and they've got like
Still in the valley.
7 lifts. They've expanded quite a bit. And now when I call them up, I'm like, hey, I need some work done. They're like, oh, cool, yeah, like a couple weeks. I'm like, much better.
Better than a couple months, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Apparently they only work on strictly Nissans, right? Is that how it goes? Or
As far as I'm aware, I mean, I've asked them before about work on a Lancer, and they were like, yeah, we don't work on Lancers. So they've never explicitly said only these Nissans, but I've only ever seen them working on Z cars, S chassis, and like GTRs.
nice.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh man, that's
So I don't
super
know if you
nice.
could take like an Ultima to them.
So
You probably could, but they'd be like, "Why are you?"
It's a Nissan.
My run of the mill Xterra with the VQD.
Oh, there you go. Like that's technically a Nissan. They could work on
If
that.
you took it there and said, "Hey, I want to RB swap this," I'm sure they'd be on board.
Oh, dude, that'd be so cool. If you put an RB in the Xterra, holy crap. You know, I've seen some RB swap
killing me,
Silvias,
man.
and they're nice.
That's pretty
man.
common. Yep.
Like, and I've seen like a few. The last one I went to was like Cars and Coffee in Anaheim. And there's like usually a lot of JDM cars that show up, but like I saw some S14s in there with RB26s, and it's so beautiful.
What an interesting exhaust pulse engine sound, motor sound the RB has. It's like there's nothing like it. Like the pulse spacing. I even there's this kid that does motor noises, but actually as an audio guy, I pulled up waveforms of the VQ, the HR, and an RB26, and the pulses are a little wider on the RB, where it sounds really beefy. It sounds really. People just have to. I've yet to hear it in real life, so I'm one of these days.
Oh, it's a shame I didn't bring mine.
That's okay.
Hey, you know what? One of these days we'll go to like that meet at Pierce.
Yeah.
Where he's
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
He's usually there. And you know his Skyline is very unique looking because it's like, well, it's Bayside blue, right?
Correct. Yeah. When I
That's
brought
the
it over,
color?
I had it painted Bayside blue off the R34s. Yeah.
Wow.
It's so beautiful. That color is just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, see if you could pull up Bayside blue over here.
Now, Mike, was that color available, or is that a where'd you pull the color from?
Oh, the color. It's people always ask if it's like a factory color, and it technically is a factory color, just not for that car. The
That's for a base. Damn, that base
does
looks
look pretty
sick
good.
though.
We've got the Ibanez with the Bayside blue.
That's
but no, the Bayside blue was the iconic blue off the R34s that you usually see.
Yeah.
So when I had them repainted, I was like, you know what? Let's put it on the R32, which is
so sweet.
which is a common respray.
Gotcha.
no Bayside, BAY side blue. That'd be cool. You know what I like too is when guys have musical instruments that match their cars, like the color scheme. Oh yeah, that's it right there. That color.
Oh yeah.
That color's amazing.
Yeah.
You could actually probably pull up a picture of my car and see the actual paint.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. See if you can put R32 on top of that. Bayside blue R32. Yeah.
Man, and I'm so plain with my black.
Oh man, that looks very much like yours.
Oh yes.
That is so dope. You know, honestly, I think I know the R34 gets a lot of love because of Paul Walker, and it was probably the best GTR to some extent because of also like, you know, it was the pinnacle of like RB26 technology, and it had more modern amenities, I guess you could say. But honestly, my heart always goes out to the 32 because I'm going to say it. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. Initial D. Initial D. Whenever I talk about like Initial D to people and I want to like show them why I got into it, I always refer to the race between Takumi and Takeshi Nakazato. And Nakazato had a black R32 V-Spec 2 GTR, right?
When I imported my car, it was originally what they call KH2 gray, which 90% of 32s were painted the same color.
Right.
And the clear coat was a little rough on it. It needed some paint. So I was like, you know what? I'm just probably going to do a wrap on it. And the shop that helped me import it, they're like, well, we can do a paint job. And I was going to have them paint it black because I was going to do a Night Kids style.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
And before I even said anything, like it was like we were like on the phone. Before I even said that, we can paint it. And I was like, ooh, paint it black. Like we can paint it. We can do whatever color you want. We do midnight purple, Bayside blue. And I went, ooh, Bayside blue. you have pictures of the work y'all have done? Because you're not in a paint shop, you're like an importer. So he sent me some photos. I was like, that looks really good. And they're like, yeah, paint job only costs $2,000 because we'll just scuff and respray it. It's not going to be a great paint job, but it'll look, this is what it looks like. Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, you know what, $2,000, let's try it. If it looks like crap, I'll wrap it anyhow. That was the plan.
It's new paint anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So they sprayed it out. And this was back in 2017. And it's still holding up and looks great. People always talk about, oh man, this paint looks really good. And I'm like, yeah, I paid like $2,000 for it. Like, not a $10,000 paint job. If you're a paint person, you'll hate it because you'll start seeing
you'll see the scuffs.
You're like, swear, like, oh, that's not quite right. Like, but there's no like paint runs or anything. Really, with big things, if you look under the car, you can see kind of some overspray and whatnot like on the fuel tank.
Sure.
Yeah.
But for going to parking meets at night, like I was out in Simi Valley last night for an event. And, you know, you pull in, it's kind of dark, but you get the street lights shining on everything.
Nice.
And the headlights, you know, hitting it just right. And it just looks like I spent like $10,000 on the paint when I totally didn't. And
you're like, not too close. Don't look too close.
Like, oh, this looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, well, don't look too much at it. but if it's well enough and it looks good. But yeah, so as soon as they said that, I was like, oh, I gotta go base up. Plus my Lancer is blue. And I'm like, and if I get I want to get the I want the new Z, the 400Z.
Oh, dude!
And everyone does blue for that. Oh,
cool.
Looks good.
Might pull up a 400Z.
I just don't know if I want the first year of it. It's like, plus I'm also wanting to get a 350 to build track cars, so I just got to figure out where I'm actually going to spend my money because I've also still need to put money into the Skyline. You know,
right?
We always want to spend money on stuff, so got to figure out where to actually allocate it.
Right. Dude, that's so true. What you say when you refer to first model year. Because they go through the most crap because it's all like it's the entire community now gets to check and test and they go through like a bunch of shit tests and whatever.
That stuff they overlooked in test because they've built like what 3 or 4 to test with and they test them in very specific scenarios. Yeah. But once they get on the road and you're putting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 miles on
real world usage.
Yeah, they're gonna find and every car I've ever been like, oh, that's really cool. The first year's always had some. Not just like, oh, it's got this little error. It's usually something catastrophic. Like I want to say, I might have this wrong, but I want to say like the first Camaro, like when the new Camaros came out back in 2010, I think it was. I remember reading a story like the very first one sold, made it like 20 miles and they had catastrophic electrical failure because of an issue that they didn't know about.
A buddy of mine, quick little story. I was like sitting with him. We're on the way somewhere. I'm like, hey, Phil, there's some, this is definitely coolant on the passenger seat. He had to pull over.
Oh my god!
Had to pull over on the 118. I'm like, all right, let's call it in.
Yeah, it's like that.
I'm like
not
sitting
good.
in the pool of coolant.
The funny thing
heater
is,
core.
Given the I say that I don't want to get the first year, but my 32 is a first year 32. So, but I didn't buy it in '89. So thankfully, hopefully, all the issues have either been figured out, so I know they're coming.
Right.
Like the notorious, people talk about this, the notorious oil pump issues that those cars have. Which is part of the reason I want to rebuild the motor because I don't know what the oil pump looks like. But also, there's a previous owner I know was tracking it, so hopefully he fixed most of the problems, and it's been 95% reliable. At the end of the day, it's still a 30-year-old Nissan, so it's going to have 30-year-old Nissan problems that are just harder to fix because the parts are a pain. But it's it's a fun car, and like I said, it'd be nice to have a blue 400Z and a blue 350 track car just all in a line. So
that'd be so cool. Mike, put that put that on the the primary screen.
Which
the 400Z. Bring that up.
It's such a good looking car. I've seen the they've had them at a couple
PIP
of
me in this. Because we have PIP, so I'm pretending I'm looking at it like this. Because we have picture in picture. We're just testing this out, dude. This looks amazing. The 400Z, I think Nissan did a killer job here.
They sound amazing too.
You know, I haven't heard them yet, but they look amazing. I follow Larry Chen on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
and like he's like the go-to guy for all these like photos of cars, especially like Japanese cars.
Oh yeah, he's a cool dude.
He's a cool guy. I wish I got to meet him when he came out here to Fujiwara because he had like a night, like an event or something like that. So it was really cool. But he was taking pictures of this, and I'm like, dude, if I had to get a new sports car, I would get this.
Yeah. I think. First off, for price, they're started at like $39,995.
Like super base
get
model.
out of here.
Cool. Yeah, and there's only 2 trim levels. I think the second trim level is like $8,000 more.
That's not bad.
It's all cosmetic and like quality of life features, like the powertrain and everything's exactly the same. Yeah. Well, like I think it's got like Apple Wireless Play or something and stuff like that, which I don't care about. I don't use Apple, but it's stuff like that. It's like, oh, cool. You get like a slightly better interior. And you get but you still get the same 6-speed. You get the rear wheel drive system, the same engine, all of that. It's the same on both. So I'm I'm super excited for it. I can't wait to see it on the road more and see like what people do with
I know.
because they're going to go nuts
So
with
true.
it.
I bet you this car is the reason why like Toyota decided to put a manual on the Supra.
100%. Yeah.
Because they now put a manual in the Supra. And if you bought a Supra before that, I would be kicking myself.
Yeah.
If you bought like an A90 Mark V Supra and it wasn't a manual, it's like, oh my God, what did you do with your money?
Like I have to imagine like what Toyota was thinking, because when Toyota came out with the Mark V, you know, I'll be one of the people that won't give it. Okay, it's partly BMW, but we wouldn't have gotten the car otherwise. And people that give it crap for being part BMW are like, well, you know, the 8.6 is part Subaru, so it's like, you know, they're pairing off people. That's fine. It makes the cost lower. I was okay with that. My problem was it came out at like 60,000, I think was its baseline when it launched. Yeah, 60 or 70, and right when it came out, and it's no fault of Toyota, but right as it came out, Chevrolet's like, oh, by the way, C8 Corvette. I'm like, oh, that's cool. How much is that? 60, 70 baseline, or like 70, 80 baseline. I'm like, well, why would I buy
Why would you get
a BMW Toyota Supra that's an automatic when I can get this monster of a mid-engine American supercar effectively at this point? Yeah. And because it's just, and those C8s look so amazing, right? They so are. Like that finally started dying down, and it's like, okay, cool, the Supra's starting to come into its own. Yeah. Then Nissan's like, oh, by the way, 6-speed, and it costs $15,000-$20,000 less. Toyota's got to be like, crap. Fine, we'll put a manual in it.
You know, I bet you. Okay, so when I looked down forums and stuff about the Supra not having a manual, because that was really the biggest gripe real car enthusiasts had about the A90 Supra, was the fact that it didn't come with a manual. And a lot of people were saying, oh, that's because it would rob sales from the GR86 or the BRZ, right? So naturally they were like, well, we're not going to put one in here because everybody's going to buy the Supra and nobody's going to buy the GR86 or the GT86 at the time, right? And now that Gazir Racing has really come into its own, dude, with that GR Corolla, holy crap, like, I really wish I didn't get my STI because I really want that Corolla, man. Dude, the 100 horsepower per cylinder. Yeah, holy crap,
they're doing a good amazing. Job with it. I mean, personally, I like the Corolla in concept, like how it looks and such. It's something about it I'm not quite sold on. I think it's really the fact that it's like for a little bit more, I could get the 400Z.
No, it's same here.
Like,
same here.
It's like everything for me comes back to that 400. And the thing that surprised me the most, or excites me the most about the 400. Honestly, isn't even the 400. And it's, to be fair, it's also not called the 400. It's the Z, which I think is a huge misstep. It should have been the 400Z, because if you just call it a Z, people are like, which one? Because
exactly.
Which one are you talking about? Right. So with the 400Z, I think, and I've been saying this for, you know, I see my friend, you probably even find it on social media, that I've been saying for a few years now, that I think Nissan's plan is, obviously they've discontinued the R35, so they're going to be.
It's been so long now.
There's rumor. I don't know how accurate it is. I've heard that Nissan has said this, and I've seen reports that they've said it, but then I've seen reports that they may not have said it. But supposedly the next one's going to be either hybrid or electric, like an R36.
That makes so much sense.
I do know that a friend of mine had said that the lead engineer for the GTR had said he would never make it a hybrid or an electric. But they're saying that it will be, so I figure he may not be involved anymore. I don't know the story there. Either way, I think that's going to come out, and that's going to be your $100,000 Halo car for Nissan. You're going to have your $40,000 to $60,000 Z for keeping up with like the Supra and whatnot. All they got to do is bring back the Silvia chassis at like $20,000 for competing with the 8.6. And you've got all three of the classics back into a modern thing. You're covering the entire price spectrum. So it's like, oh, kids out of high school wanting a nice little sports car, nothing high power, just good handling, rear wheel drive, you know, good car, just like the 8.6. You can go get a Silvia, like an S18 Silvia or whatever they call it. Yeah. And then, oh, you got a little extra money, or you mommy, daddy has extra money, whatever, you know, get a Z, you know, get a really nice build on that, get the Nismo. Oh, you've got them, go get the GTR, and they have the whole spread for it. That's what I think they're going to try to do, especially with this kind of rebrand of the company after all of the CEO stuff. Yeah. I think that is how they kind of come out swinging and go, look, yeah, the world's changing. Obviously, electrification's a thing. All of them will probably end up being hybrids at some point. Yeah. Or full electric, and that could very well be a Silvia, an electric Silvia. And just go to town with it. Like be the Dodge of Japan, and just make your cars about power and performance and make that your halo. I think Nissan would kill it if they did that. And of course, with those name recognition, people would be all over that. Dude, that's what I think their plan's going to be.
Dodge of Japan. Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen.
That'd be a cool plan. Because I feel like, speaking of electrification, like earlier this year, because I drive an STI. So naturally, I mean, I have like the previous VA chassis STI, right? But everybody was really looking forward to the VB chassis STI, and then they dropped a bomb. They dropped a bomb on all these people waiting for the new STI, saying, actually, we're not going to make one anymore. We're going to, with all this blah, 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 electrification, blah, 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 we're not going to make it. It doesn't make any sense. And I can see it from a company perspective, and I think for their future, it's a good move. But as an enthusiast, I'm like, man, this sucks. We got robbed of an STI. Like, we don't have, and I think they're making STI parts for the WRX, and it's like STIS. But really, I think, a Subaru's not as hard hitting as Toyota or Nissan. So I think they're making a good move for the company, for their brand to live on. They really they can't afford to like make an internal combustion engine STI, and yet everything is already changing so drastically.
Well,
so
right now, I mean, it's a tough time to be putting development into a new engine to
exactly.
begin with. I mean, people with like, again, go back to the 400, people were like, I've heard people say, I'm surprised they didn't like create a new engine for it. I'm like, well, why? Who knows how long that car is going to actually be an ICE? It could very well go to electric at any time, because I mean, Europe is requiring certain sales changes, that the US is starting to put that in, where like, 10 years they want 90% of sales to be electric and all that. I mean, honestly, another thing that makes me kind of hold off on wanting to buy the 400Z is, what's the fuel going to be like? I just got fuel yesterday in the Skyline. It's the lowest I ever let the Skyline go in fuel, by the way. It was like a half a tank maybe. And I'm like, I just got paid. I'm just going to fill it up so I don't have to worry about it. It cost me $100 to fill the car. 101.
How big's the tank?
Exactly. 15.5 gallons.
Oh my God.
But when gas is almost $7 a gallon, that's not, that's not going to, that doesn't take long to hit that triple digits.
I know.
And I normally I would have been like, I ain't filling up. Screw that. But I was like, I wonder how much it actually will cost to fill this car up right now. Plus I was curious how much fuel it actually was going to take, because it was so low, and it took 15.3 gallons or so, and was 101.10 to fill up. I took a picture of it because I was like, I've never spent this much money on fuel. I sold my Yukon back in the day because it was costing me $80 to fill up, and well, so much for that.
New norm. Oh man,
damn, dude, I can't believe gas is just astronomically high.
Yep. And people are like, oh, it'll come down soon, but it's like, I mean, with this electrification, it's becoming, they've got to make their money, and they're not going to make it through volume sales. So they're going to make it through higher prices. Plus, they have no reason to lower the price. If you're like, oh, the oil companies will lower it. No, they won't. Why would they? They're making money now.
They're making money now. They're not going to want to lower it.
Exactly.
We are at a new norm now.
Yeah. I mean, it may go down like 50 cents, 60 cents, but I don't think you'll see it. At least in LA, to like $3. You're not going to see it to $3 never again. Especially with something like premium, which I have to put in. That's not going to happen. But you could have E85s as an option. Which is a lot cheaper, but that requires obviously rebuilds,
tuning.
Exactly.
On top of that,
you have to go through, and California is all really tricky about retuning ECUs right now. So who knows how that's going to go.
So this is a graph here. We're pulling it up. Oh my God. So gas obviously spiked during the financial crisis, which is that huge part right there in 2008, 09. Yeah, exactly.
Lame.
Then it dropped a little bit, but then,
this shows the story right here, because remember back in 2008, what was everybody saying? Yeah, gas is crazy right now, but as soon as the economy recovers, it'll go back to normal. Never did. It went down a little bit, but it never went back down to like $2 a gallon.
Then they realized, like, hey, we're making money.
Yeah, they're like,
why do we have to go down? Why do we have to go lower it?
It's one of those things where, we're in the U.S. at least, we're a society built around the automobile. Everyone has a car. Not having a car in most cities is just about impossible. Yeah. So fuel isn't a luxury; it's a mandatory item. So why would they lower the price? It's the same like tires and healthcare and all this stuff. Yeah. If you need it, it's going to be expensive.
Still the lifeblood of this economy, and actually the world's economy.
Yeah,
now that
wars are fought over that stuff. So.
Right? It's the reason why we have a presence in the middle. By we, as Americans, have a presence in the Middle East is because it's still the lifeblood of the world.
I'm really curious what's going to happen when everything does go electric, because you've never heard of a war over electricity. So it's like,
so this is what you say that, but a lot of major wars are over resources. Yep. So like right now, it's like a presence in the Middle East because oil's there, like very heavy. What if we find a place that's heavy in lithium? Because lithium is like kind of what we need for electric cars. Then we'll go there,
And even then, if you think about it, so you and I aren't buying gas at the station anymore, but that electricity comes from a power plant, which is probably running off of coal or oil. So it's
Right.
still a big demand for that until we start going to like, renewable sources from
Solar.
the plants.
Like
Yeah.
fully.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
solar or even like nuclear, even
Yeah.
something that doesn't require us to go into someone else's country and say, hey, that's
Right.
ours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
What an American thing, huh?
exactly. That's when we're going to start seeing some changes in that regard when it comes to like energy and all that. But right now, it's just a matter of changing where the massive level of pollution comes from. Is it from my tailpipe or is it from the exhaust of a power plant?
That's so true.
And with California's power plants already being so stressed, I don't know how California's going to handle full electrification. It's just going to
They're
start
pushing
causing
for
more
it
problems.
here, man. Like they're super pushing
We're
for
big.
electric
We're
cars
big on
here.
that environmental. CARB exists because they wanted to keep the air clean because it used to be terrible here. Totally
Yeah.
get that, but we've got to spend money on better power plants or better power sources at that point, and I haven't seen anything about that.
It's interesting that
Yeah.
like the cars that we drive are just going to become relics in our own time. Isn't
yeah.
that weird?
In our adult life, yeah. Crazy.
Like they're gonna like go, or they're gonna reach this point where it's like, I'm worried as an enthusiast.
Mhm.
It's like I won't be able to drive my car anymore. Like that's probably where it's all headed,
Yep.
because it's like, no, you can't drive it. It's not electric. It's a gas powered car. Nope, can't do that. Or you pay a heavier tax,
Yeah.
right? Which I think is more realistic because they'd rather make money off of you than tell you not to do it.
Honestly, I don't know if it'll even become a tax thing because let's be honest, yeah, we're enthusiasts, but 80% of people aren't. So they're just gonna get rid of their cars and go
That's
to an
so
electric
true.
car. What's going to be happening is it's going to be like right now, if you want to go racing, you have to go buy race fuel. It's like $10-12 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to become fuel. Like
Yeah.
you want to fill your car up? Well, it's going to cost you $400 or $500, but you can get to have that. So you're just going to have that in your garage, like my Skyline should be, except a daily. And it's like, well, I'm going to take it out on the weekend or every now and then I'll have my either electric converted or electric car, and take that out. If I had all the money in the world, what I would do right now is I would get a R32 GTST and full rear wheel electric swap.
Dude, I was just
Nuts.
about to ask this question because I was just like, what would you electrify an older car?
Oh yeah.
And I would too. If I had like you said, all the money in the world, I would totally electrify an older car.
Mhm.
And then it would still have the cool points of being
Yep.
the car that it is, but then you're environmentally conscious.
Yep.
And then you get to charge it. And then now you're also within the infrastructure of the rest of the state.
Exactly.
So you kind of satisfy both needs there.
The only problem right now I have with electrification or with doing something like that is you only have really two options. You have to get some kind of crap system that who
Some
knows
sort of
how
kit.
efficient it is. Yeah.
It'll be so janky.
Or you have to like repurpose the drivetrain out of something like a Tesla Model 3,
Yeah.
which
right.
while Tesla's systems technically are good, I don't
Uh-huh.
like Tesla as a company with some of the business stuff they do and the way they like can
Understandable.
over the line just shut the features off of a car, which includes part of the electrical system.
Over the air?
Yeah.
They've done this.
done
That's
it,
so
yep.
crazy to me.
And
that's nuts.
as
My
soon as they
gripe-
started
my
doing
gripe.
that, I got signed off of them, and they're very bad about right to repair. Like if you need to replace a part of your Tesla, good luck. They're gonna be like, oh, it's the very same as Apple. They're like, oh well, yeah, we can sell that to you, but it's gonna be super expensive, and we want the old part back, and we don't want to get secondhand parts in the market. It's so
Wow, super
Yeah, it's-
proprietary.
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
oh my
Apple's
God.
worse. Don't be
Man.
wrong, but that's how they do that to keep you from getting spare parts in the market. Apple's big thing is even if you go to an Apple certified repair shop for like your phone, and your phone they'll always say, oh, it needs a new main board, but whatever part it needs, say it's actually the main board. Well, the main board on the iPhone is like, say $200.
Uh-huh.
Just, I'm pulling that number out of the air, but say that's what it is.
Okay.
Apple will charge the shop like, $1,000, $1,200 for that part, and say when you send us the old part back, we'll give you $1,000 rebate. So if the shop doesn't send that old part back, they're paying like 5 times what the part's worth.
Oh my god.
And that keeps the spares on that board from getting out in the market so that you can fix their part without paying Apple. So they're huge against any spares being in the market. That's why they fight right to repair so much. And Tesla has joined into that fight, along with several other electronic companies that are big into it. The one-wheel manufacturers were the most recent in the news. Ford Motion, I think's their name. Just doing things to make it impossible to work on your electronics. And with cars going electric, it's getting into that marketplace. Like it's no longer you go to the mechanic, you now go to the IT specialist to work on your car. And when that happens, it's like, well, they can change features. They can turn features off. That's what Tesla was doing. They were taking secondhand cars and turning off the rapid charging. And their reasoning was like, well, the secondhand person didn't buy that feature. It's like, that car sold with that feature, so they bought that feature. But that's not how Tesla sees it. So immediately I'm like, don't Tesla. And that's an old story. I don't know if they've changed, but I think I would have heard it they had. So if I'm wrong, let me know. But everything I've looked into what Tesla's doing, it's still kind of in that shady, like I don't agree with how they're doing it. But they also don't brand themselves as like a car company. They're more like almost a lifestyle company when you think about it. So I don't know. I would want to electrify my car with something that I knew I had open source control over, that I could do what I wanted with it. So
keyword.
I mean, that's just kind of how we deal with our cars in general. It's like we'd like to personalize it. We like to do our own maintenance.
Exactly.
You know,
that's a good thing about an internal combustion engine is you own it and do what you want with it.
Exactly. Oh my God. So like, I kind of like joined this this club now of older Japanese cars because over the at the end of April, I decided to get an 86, an AE86. So I did. It's a little bit janky, and it's definitely an older Corolla.
Oh yeah.
And me and this guy have been working on it almost every week now. So yeah, I got one of these.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Trueno hatch, or AE86 hatch Corolla GTS with the 4.8 GE. And it's so janky, man, but I love it.
Dude, they're great cars, and you've said you've been working on it, so they're easy to work on.
Oh, you know what?
Oh,
I feel like I understand the car completely now because it's like incredibly simple.
Yeah.
It's like such an incredibly simple car with a fixed rear axle. And it's like, I feel like I already know what I need to do on it. And I haven't been like a total wrencher for too long.
Yep.
But like, I feel like I've already understood what needs to be done in order to get this car back to like regular, if not better specs.
Yeah.
And
just,
so,
I mean, those cars as well. I think one thing I love about them is the engine bay you can actually work in.
There's a lot of space.
Not like that in the Skyline. Oh no.
Oh no! I saw pictures of an engine bay on a R32. Man, it's cramped.
That's Nissan.
There's a lot of space inside of this one, but even with that, the oil filter is in a really shitty location. It's so stupid, bro. So yeah, on an 8.6. So I'm looking into getting an oil filter relocation kit. So that because my friend has a coupe 8.6 in Vegas, and I went to go see his. He has one that's closer to like, it's a top mount, or it's essentially like you can unscrew it from the top. Like, this is genius. I wonder why people back in the day didn't consider this.
I don't know. I don't know where the filter is on that, but I can tell you with the filter in the Skyline, you have to like reach up like around the exhaust, and it's such a, you get oil everywhere. That's why I don't do the oil on my car. I tell you, I usually take it into my mechanic. I'm like, hey, I need oil change. He's like, and it's not cheap to go there, but it's such a headache relief. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to lift the car up. Like, you can do it from up top, but it's so difficult. But so yeah, I've been looking to get a relocator kit for the Skyline.
Make it easier for you to do an oil change.
Because it's like, I can change oil. It's not that hard, but I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I know, right? Usually oil changes are a rite of passage for people who like to wrench on their cars, right? So like, I've taught this guy how to change his oil. Yep. I had a friend who I taught how to change his oil, and I gave him some tools and all this stuff, and it's just like, oh, what else can I tinker with? So I feel like, especially as an enthusiast, that's like one requirement that like I consider an enthusiast, where it's like, if you work on your car, I feel like you're already there. You're in this club. Or if you like to tinker and you like to do stuff, that's part of it. Driving a manual to me is a huge plus. Well, like, this is my personal opinion. I think if you're a car enthusiast, you got to know how to drive a manual. Yeah.
You don't actually have to actually be driving one, but you need to know how.
You need to know. Yeah. You may not necessarily drive one every day, because like, realistically, like, especially if you're going up and down LA traffic, a manual's gonna suck.
Well, that plus, I mean, both of my cars are manuals, and yeah, it sucks. But I mean, if you can be an enthusiast, and like if you buy say an R35, there's no option. So there's like 12 cars I think on the market right now you can get a manual in, and that's including like Europe. I don't even know about in the US. So it's like, good luck finding one. So if you have a newer car and you're loving it, and you're wanting to be an enthusiast, you just learn to drive a stick somewhere, and I think you'd be good, because you never know when that'll be important. Even with electrification coming out, I mean, there's companies have been looking, which is stupid, but some companies, I think Toyota did this, announced that they're looking to mount a manual or like a pseudo manual to an electric car, and like, so people feel like they have a manual again. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. I thought it was smart at first. I was like, why wouldn't you put an electric? Because the whole point of an electric is you're burning electricity because you're going faster. And it seems like if you put a manual there, you could lower the amount of power necessary to rotate those wheels. It's the same thing with the gas engine. Like, it seems like that would still work. And then I did the research. I'm like, oh, once you're at speed, it takes the same amount of
Yeah,
energy to go
exactly.
5 miles an hour as it does 50 miles an hour. So you're not really saving anything.
Exactly.
So I was like, oh, and the torque that those things put out just rip apart manual transmissions.
It's already
I'm sure they're-
right available right then and there.
Exactly. So
And-
it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. But why? Why are y'all trying to put this manual system in just for people? I mean, I'm wrong. I think it'd be fun. I want to play with one.
Yeah,
But the whole
right.
time you're doing it, you have to be thinking, I'm such a tool. Like I would love it, but it's like, yeah, this is stupid. But let's have some fun with it. I wouldn't buy it for my car, but if someone was like, hey, I've got that, you want to try it out? Yes.
Yes.
I want to see.
Okay, so I gotta ask you this, for the sake of the viewers.
Sure.
How is it shifting in a right-hand drive car? Because I'm used to shifting with my right hand,
Mhm.
because we're USDM here. And
Yep.
so naturally the gear shifters, and I'm right-handed.
Mhm.
So I'm not left-handed. And on top of that, I'm not used to first gear being up and away.
Yeah.
So how is that?
It's not that hard. I mean, for the listeners and such, and it's a question I had when I first got the car. Like, first off, what is the pattern?
Right.
Is it reversed? Because
Right.
Japan, when you're on the other side of the car, is the pattern backwards? No, pattern's the same as if you're on the left hand side. The pedals are also the same. I thought, do I have to accelerate with my left leg and I brake with the right? Because I remember sitting at home after I bought the car. I thought that question. I'm like, I don't know if I can drive this car if that's how it is. I should have asked. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, and then it showed up, and I was like, oh, thank God. So that was it's literally just as if you took the pedals and a steering wheel and just moved them to the other side of the car. And as for how it feels and what's it like, for me, it was very simple. The thing to remember is, it's just like, imagine if you're in the passenger seat of a car and someone else is driving and you're shifting for them. And they're like, okay, shift into first. That's all it is. It's just you have clutch control as well.
Right.
It took me about 20 minutes or so to fully adjust to being on the other side of the car. And honestly, I kind of prefer it. Like, not just because, it's kind of cool to be on the other side of the car. Just, I feel more natural driving on that side of the car, but I'm left-handed.
Oh, there you go.
That's
So am I.
I know right-handed people that have driven these cars, and they say it takes about an hour or so to get you to just drive around the parking lot for a bit, and you're good. But everyone I talk to that drives them says it just feels a bit more, for some reason, something about being on the other side of the car and driving that way feels right. I think for right-handed people, it's because you're steering with your right hand. That's your dominant hand.
Right.
And for left-handed people, when you're shifting, it feels, you're used to it not feeling right. So now that feels right. Something just feels better doing that until you hit your first left blind. Like when you have to turn left at an intersection, you can't see oncoming traffic. If someone's in front of you, turning left as well. So you just get real used to people being pissed off behind you.
Just waiting because you can't see.
Yeah,
right?
as I can't see anything. I've had people honk
So you just
at
have
me.
to wait.
Funniest thing is when you have like the older people like behind you and they honk. So then I'll turn whenever I can, and they'll usually try to get past me. They'll give me that dirty eye, but they'll look over and there's no driver. So they're super confused, and then they see me on the passenger side, and I just kind of wave at them because I know what's going through their head. And then they can't be. They'll wave back like, "Hi, what's going on?" And they'll just drive off, and I'm like, "Yeah, you have no idea what's going on."
See, that's exactly the difficulty I can imagine with a blind left turn, where it's just like, dude, I'm not taking any risks.
Yep.
Because if like a car could be coming like 100 miles an hour,
Mhm.
you won't see it. And on top, once you start turning and you get hit, you're gonna be the one getting hit because
Exactly.
that's the
Yeah.
side.
Because you're on the damaging side.
Yeah, so it's
And
like, nah, man.
is even out here in LA where we have a lot of expensive cars and expensive stuff around, if you get hit, you've probably got a 95% chance that whatever hit you is worth less than your car if you have a right-hand drive car.
I know.
Just from the
There you
difficulty
go.
of getting the car and taking out the emotional connection to the car. Just looking at like, if you wanted to import an R32 right now, just a baseline one, you're spending 30 to 40 grand. More than likely the car that hits you is going to be like a Civic that was like 20 grand at most.
I
So it's
know.
like, oh crap, that sucks. So honestly, what I end up doing most of the time is I know the areas I drive a lot, and it's an area where even doing a left-hand turn because of the curve of the road, I can see oncoming traffic,
Mhm.
or I just take 3 rights to make a left like UPS does. And it's like if I go up here and turn, I can do that.
Gotcha.
Safer.
You kind of learn the route, but every now and then you find yourself like, oh, I like driving out here. I'd never been to this location before, so I was like, if I have to make a left at an area where I can't see, well, people are just gonna have to wait. I'm not risking my car for their speed. Screw that.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's also like a huge safety issue, obviously, and it's just like, dude, 3 rights. I didn't realize UPS does that.
Yeah, it's for them. It's fuel efficiency.
Oh, okay.
They can. I don't remember exactly how, because like obviously they spend millions of dollars on this research, but they have GPSs that are set up to prefer 3 rights instead of a left. where it can. And it's because I think it has to do with the fact that at a right, obviously you can turn right on red.
Yeah.
So it's a shorter distance and they can just keep going and get to where they're going faster than waiting. Because it's a big truck, you can't just turn right like you can here with a car. So they have to wait till it's clear and they have to kind of work their way through. And it's like, it's just easier to go make a loop. So their GPS systems, I know UPS does, I think FedEx and even USPS probably use the same system, actually routes them as quick as possible through as many like triple rights versus making a left. And it just makes their fuel economy. Like it's probably like it saves them like $10 in fuel or something, but over,
how many
400,000 trucks and stuff, it ends up being millions of dollars saved. And it's like, well, I'm just going to follow that same pattern, but I can't download their GPS, unfortunately. If you can, I haven't found it.
And it's not an option to add on to the whatever map.
Yeah, Google Maps doesn't give you the option to drive like a UPS truck.
Dude, I didn't realize that. I'm going to start making more right turns now. I didn't even know it was like that, but that's cool. That's actually a really good way to look at it and just to be safe, especially with a right-hand drive car.
Yep. Other thing is you also learn where lights are because you're near the light, even if it's a blind left, the light's going to change at some point. You get to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, making like a stop sign where people aren't paying attention, that can be a pain. Or if it's just an intersection that's like not marked because it's like a main road and two side roads.
Yeah.
It can be a pain as well there because you just kind of have to watch and wait. And you don't know what's going on. It's like, you figure out the areas you're at and then you just wait until you're comfortable. Don't get impatient. That's the key thing. But it's just like with any car. You don't ever get impatient or that's when you have a wreck.
That's so true. And I know people who got into wrecks with left turns and they also assume that people stop at a red.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude. But the one thing that I harp on the most when people make left turns is like, dude, you don't know what that guy sees, so you really shouldn't be honking at them.
Yep.
Like if you're the guy making the left or if you're the one waiting behind somebody who's making a left and like you can't assume that you see the same thing this guy sees.
Yeah.
And sometimes you could honk people into an accident.
Yeah.
And the sad part is they won't get any they won't see any retribution for that, or they won't see any consequences for that. Rather, so these people that honk is just like, man, cut it out.
It's also you don't know what's going on with their car. It's entirely possible their car won't take off correctly, and they know that, so they're like, I need more space to go. Various different things. You don't know what's going on. So whenever that happens, now if the light turns green, no one's coming, and we're just sitting there, I'll honk at you. But when it's like, I'm not 100% sure or something's going on. And I can't get around you. Like if I can just go around your ass, I'll just do that. It's like, all right, you're doing something. I'm just gonna go on my way. You have fun.
Yeah, right.
Of course, if you honk at me, well, then I'm gonna become the worst driver in the world. And it's gonna take me a lot longer to take that turn. I'm like, you just honked at me and the light's like green. I'm waiting until the light turns red now, and then I'll just ease through whenever the light's yellow, just about to go, to make you have to wait. Honk at me.
I know LA traffic. LA drivers are just really their own here. Where do you're not actually an LA native, right? You came out here for work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How long ago did you come out here for work?
I moved out here in 2017.
Oh, damn. Right when you got the car.
Yeah. Well, I was actually about to buy the car when I lived in Utah. And then the studio I worked at there shut down, so I had to move out here.
Oh.
And I was like, cool, well, I'm going to buy the car when I get out here. I moved out here in April of 2017. And I was like, cool, I'm going to buy the car. Oh, well, now I found out that it was like a $10,000 minimum fee to get it registered in California. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait until I save up the 10 grand because I don't want to just buy a car and have it sitting around, right?
Yeah.
And I came out, I think it was April 3rd. May 3rd, I was watching prices. The average price of a Skyline had gone up $5,000. So I went, nope, buying it now. Reached out to a shop up in Washington to help me source the one I ended up buying.
Yeah.
Bought it. And I took possession of it Thanksgiving weekend in 2017.
Wow.
And then it took me 7 or 8 months to get the car actually registered because I just had to go through all the hoops of getting it carb certified and everything. But it was cheaper to do that. I remember by the time I got it carb certified, the prices had gone up another like 10 grand on the car. So it still saved me $10,000 to buy it when I did and just sit it in a garage while I worked on it.
They're appreciating, man.
Yeah.
They're super appreciating.
Oh yeah.
I was sourcing some 8.6 parts are maybe not as hard, but they're pretty fucking hard. I'm looking right now for a mirror on the other side, and I can only get them from Japan.
Yep.
And it fucking sucks.
Oh,
yeah. It really sucks.
So what's
dude.
the markup on that? And that's
so
quite a
it's
bit.
like, dude, I'm see if I can fit MR2 mirrors on the side of an A86, like an AW11, which is like first gen MR2.
Maybe
It might be close,
be a
but
little
right now
rounder.
I have no mirror,
Uh-huh.
so I'm willing to make it work either
Yeah.
way.
For safe, if nothing
not
else,
pay
yeah.
like I paid like for a passenger mirror only like $85 as compared to like JDM like kooky AE86 mirrors, which would cost me $400.
Jeez.
sounds about right.
And I'd have to wait like the weeks,
Yep.
3-4 weeks to get them. So it just fucking sucks.
I mean,
But
to be fair, you have an 8.6, which
I
outside of
know.
like a Skyline, I can't think of another car that has such a markup on its parts. And it's
learning this the
brutal.
hard way.
Yeah. And you'll hear a lot of times people will talk about the GTR tax. Like, oh, this part's for a GTR, so automatically add like 30% to the cost. The 8.6 has the same tax, the 8.6 tax.
tofu tax.
Yeah, the tofu
the
tax.
tofu tax. Like this car shouldn't even be really worth like the like some go for 30
Yeah,
grand.
yeah,
man.
no, they're insanely expensive.
And it's just like why?
yeah, because of Initial D.
Yeah, because of Initial
uh,
D and because of Tsuchiya.
Thank you. Yeah,
Keisuke
has names,
Tsuchiya,
yeah.
like who's the drift
I mean,
king.
they're great cars, but
I think so.
the costs that's on them is insane.
It's
And
just the markup's just
it's
too
funny
much.
you mentioned the window because or the side window, because my door window on the passenger side won't go down right now. The motor and regulator are burnt out. So I'm like, oh, and people always ask, is it expensive getting parts for that car? And I'm like, it's not too terrible. Usually, you get an aftermarket part that's a performance part if you can't find the original. A lot of people have done stuff on these motors, so there's parts out there. If you need a stock part, it's a bit more complicated. And then I started looking for a window regulator and motor and found out, oh, this gets stupid. Because first off, I could not find one. Everyone was like, they never go out. And I go, well, I assure you they do, because mine did. It happens. Like, oh, we don't have the part. Like, I thought I was going to have to buy an entire door to get the part I
God.
needed, which was going to be thousands of dollars. And finally, I found a beat up one for sale in New Zealand for like $400.
Jeez.
And I was like,
Shit.
oh my God. But thankfully, I didn't buy that one. I ended up reaching out to a couple of shops or a couple of like parts vendors here in the US. And one of them's like, well, we know some people in Japan. We can probably find you
Oh,
one.
dude.
And they reached out, they came back and go, well, we got good news and bad news. I'm like, okay. Good news is we get the part. I'm like, it's great news. And like, bad news will be, what is it, $3,000 or something, And he goes, bad news, we can't buy just the side. We can only get it as a set, passenger and driver side. I'm like, oh, I don't need both. How much is that going to run? They're like, it's about $500 plus whatever for shipping. And I'm like, okay, well, I can just sell the other one for like half of that, if not more.
Not more. Exactly.
Do it, buy it. And they're like, you sure? I'm like, yes.
Because somebody out there is probably in your
Looking for
similar
the-
situation,
Yep.
like, dude, my window won't go down. It's
Yep.
just I need this motor. It's like, hey, you know what? I got one.
And
You know?
normally it'd be like, okay, well, I just want with the window down, which is effective what I've been doing. But we're in California. It's 100 degrees today, and I don't have AC. So
Oh,
I
God.
kind of need the windows if I'm going to drive this car. So I'm super excited I'm actually more excited to get that than to deal with the wheel sensor that right now is causing my all-wheel drive system to occasionally just turn off. Like, that sucks. But I'd much rather have the window go down right now. It's still rear-wheel drive when the all-wheel drive system stops. Like, all right,
Oh, thank God.
I got a rear-wheel drive car at least, and if I turn the car off and back on, the all-wheel drive system fixes itself. It's just a sensor issue I need to fix.
Interesting.
Right.
But the window, oh my God, I need that window down. it's been since January it hasn't worked, and I've been like, oh my God, I need this so much. So
Luckily,
hopefully it'll show up soon.
up until today, we've been able to stretch the weather a little bit. And
Yeah.
It's been kind of like, okay, like at least if I roll one window down, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But today it's like, dude, we either need both windows or the AC.
And we're getting
It's
there.
like an astronomical amount. And it's like super hot.
Yeah, dude. I was wondering, like, I was gonna bring the Skyline here, but I stepped outside walking my dog. Nah, son, triple digits, it's staying in the
No
garage.
thanks.
Oh, I know, and that makes it even harder to work on too because it's hot, and it's not like I have an air conditioned garage. So it's even if you're in the shade, it's still really hot, and it's like, oh my God. So I'd rather be
It's
inside.
gonna stay in the garage until this weather decides to, sort itself out, because this ain't happening.
Oh man.
And it's like I'd rather be inside, like playing video games.
Yeah, exactly. I go outside,
which
play
is-
some Gran Turismo or something.
Yeah, I know, right? Do you have the new Gran Turismo on PlayStation 5?
GT7. Yep, we got it on
Yeah.
the PS5. Yeah.
That's so
Oh,
cool.
man.
I just
Oh,
saw
love
some
it.
clips that my friends were playing on. I was like, dang, this looks amazing.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I feel bad I haven't played it much lately. I was playing through Lego Star Wars.
Oh yeah, but, dude, Lego Star Wars is fun.
It's fun until you do what I do. I try 100% of it.
I thought I saw you posted something about the platinum trophy. I'm like, dude, platinum trophies are nuts.
Yeah,
that's 100% completion.
Yeah,
right?
It took me 71 hours, and I'll say this: if you want to play the new Lego Star Wars game, is great. Love it.
I agree.
Do not 100% it. Play through the story. Do maybe an hour of fun stuff on the side. Don't go past that.
You really went at it.
As soon as you start doing all the 100%, it gets extremely repetitive. You start to see a lot of design flaws, a lot of bugs. I'm like, this was a mistake on both their part and mine. I think at this point we were hand in hand making a mistake going through this. So I just finished it up and immediately put GT7 in. I'm like, all right, this weekend I'm going to work on the car, play some GT7, and then the son has decided to say, just stay in.
Just stay in.
Yeah.
Do this podcast.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for coming, man.
Exactly.
It's quite hot in here, man.
Yeah, it's hot, but really, like, at least we have, like, this guy made a great investment in this AC unit, so it's a little colder than it normally is.
Hey,
because otherwise it'd be like really hot.
This is way better than being on asphalt under a car.
Oh yeah,
which is not an AC car.
Which is where I would end up being. I'd be ripping an exhaust system off and breaking some locked lug nuts because I got to do that too.
Dang.
I managed to somehow lose the key to my locking lug nuts.
What's this right here? Is this Lego Star Wars?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Or, yeah, that's the new one. It's a lot of fun, dude, man. I really enjoyed it.
Put this on the screen, Mike.
Man, it
PIPS.
It was after a while it just got a little dull. Really the thing that killed me on that was the collectible. They have these little Kyber bricks that are really cool. And they put like 1,100 of them in the game.
Oh my god! And you have then part of it's
after about 300. You notice that there's only like 5 or 6 challenges that they put in your way to get a brick, and when you're doing that hundreds of times, it gets real repetitive. But the game's fun. It's well written. It's very full of the charm that you get with a Lego game. So it's an amazing game. Cool. It's just after about 20 hours, you're pretty much done. And I went 3 times that. So,
dude, getting 100%. I've only known like my cousin, who's he my friend Gino. He got his only platinum trophy on PlayStation on Assassin's Creed 2, which was a tough nuts. That was a tough one, and I'm like, dude, you fucking 100%ed this. You are nuts. I love that game, but oh my god, going 100% on it, like, oh my god, that's tough. That's like tough. That's tough with any game, but oh my god, like.
I just needed to stop spending. I collect gaming, so I keep buying games and crap. I was like, I need to stop spending so much on these games. I'm gonna start actually trying to 100% these, and it kind of became a thing. So I've got like 28 or 30 platinum trophies now, and just riding through. Woo. The worst one I've done was I don't know if it'd be. I won't say worst one. The longest one was either Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh, wow.
Because that took me like 120 hours. I did Final Fantasy VII Remake. That took me like 100 or so hours, but I also was just goofing around a lot, so I could have done that quicker.
Tell me about those graphics real quick, Mike, on the remake.
I love it.
Yeah.
I got the platinum in the PS4, and then it came out on PS5, and I bought it again, platinumed it again. I love me some Final Fantasy, and it looks amazing, especially on the PS5. Oh my god!
Wow.
So then a couple other ones. Death Stranding, I platinumed. The new Demon Souls, I went through and platinumed that. That was that one that hard compared to the original Demon Souls. The new one, not hard at all.
Nice.
It took me, I think, 40, 50 hours to fully platinum the game.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
compared to your other stints.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then of course, like, a lot of the racing games I try to platinum where I can, but I wanted to try to platinum Gran Turismo 7, but man, that's turns out I'm not very good at the online portion of that game. And I think there's a trophy. I want to say 7 has it. I know Sport had it. That's like, win 10 races online. I'm like, I've never won a race online. I'm terrible at this game. I've come in second, but I always screw up somehow. Turns out I'm just not that good virtually. I use too much of the feel of the car when I'm driving. So when I'm in like the virtual, it's like I go into corners way too quick. I'm just not good at adjusting.
Yeah, right. There's no lateral G.
Yeah, it's like I can't use the car's feel to know when it's breaking loose.
And maybe it's on the developer end. Come on, let's get the feedback right.
Yeah, well,
I know they do that with steering wheels.
Yeah, I could always drop like 20 grand and get one of those 4G systems
that like turn you and
shit. You could do all that. I'm sure my downstairs neighbors would love me for that.
That noise?
Yeah, seriously, you hear the whole thing fire up and stuff, but I just love the game. It's fun. The new one, you can actually do some better drifting in. Sport, you could drift, but it wasn't very good at it. The new one's a lot better at it.
Oh, dang.
I'm loving the new Gran Turismo.
Yeah, I'm hearing and seeing a lot of really great things coming out of this Gran Turismo, and it's just like, dude, that's so great for car culture to have like a game like this. It's such a staple, you know.
Yeah. One thing that a lot of people previously there was a bit of a issue online. People were complaining about how they were like, oh, it's got some predatory microtransactions and stuff, and I don't really 100% agree with it. But they were a little extreme on the lack of rewards in game, because people were wanting to be able to, I want every car in the game and I want it in like a week kind of deal. I was like, that's not what Gran Turismo is about.
Right.
But it was like some of the cars would literally take you months to earn in game, and that was a bit extreme on another end. So they've been balancing that out a bit more, and it's become a lot better.
Aren't Formula One simulators like this?
Look at these.
Like, these ones are nuts. Put this on screen.
You can go nuts with these things. I have like a real simple chassis and wheel.
Holy crap. Oh my God. Oh my God, dude.
Yep.
Dude.
If you ever get a chance,
right there.
you got to look up the, I think it's BMW that has like this racing sim at their factory. They obviously use it for testing and stuff, but it's like this giant movie curved screen, and they have the full car sitting on a motion platform that they drive. It's insane.
God.
It's like a $5 million simulator or something. It is amazing. Like, I think Jimmy Broadbent got to go do a YouTube video there a few years back. It's intense. I was like, God, that is. And it's funny too. It's not meant for graphics. It's meant for testing.
Yeah.
So you look at it, it's like PS2, PS3 era looking graphics, but the thing works, man. It goes. It's all about the physics and the behavior of the car, not the graphical fidelity.
Sure. So it's really getting like.
It's this weird like juxtaposition of like extremely advanced technology, PlayStation 2 graphics.
I think it's more about the textile feel of the experience.
Yeah, I want to test like different handling characteristics on the car before they build the car.
I know that Formula One does that. Like, they have those like ones where they suspend you in air and shit to simulate the G's.
I still think my favorite one that I've ever seen in person, I think it was a few years ago at the LA Auto Show, and I know they took this to a lot of shows, but Dodge brought out a simulator. They had like the Demon, and I probably Hellcat. I forget what the other car was. The Demon was what they were showing off, but there was a drag racing simulator, but you were actually in the car. But they had it mounted on hydraulics, so when you were at the line, the tree would turn green. You punch it, and the whole car would lift up, and like full wheel as you went down, and then it would just drop, and you'd be in like the show booth, and you would just hear boom, boom, and you're like, "What's going on?" You'd see these cars dropping down. You're like, "What in the world?" That was one of the coolest things.
Damn.
Go ahead.
That's so cool. No, I thought I saw like some at like a couple auto shows ago, like Volkswagen was doing that with Golfs. It was like essentially like a Mario Kart inside of an actual Golf.
That's about all you do with Golf.
You know, pretty much. But yeah, I didn't even know that Dodge did that. That's awesome.
I lie. That was not the best. The best was I went to Japan a few years back with some friends of mine.
Here we go.
Toyota has I don't know what you would call this. It was almost like a little expo of Toyota, but it was always there. It was like just this, almost like you can almost say it was a museum, because they had like examples of a bunch of different Toyotas and stuff, but they always were changing them out. But you could go see like new technology Toyota was working on. It was just being shown to the public. And they had a simulator there where you were driving it's like a Prius, but it was designed to show off the safety features of Prius. So you'd be driving on this this like circuit, and there would be someone running across the street, and the auto, like the collision avoidance system would engage, and you'd brake.
Whoa.
And all this, and you like seatbelt, and it would like strap you in and stuff. It was a really cool technical device, but there was two of them side by side, and they let people on in pairs. So me and my friend got on. And of course, they're talking to us in Japanese, and they knew immediately. Like, we don't even speak Japanese, but we looked at them and we're like, "Yeah, we're gonna be racing." And they instead of doing their whole spiel about all the stuff that goes on, they're like, "Here's how you control your car. Okay, go." And it was the most fun, because this thing's like rocking and stuff, and you round a corner and you're like right on the apex, but because you're on the apex, there's people on the side of the road, and the car's like, "No, you don't want to do this." So it's like autocorrect and like slamming on the brakes. You get all this weird behavior. You're slamming on the brakes, and the car just doesn't stop because its ABS system's kicking in, and
you felt it in the pedal. Probably.
Yeah, you don't know because you're thinking, "Oh, I've been going. I got to be going fast." You look down, you're going like 30. It's like you're just not moving. That's funny. We did terrible, but it was the most fun I'd ever had in a simulator. Of course, we get done. Everybody's like, "What the fuck were they doing?" And we're like,
"Why did you kill those people?"
Exactly. Yeah. Like, we're like aiming at people and stuff. And they're like, Americans.
I know.
Sorry.
My friend.
To be fair, the next people were Japanese and they did the same thing. So you knew
maybe
this was
because
a
you guys did it.
Could be. We
you
may
broke
have
through that
threshold.
Trendsetters.
Yeah, right. You probably broke through that threshold. We're like, oh, I didn't know we could do this.
It's like, wait, you can have fun on a simulator? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so inherently Japanese though. So like I have a friend who's actually moving back here. He was from the valley, but he moved out to Japan for a few years. Nice. And he says like people in Japan just love to follow the rules, or it's just like inherent for them.
Yeah.
Like it's in the middle, like 2:00 in the morning, and if the speed limit is like 40 kilometers an hour, they're going at that.
Yep.
Like, and there's nobody on the road. There's no police either. And they're just
to
going
be fair, the justice system there is pretty extreme, so I probably wouldn't be screwing around too much either.
Oh, here it's worse for foreigners.
Yeah, well, you might get off here. Over there, it's like what, a 99% conviction rate. If you do something, you're going to going to get fined or go to jail. One of the two.
I know.
But honestly, yeah, the Japanese culture is just so amazing. Like they're super friendly.
Yes.
The best example I can give of how just nice it is there is when we were there. We were staying at an Airbnb about a block maybe away from a Lawson's convenience store. Okay. And we went in there late at night. This is like 1 a.m., which is late at night for us because we're old. And we get in there and, I put my wallet on the counter, start counting out the yen for whatever I was buying, pay, and left my wallet on the counter. And it's like the night before we're flying back to the U.S. And we go back to our Airbnb and we're there for like 3 hours just hanging out, goofing off, and for some reason I went to check my wallet and it was missing. Of course I start freaking out. It's like, oh crap, what am I going to do? Thankfully I had my passport, and I was like, I tore the entire unit apart, could not find it. I'm like, I must have left it at the convenience store. So I'm like, I leave and I start running up there because it's 24-hour place. I run up there thinking it's going to be gone. It's no way it's going to get. I had I think I had $1,000 worth of yen in my wallet, so like it had money in it. All this is going on. And I walk in, and I don't even get through the count, like the door. And like the workers look up and they go, hey, and they get all excited to see me and they reach over and pull my wallet out. And I'm like, oh, A, you remembered who I was, and B, you got my wallet. And they're like, go show me, here's your cards, here's your money, everything's here. And they're, are you good? Everything. They're trying to make sure things are. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Like, okay, cool. Well, glad we kept your wallet. And I'm like, I'm glad you did too. And I'm like, God, if that had been the U.S., it'd have been gone.
Yeah.
Even if they were the ones that found it, it'd have been gone. We didn't get a wallet. It just vanished.
So true.
But they would meet. For all I know, someone else saw it and went, hey, someone left this here. Because that's just the culture there.
Culture in
like,
Japan.
I don't know if the employees found it, but the employees got it. It could have come from a customer, employee could have found it. And like I said, it was hours. I mean, it could have been a site. I don't remember who was working. They knew who I was, so clearly it was them, or at least one of them was. But super friendly, very good. I was like, oh, this place is so amazing. I'd go there in a heartbeat if I could.
Yeah, they're opening up next month.
Yeah. Oh, I want to go back and just visit.
I definitely will go back. Not only because like I want to see more stuff and initial D stuff, and I want to see these like car meets that they have next to this freeway. This highway rather. Mm-hmm. But anyway, besides the point, like very true with your story. I didn't experience that firsthand, but I have heard many stories and accounts of people who have. My friend who's been living there for years, he's like, yeah, people leave their laptops or wallets sitting on counters, and they go to the bathroom or wash their hands or do whatever, interact with other people, and it's still there. Yeah, that's like nothing happens to it. It's like, dude, you can't do that here in the States. Your shit is gone. I actually also got to go to a Japanese music festival, which is drastically different compared to here. Like here, like to me, the bottom of the barrel with music. With music festivals is Coachella because it's balls hot. It's dusty fucking everywhere because it's the desert, and people who've never needed a breathing treatment ever in their life all of a sudden are just like inhaling albuterol like crazy. And people are high on drugs and tripping balls and like getting naked or doing whatever the fuck, I mean, it was an experience and it was fun when I went at least, but also I realized like, dude, it's kind of scary out there if people can take advantage of you and all this stuff. On the contrast, on the other side of the world, in Japan, you're not even allowed to whip out your phone and record because it's against like the rules to whip out your phone and do that to people in general. You're not supposed to do that, especially on a train. People, you'll get eyes looking at you and they'll call the police. You're not supposed to whip out your phone and do this and like take selfies. None of that, bro. You cannot do that in Japan. The police will be on you like fast, and because you're a foreigner, you'll probably get arrested just for taking photos.
Unless you're in Akihabara. There.
Oh yeah, no,
that's
like, because it's like very in Akihabara. It's like it's all anime. Obviously,
like,
you got to take pictures. Like
go for it. But anywhere else, like you're on a train. Nah,
if you're on a train, no man, forget about it. And so, you're not supposed to whip out and do all this kind of stuff. So, but in that concert, you're not supposed to whip out your phone because they don't want people getting these janky videos of like these artists and stuff. They only want the official people to do it, right? So, the people that I was with, one of them, was moshing around, and it's totally a different experience when you don't focus on capturing the band on your phone or the artist, because now you're just listening to the music and you're into it, which is like probably how it was back in the day when all we would do is whip out stuff like this, like lighters, and just like do this, like we didn't have like freaking phones to be obsessed with capturing like shitty audio and video, even if it is for whatever reason, like, and it was just like, dude, we were all into the music and we were all moshing, and my friend got into the mosh. And they help each other up. It's like a Canadian mosh pit. Like everybody's nice to each other after pushing each other around. And dude, she lost her phone. And I was like, dude, like, what the hell are we gonna do? And she's like, nah, don't worry. It's probably at the lost and found. She almost guaranteed it.
Wow.
And then when she went to the lost and found, she found her phone. Somebody picked it up and turned it in.
Amazing.
I'm like, dude, if that was in any music festival here in the States, that phone is gone.
Absolutely.
It's like, hacked or whatever, and it's somebody else's now.
Oh yeah.
But like she found the phone, and that to me was like an insanely nuts story. I kept telling her over and over again, like, if that was in the States, your phone is gone, or at least like hacked or trampled and thrown in the trash. Like you won't find it at lost and found. Like that's a very, very low percentage in my opinion. But like, oh my God, that's a testament to just how the culture in Japan is just so different.
Well, in Japan, it's all about the community first, the group first. That's why. I remember the one thing my friend told me, because he's huge in like the Japanese culture, and like I like Japanese culture, but he know his goal is to live there, so he'd done research a lot. Nice. And one of the things I remember him telling me that I was like, really, that's weird, was that you always see like Japan's huge on vending machines. So they're all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, whatever, we'll grab a drink or whatnot. But culturally, you're not supposed to eat and drink while walking because you're not paying attention to where you're going, and you could bump into someone, you could. You may throw something away where there's not a trash can. It's just considered rude. So when you see people out getting stuff from a vending machine, you'll see them get the drink. And if you watch anime, you see this happen a lot. They'll grab the drink, they'll step aside, drink it, usually talk or whatever, throw it away and keep walking.
Yeah.
Or they'll seal it, put it in a bag so you don't see it, and walk. You don't walk and drink and eat with at the same time.
Don't multitask.
Right.
Now, when we were there, you would see it a little bit. It's like you could tell the culture's loosened a bit on that, but it's still like people that were doing it would like step over, take a drink, seal it, and then like kind of almost hide it and walk. So they weren't like completely hiding it, and they weren't just not drinking it while they were out, but they would try to not be a jerk about it. And that was a big thing. Of course, we were like, well, we don't want to be the jerk American assholes, so we're going to do exactly what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
But it was just weird to see like everything that was done, you could tell was done in a way it was like, how do we not inconvenience everybody? Whereas over here, it's like, how can I inconvenience everybody?
How can I get mine, even if it costs like everybody else's inconvenience? That's kind of like the contrast between American culture and at least Japanese culture. Can't speak for every Asian, but definitely like for Japanese culture, it's like, collective mentality, hive mind, if you will. Yeah. And it's just like, how do we perfect society, or how do we get it so that everybody benefits? And versus here, where it's like, how do I get this so that I benefit at the cost of other people, right? That's like huge in American culture. It's like, where's mine? When can I get mine? How can I get mine? Versus like there, it's just more like, oh, how do I make it so that everybody benefits from whatever actions that I take?
In Japan, life is a team game, where over here it's a zero sum. It's you or everyone. It's a PvP over here.
Yeah, PvP.
It's PvP in the US.
PvP.
The US is the PvP server of the world, and Japan is the PvE server.
Oh, that's so true. Because it's like, okay, let's take construction, for example. I don't know if you saw like years back, there was like a huge sinkhole in Tokyo.
Yep.
A huge, like giant sinkhole, and
they fixed it like a day.
In a week. Like a week, I mean a day, damn. But a week's time. Quick. Could you imagine if that happened here in LA? it would take months.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, we need to take my union break, and some people who work.
We'd
for
have people bidding, and okay, who's going to be the one to actually?
Yeah,
do the
so
work,
that's the other
instead of
thing.
Getting it done, like who can do it, and who's paid their politician enough to be given the contract.
That
and
too.
all that would go on. Whereas over there, they're like, hey, we got a job to do. Let's do it.
That's because the government actually does things.
Yep.
Versus here, I feel like the government just lets the bureaucracy take over.
Yeah.
Because here it's like the government will decide, okay, well we'll get you guys because maybe we get a cut out of what you get in that. The longer you take, because that means we'll get money too. So there's mutual interest for the government to pick somebody who's going to take a little bit longer and maybe do a slightly jankier job, because it's like, you know what, that means it'll break again, and therefore we can make more money when you guys come back.
And then we can complain about it taking so long because of the other side of the aisle, and then blame them for it. And all this.
Dude, it's like, dude, that's what sucks about like culture here is that's why I hate politics here, because it's like, dude, like y'all arguing over something that's just never gonna get done. Like this guy Rick Caruso, right? We're voting for a new mayor here in LA, and I don't want to talk too much crap, but really he's talking about like addressing the homeless as a state of emergency or blah 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 whatever. Well, it's like, you know what, you're just like I'm pretty sure you're gonna be just like any other politician, where it's just like, well, I'm pretty sure you're going to try to build housing for the homeless, which means you probably know someone who knows someone who knows someone, however long the chain is, has their hand in construction. And of course you're going to make it look like you're building housing for the homeless, when you realize homeless people don't even really want to be housed, and you're building houses for almost nothing. But you see it as it buffs your image, and it also fills your pocket a little bit.
To be fair with how our politicians are, no matter what they say they'll do, they ain't gonna do anything.
That's very true.
Everything gonna build crap. I mean, look how much it costs to build a house in LA. Like, I want to build a house for the home. Like, you can't even build a house for, like, I can afford a house and I can't buy a house because I can't afford our houses.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been looking for a home. Like, my requirements, like, I want a one bedroom, something small, has to have a garage. That's all I need. Okay. Any other place I've lived, that's like a minute or $200,000-$300,000 at best. Out here, the minimum is like, that's like $700,000.
I know.
I'm like, well, okay, but it's good, right? I'm like, oh no, you'll need to like renovate because it's it's like, what? When I worked in Santa Monica for a while. This is when I first realized how expensive housing was in LA. I knew it was expensive before, but I first moved here, and the studio I worked at was actually part of a neighborhood, like a housing neighborhood. So it was weird. Like, you'd walk two doors down from our place, it was homes. So we would walk through there to go to like get break or get lunch and stuff. And there was this house right on the corner. Now, to be fair, this house was right on the corner across from the metro station. So I was like, okay, it's probably gonna be a little expensive because of that. But I'd seen pictures inside. The floors were missing. Like, it was dirt on the inside. God. And it was listed as a condemned property. Like, it was not like this people were living there. It was for sale. But they signed over, the property's condemned, blah, blah, blah. For sale for land is what it would say. And I'm thinking, okay, it's LA. It's an expensive thing. So this is probably still gonna be like $600,000 just for this slot, right? I looked them up. Place was for sale for $1.6 million.
Oh my!
I knew it was going to cross that threshold.
And I looked that up because it went for sale. And I'm like, oh dang! And I'm like, they'll never sell it for that. It was sold in 2 days. I'm like, are you serious? And then I looked up the history of that house. I'm like, how much did that house sell for before? And apparently, like, not even 10, 12 years ago, that house, livable, sold for $250,000.
Wow.
So $250,000 to 2 point whatever million. It's like, are you serious?
Dang.
Or not 2 point, 1 point whatever million. It's that's nuts.
That's an astronomical increase.
And I'm talking, it was like 800 square foot house.
Wow.
A garage and a bit of yard. That's it. But it was across from the metro station. So, and in Santa Monica.
In Santa Monica, exactly.
I'm like, this is even rentals. Like, I was looking at apartments when I was moving out here, and I thought, well, I'm going to work in Santa Monica. I'll rent in Santa Monica. Nope. Because I require, first of all, I needed my own garage. Well, I couldn't even find that in Santa Monica. But also, I have a husky. So I'm like, well, I need a place. Let me have my husky. And everybody's like, no, we only want little handbag dogs. So I found a place that was like, yeah, we'll let a husky. And I'm not looking at prices. I made that mistake. I'm like, oh, here's a place that'll have it. How much is that for rent for a 1 bedroom, no garage? Let me have my husky. It's like 400 square feet, right? They're like, oh, it's like $5,900 a month. I'm like,
oh my God.
Geez. I'm like, that's more than I'll make in a month. Are you serious? No. That's why I live in Woodland Hills and I worked in Santa Monica. I was driving an hour plus every day because I could at least afford it. And even this is expensive, but at least I can afford it and have a garage. So I'll take that.
Yeah, man, definitely. Like, especially for a renter, the garage is like a must.
Well,
oh my
especially
God.
if you're gonna have a Skyline.
Yeah, right.
Keep
you
that
gotta
outside.
keep
I'm
that
not,
garage.
I'm not parking that in a public parking garage. No.
No way. We'll get dinged at least.
Yeah.
I'm looking at other places, and there's a place out in Simi Valley. They were like, "Hey,
Simi
we have
Valley's-
garages." I'm like, "Oh, can I rent?" I go, "Yeah, but you have to put a car in it. We don't allow storage in it." And I'm like, first off, why do you care what I put in my garage? But second off, yeah, I'm gonna be putting my car in it. Don't worry about that. Do you have multiple parking spots? Because I'm gonna have like 4 cars. And they were like, you'll have to pay extra.
Wait,
like,
that's
well,
what
of
the
course.
HSA said?
No, this was for an apartment complex.
Oh.
So it was just
okay.
their rules for renting there. It
gotcha,
was all like,
gotcha,
you get one garage spot, and then you can park on the street or park in our public area. I'm like,
okay.
can I have 4 cars? And they were like, as if they were shocked I own 4 cars, which to be fair is extreme. But I'm thinking it's a 2-bedroom apartment I'm looking at. So at least 2 cars make sense. And then if you have a fun one, that's 3. 4, I don't think is stretching it, especially if it's a family.
Yeah, there are multiple car families out
Yeah,
in
well,
this
it's like
street alone.
a 2-bedroom is like, okay, if it's like me, my wife, which I'm not married, but if it was like me, my wife, and my kid's 16, that's potentially 3 cars.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Plus, if I have a truck or something for haul, okay, four in a 2-bedroom apartment doesn't seem that confused. And they were just like, they were almost like, you have a car? I'm like, why do you think I want a garage? And, and you have to put your car in the garage. I'm like, yeah, but what about my other cars? Other cars? That they seemed shocked. And I'm like, with as much as you're charging for rent, you should assume these people have money for other, or maybe they just assume that you're paying so much in rent you can't afford another car. I don't know. Maybe that's the mentality. I'm looking at it wrong.
Oh man, that's damn. That's nuts. But I hear like Simi Valley, I think is starting to become what the Valley used to be to LA. Because like years ago, our parents moved out here to the Valley because LA was just, it was just higher. And like, the Valley wasn't that far from LA. And so a lot of suburban families moved out here. And yet now, even here in the Valley, it's astronomically high. So now people are crossing over to Ventura County, Simi Valley, which is, pretty close. Not reasonably, not super far, not super close, but kind of like right there. Yeah. So a lot of like new families that are in this generation starting families and buying houses, they're going out there.
Absolutely.
Now. So I can totally see that. And it's just like Simi Valley is actually fairly quiet.
I like Simi Valley. Simi Valley's pretty nice. That I've been looking out there at houses and apartments. I've also been looking down south, like south of Irving and all the way down to like Oceanside and that, just to see. And the housing is still, it's nuts though, everywhere.
I know.
Everywhere south of LA is all the way down to
SoCal.
Escondido, San Diego.
San Diego. Yeah. I was blanking out. All the way down to San Diego. And I mean, San Diego is not cheap either, but it's just like, man, it's insane. Thankfully, my job now is work from home, so I've even thought, Vegas ain't that far away, and it's another state. Maybe it'll be cheaper there. But then I don't want to go to Vegas.
Oh, I know. And then Vegas gets like super, like, man, we complain about it being balls hot here.
Yeah, and then Vegas, it's like you get such, like the tourists in LA are awful. Tourists in Vegas are terrible. Because at least when they come to LA, like, oh, we're going to go look at some movie shit. Yeah, you go to Vegas, we're going to go get drunk. That's all they do. We're going to get drunk and gamble all of our money. That's all it is.
That is so true. We're going to get drunk. That's pretty much why you go to Vegas.
You go to Vegas
to get like hammered.
Get drunk and lose your money. That's what it's about. And so like, which, don't get me wrong, I respect it. That's what it's for. Right. But I don't want to be there when you're doing it. So I don't know. I don't know where I'll end up. I'm hopefully going to stay in the LA area because that's my goal. I like LA. Nice. Or it's that area. So I may go like over to the Simi Valleys, probably where I'm leaning towards.
You'd be closer to your mechanic.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, it's like, at least when my car inevitably breaks down, I'll be close to the mechanic. It won't cost a ton to tow it. Because it's not, towing is such a nightmare because a lot of tow companies don't want to touch it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because of the all-wheel drive, or they just don't know it?
That's it. They don't know it. As soon as you start telling, like, they'll be like, "What is it?" That's an all-wheel drive Nissan. I go, "Oh, what is it?" Because you say GTR, and they're already a little. Because if it's a new GTR, they're like, "That's $100,000 plus car. I don't know if I want to deal with that." Right, then you tell them, "Oh no, it's an imported Skyline from Japan that you can't really price in your system because you're not going to have it." And they're like, "No, we're not touching the thing." Jeez. I'm like, "It's just it's a four-wheel drive car. Put it on the trailer, you'll be fine." No, we can't touch that. I had to get it towed, and it took them like 2 hours to find someone to tow it. Wow. Yeah. Which is funny. That was my insurance company finding it. When first time I had to tow it, I just called a local tow company and I was like, yeah, it's Skyline. They're like, all right, I'll be there in like 5 minutes. So I was like, okay.
Wow, just easy. Do that next time.
Yeah, I was like, that was easy. And then I think it might have been distance related because the first time I had it towed, it was less than a mile from my apartment. Second time, it was like 30-minute drive. So I think it might have had something to do with it. But yeah, I was just, and that was just a battery. The battery was bad.
So it was really just a battery.
It was the weirdest like I'd ever seen a battery fail, because I've had batteries go out on cars before.
Uh-huh.
You know, you get like, you turn the car over, nothing happens. You know,
Yeah.
whatnot. This one, I drove it, started it up. I had to jump it. It was having a weird issue. All right, so I got in the car, jumped it, got on the road, and if I got like over 3,000 RPM, it just shut off until it got back under 3,000, and then it would fire back up on its. It was the lights were doing weird stuff.
Weird.
I'm like, I've never seen a car do this. So I pulled over immediately, turned it off, tried to turn it back on, and it was just dead. And I'm like, well, it's acting like it's a dead battery, but with all that other behavior, I don't know. So we went to jump it again, and we had a jump pack, and it like threw a weird spark like across the battery. We're like, whoa, that's not good. Something we just fried the ECU or some horrible.
Yeah.
So, like nothing's working on this thing, and like we hooked it up to a jump pack, turned it over, and nothing. Like we were getting nothing in the car. I'm like, the whole system just got shot. Thinking, oh great, I'm like 10 grand into rewiring this thing now. Get it towed home, which took like 3 hours to get someone. And the guy that towed it was an idiot. So he like took the wrong turn. He was following us and still managed to take a wrong turn. This dude was the worst tow truck driver I'd ever seen. But we got the car home, and then I went online to like all the used groups, because I'm like, hey, I've seen this is exactly what happened. How screwed am I? And everyone was like, yeah, just replace the battery. I'm like, it's not the battery. I've never seen a battery go out like this. You are full of it. But you know what?
And it very well was.
I'm like, you know what? I'll do that, because it's probably gonna need a new battery anyhow. So I'll do that, and then if it still doesn't work, that's one system fixed, right?
Yeah.
Went out, bought a new battery, fired right up, had trouble since. Matter of fact, problems it did have before stopped happening, because apparently the battery I had was just a bad battery, and it had like bad cells in it or something. It was a poorly built one. So this new battery I got, man, it's because before I would be driving it, the power steering would just cut out. And I was like, this sucks. So you'd be turning and suddenly you get just real heavy. But it was like, for like a second, it would go out. So the wheel would jerk real weird. Oh, man. And it was so painful. And I put this in, never had that problem. The alarm hasn't randomly gone off. It fires up the first time every time instead of having to disconnect the battery all the time. Oh man, it was like, that's the worst battery failure I have ever seen.
Wow.
So
where is the battery on an R32? Is it front?
Under the hood, yeah.
Okay.
Under the hood, right up on the, like if you're facing the engine, it's to the left-hand side, right at the front.
Okay. Yep. No, I was just curious.
I'm pretty sure the R33 is in the same spot, and the R34 might be in the trunk. I can't remember.
So they relocated the battery.
A lot of people will relocate them to the trunk.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if the 34 by default had it in the trunk.
That's a good question. Maybe it's something you can look up, Mike.
Because the drivetrain's the exact same on all three.
Yeah, pretty much. You know.
The only big differences were the changes to the HICAS system. So the all steering was electric in the R33 and the R34.
Okay.
And not bad. And the R32 was terrible.
Mike, were there any carb compliance mods you had to do or anything like that? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, the big thing was it has to have catalytic converters added into the exhaust system.
For sure. That's one.
They used cats off of a 2015 Camaro. The other big thing wasn't really had stuff had to be added. It was more stuff had to be removed. The car can't have any mods to it. So I had to get an airbox because it had pod filters.
Okay.
Which I've since learned that technically aren't illegal on the car. But to get it through carb, it really needs to be like spotless. So it's still kind of an important thing to do. I had to redo the engine harness, but that was more because it wouldn't idle correctly. There was a sensor issue.
Yeah.
And if it flutters at all during idle, it'll fail the test. Yeah. So I had to do that to get the idle working. Had to replace one of the MAFs, but we just threw another used one on there that was a bit better that helped fix the idle issue.
Cool. Was it airbox from somewhere else or?
Yeah. Well, I had to source all these parts. There were stock parts, but I sourced them from people in the U.S. that were like building up race cars.
Yeah.
So they had like all these stock parts.
The regular stuff.
Which is this weird dichotomy of a fight because it's like it's a stock part. Who wants it? So there's really no value to it, right? But at the same time, I want it, and good luck finding the part. So the demand and supply were in this weird flux. Like, they're not going to be able to sell to anyone but me, but I'm not going to be able to buy from anyone but that person, pretty much. So there was a bit of a price hike on it, but not as bad as you might think. The wiring harness sucked because they had to get custom made. I had to get a new oil pressure regulator because I had an adjustable one, and that wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
It had an HKS boost control system on it. I had to take that off and get a stock boost solenoid.
All right.
What else was there? I had to get a new ECU because it has a mines tuned ECU from Japan.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Well, it's cool, but I've heard that on US fuel, that thing can actually blow your motor up.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because it's extremely tuned to a specific set of mods, and specific fuel that you would get in Japan, and not all of that was on the car anymore. So I have a stock ECU on there now, but I still got that Mines tuned one. I'll probably sell it someday.
Nice.
And then something else.
So you're just doing 91?
Yeah, it just runs 91 right now.
Cool.
And then there was a turbo timer I had to disconnect.
Nuts.
I want to say there was something else, but I can't remember what it
big?
was. It's mostly like these little small, I would say nickel and dime things, but more like $100 to $300 things. And then once all that was done, that's when I sent it down to G&K down south, and they did the actual exhaust conversion, put in the cats, went over the whole system to make sure nothing would fail the emissions test, and then they dealt with the state, getting them to come out and run the test, because the test, which is really the killer, that's what makes everything so expensive. For the state to come do the CARB certification test is $15.
Right.
And it's a pass-fail test that stops the instant it fails. So if they open the hood and immediately see something that fails, they'll just close the hood. You're out $1,500. You don't know what else fails. You just know this one point failed. Right. And then you fix that and bring them back out. It's another $1,500. The next thing fails. So it quickly becomes expensive. Yeah. So places like G&K, they know what the state will work for. And I assume they're also friends with like a lot of the refs, so they are able to kind of work with it.
Sure.
But then you pay them, at the time I paid them $10,000, and they did all the welding, the new parts in, get everything done, and get with the state. But if it takes them 3 tries, that's $1,500, $4,500 that they're going to have to pay. But the agreement is that I only pay them the $10,000, and I'm going to have to pay the paperwork.
They'll burden that.
Yeah. So if they screw up, it costs them $1,500, not me. And then when I pick the car up, I've got all the paperwork I need to take it to the DMV, then to the sheriff's department, then back to the DMV, and then they get shipped off to Sacramento. A lot of paperwork after that. But yeah, it takes, from the point I got the car back to the point that I had the car registered, took me about a month. Just mostly because I had to get into the sheriff's department because they have to do a VIN certification. And every CHP office has like one officer certified to do that. And he's busy.
Nuts.
So I was like, hey, I need this done. And they're like, cool, yeah, he's available in a month. I'm like, okay. And I called like 6 CHP offices, and all of them were like, yeah, it's a month out. I was like, oh, screw it. There's one a block from where I live. I'll just go to that one.
Right.
Went in there, and I'm thinking, okay, let's see what this takes. Literally gave the guy the keys. He went out the car, came back 5 minutes later. Went, okay, here you go. Paperwork. Just took it to the DMV. They gave me a temp tag and sent everything off to Sacramento. And it was like 3 months later, I got my plates in the mail.
Damn. What a long process, you know?
Yeah. Not including time saving up money and doing whatever I needed. And thankfully, I didn't get hit with a lot of issues where there was just a delay waiting for like a ref to be available or something like that. Just the actual actively doing work and getting stuff done took about 3 to 4 months to get everything done. Nice. But I know some people that it's taken over a year because of just how difficult. The really big thing I can tell you is getting the ref to come out to G&K to do the work, because apparently I don't have any numbers on this. I think there's only like 15 refs in the state that can do the ref that's necessary, and they're not in LA, so you have to wait till one shows up. So who knows what their schedule is? And with COVID, you know, I've known people that's taken them a year. Like the car's done and it's just sitting there, and they're waiting for a ref to show up. I got lucky, and it took them like 10 weeks to do mine total. And they say it'll take between 8 and 12 weeks. But when I went to drop the car off, they were like, hey, you want to see you around? Because they have all kinds of cool stuff there. This place mostly does like food trucks. Like that's their big thing, is they build these food trucks. Like 80% of their warehouse is that. And they just do this on the side. But they got like some rich friends or something. Because when I went in, they showed me up front, like not even far back, just up front. They had, from one person, they had 2 LaFerraris sitting there. One US spec, like left-hand drive, one right-hand drive, like Italy spec. And he was getting them converted to be, I guess, legal in California. There was a 6-wheel Mercedes AMG G-Wagon.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
There was I forget, like a brand new Lamborghini Aventador or whatever it was at the time. And I forget, too, like some other Mercedes, a couple other, like all owned by the same dude getting work done. And I genuinely think what happened was that dude clearly had millions of dollars. And so I think his stuff got ready, and he's like, well, I'm going to grease some hands and get a ref out there now. And they were just like, hey, while you're here, look at this R32 we have. So I think I kind of rode the coattails of this rich kid to get my car done. Otherwise, it could have taken months to get that done.
That's so you got lucky.
Yeah, it was great, too. I got to see those LaFerraris up close, man. That was because they were under car covers, and I was like, oh, because I didn't know what it was. I was a Ferrari. Like, yeah, it's 2 LaFerraris. Like, oh, sweet. I'd love to see one. I just walked over and ripped the cover off. Like, here you go. And I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah. We know the guy that owns it, so he wouldn't care. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I had to look at it a little bit, and they put the cover back on, go to that. They had the They had an R34 Midnight Purple that was getting converted
Wow.
there.
Jeez.
They had a couple Supras that were being worked on. I mean, a lot of basically anytime you hear about Top Rank doing the work, all they do is send it to G&K.
That's what I was.
So when I'm there, I was able to see like 4 or 5 Top Rank cars that were getting worked on that were either for sale or had been sold and were getting converted. But man, yeah, honestly, they could make a killing just letting people come take pictures of some of the cars they have there. Just sell like a ticket to come, like $20, come in, look at these cars. I'd do it. I'd be down there every other month just checking it out.
I know, right?
Especially if they're cycling new stuff through. But yeah, it was so weird because when I pulled in, it's the building. Like I didn't know where I was going. I'm like, okay, it's an auto parts shop or an auto mechanic, right? So I'm expecting a bunch of garage bays and stuff. Yeah. And I pull in, it almost looks like a factory, and it's just nothing but box trucks and food trucks out front. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I pull in, and there's this little ramp that goes up, and off to the side, there's a little like door, and you look, and it's just truck, and then there's like some sports cars sitting over here in the corner, and I'm like, I'm going to assume that's where I need to go. And sure enough, I walked down, they're like, hey, here you go, pay half up front, half when you pick the car up. So overall, it was a fairly simple process. What I told you, like from just a complication, it's not that complicated.
Right.
It's financially a pain. And it can take some time, but it's not difficult to do. You just call them up and do it. It's just like going to a mechanic.
Set up an appointment and so on and so forth.
Stuff.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing that's like very difficult about a lot of this process is that it takes a lot of money and time, right? Because like I mean, it's not cheap. I think what you told me specifically was if you're going to buy a Skyline, like have the money to buy 2.
Yes, that's something I heard online a lot. People were like, yeah, if you're looking to buy an R32 Skyline, have enough money to buy 2 of them. And I was like, that's bull. No, you don't need that much money. And now that I've had it, yeah, no, it's good advice. Which, to be fair, it's good advice no matter what. But it's, I mean, for mine, like I said, I spent $24,000 on mine when I imported it. That was to buy it and get it into the U.S. And I spent about another $14,000 fully getting it California where I could register it. So I included buying all those parts under the hood, paying $10,000 to G&K, all that. So you think I paid $24,000 for the car, and before I could even put a plate on it, I was already $14,000 into it, just getting it legalized. But if you're in another state, take that away because you don't have to do all that.
Sure.
You'd have had to do about $3,000 of that because some of that was just to get the car running quite right. So you're $3,000 into 24. Since having it, I've probably dropped another $10,000 into it, just maintenance.
Sure.
I had to do brakes, like getting rotors and pads. That was like, I think I paid $1,000 for the set. Did it myself, but if I didn't, it'd have been like $1,500 total.
Yeah.
I had to replace the coolant lines with a new set of lines, and getting that done, which took taking the top half of the motor apart. So that was like $2,000 or so. And there was other work done while it was in there, but real quick. Anytime I take it to the shop, it's $3,000 or more to get work done on it. And I've had it for about 5 years now, and I've spent probably a good $15-20 in maintenance and upgrades and just doing stuff, but. Yeah, easily hit that value. So having enough money to buy 2, you'll use it. So it's definitely an important thing to have, or at least know you will have the money, and just be ready to do. If you're wrenching it yourself, you can save a lot of money. Because had I done all the work that I've done myself, if I paid a shop to do it, I'd probably be another $10,000 or more into the car. So,
dang. Well, it helps if you're like somewhat like wrench savvy,
Yeah, and to be fair, while there's not a lot of room under the hood, it's not. I mean, it's an 89 Nissan. Mm-hmm. The technology at the time was super advanced. Like it was real. Right. That's why it became Godzilla. It was really an advanced platform. There's a lot known about the platform now. People understand how it works. People know what it's doing. And it's not complicated by today's standards. I mean, the ECU is very basic. You don't have to do everything's like you can wrench under the engine, get a lot of work done. So it's not very difficult to deal with. And your standard maintenance is super easy outside of changing the oil, which is a pain. Like changing spark plugs. I mean, they're right there on top of it. It's easy to do. New wheels and or rotors are always easy to do on a car. It's not a complicated system. So if you're willing to be brave and just kind of look up a couple YouTube videos and do the work, go out, spend a couple $100 on some tools just to have a good socket set, obviously a hammer, pliers, a set of ramps is important, and a floor jack. You can do like 80% of the work you're probably going to need to do yourself. And then just find a good mechanic for the stuff you can't do.
Yeah, stuff like a cherry picker and all this
stuff.
Yeah,
if you need like pull the motor or something,
pull the motor out.
Or if you need like the cart up on a lift to do some crazy stuff. If you need to like swap a diff or something, that's probably something I would have a mechanic do if you weren't savvy with it. Right. But yeah, a lot of the stuff is fairly simple. The hard part is usually finding the part itself.
Yeah, for me, so I plan on the 8.6 the first couple of things that I did was obviously change all the fluids.
Yep.
probably gonna go ahead and drop. Like I hear this, like it definitely sounds like a bearing has gone out in the car, because at speed, even at just like regular speed, I can hear that like whoop, 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 like sound. Sounds like front wheel bearings, so I got them. But then I did some more research. They're saying it's now the center support bearing, which is big for Toyotas because I know a lot of Toyotas have like 2-piece drive shafts, and so I'm probably gonna have to get these parts, and that's gonna cost me another $700. But I at least be able to like drop it myself because I have like 4 jack stands and a jack. So it's just like, damn, could you imagine if I had to get this? I mean, it'd be nice to have a lift, but it's like, damn, I don't have a lift, and all this stuff. So.
There's my big dream right now is buying a set of quick jacks. The like hydraulic systems, you slide under the car, push a button, and just lift the car
yeah.
up.
I've seen those.
They're like
that's cool.
$1,500, $2,000. So I'm like, man,
it's supposed to be quick.
One so bad.
I've seen them.
Hey, they're
amazing.
quick. And right now, if I want to put the car up on ramps, I have to drive it at least partway out of the garage, which means if it's 100+ degrees outside, I'm in the sun.
Exposed. Yeah.
But if I have quick jacks, I can do it all in the shade of the garage. It'd still be hot, but I wouldn't have the sun beating down on me. And they're just so much quicker. Just done. Because jacking up, I don't know about your car, but on the R32, there's only 2 jack points.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. The front and the rear diff. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're not supposed to jack it up from the rails or anything.
Like right there in the middle.
Yeah,
but there any like pinch welds that you can't use or anything like that?
The if you jack up, you can see video online or footage online, pictures of people that have jacked up from the rail and are either slightly off or have just the car had too much wear on it and they've gone straight through the floor pans.
No.
It's if you're jacking up from the side of the car, people down online get a piece of wood and like lay under the car and then jack from the wood so that it's distributing the load, or jack from the suspension. But if you can download the service manual for the R32 that's been translated to English, and it says like straight there, it's like, here are your jack stand points, but you jack it up from the diff and then you put jack stands on each side to support the weight. Don't jack it up from the sides of the car. And that sucks because the front's so low, you can't use a pair of ramps unless you get low profile ramps, which I finally found. Nice. So it's just this like whole like, oh my, every time I jack that car up, I'm nervous that I'm doing something wrong because I'm jacking from the diffs. And it's like, you need a low profile long jack, or you need a good set of ramps so you can get a jack under there. It's such a nightmare to get that car in the air. Or if I had quick jacks, I mean, they distribute the load and lift it all at once. Done. It's just like being on a lift. So that's a huge thing. Probably in the next year or two, I'm probably going to pull the trigger and buy a set of those, especially if I can find them on sale. Like if they're doing some like end of year clearance kind of thing, or if they're coming out with a new model, so they're offloading the old ones.
Black Friday,
exactly.
Something like that. Like usually, actually, like right now, I'm just pooling money because I know on August 6th, 8.6 day. So these places that sell 8.6 parts are probably going to have shit on sale.
Yep.
And if I don't necessarily, like, suspension is going to be something I plan to overhaul massively.
That's on my plan.
And an 8.6 is like actually not all that complicated to work on. No. It's very, very simple.
That's why they got so popular.
Yeah, that too. And it was just like insanely cheap. So it's just like I'm kind of just waiting for August 6th, and then I might just like splurge on parts.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, dude, like, because I plan to overhaul that entire suspension. It's like like old and rusty and kind of janky. It's just like, man, it's all over the place. The springs are probably like old.
Mine's doing the same thing. If I hit a bump, it grounds out real bad.
All
4 points are leaking, which sucks because I bought the car. Part of the reason I got the deal I did on it was because it was a real quick turnaround. So the shop that I bought it with didn't have a chance to do a really deep inspection. They did some footage, they got some stuff, but they also had the sheets from Japan that said what the car had on it that were wrong, which is not uncommon in a Japanese auction. So you watch out when you're doing that.
Right.
But it had it listed as stock suspension. So I bought it with stock suspension. Turns out it has an Öhlins kit all around, which is really cool.
Nice.
All 4 points are leaking, which means all 4 sides need to be rebuilt. There's one guy in LA County that can get the parts necessary to do it. He won't work on them while they're on the car, and it's going to cost $2,000. And these are old Öhlins. I'm like, I'm just going to spend $1,500 and get a set of like tan Z and just throw that on there. Get there's I forget what they call it, the little box that can adjust the stiffness per side and stuff, so you can have smooth dry. You have a really nice system for like what it would cost to fix, not even buy, just fix the Öhlins that are on there, and then I'll sell those off. So I'll have a more modern system in that. That's my next big thing to do to it because it's bugging me so bad. I go over a speed bump and you just
I fucking hate that, dude. Like people get mad at me whenever I'm like in the 8.6 and going through bumps because it's like, dude, the suspension is so loose.
Yep.
It's just like, dude, I can't tackle this fast.
It's got that boat feel to it.
kind of. It's just kind of like, and I'm not looking to drift that car because I know I'm gonna wreck it.
Yeah.
Especially the way it is now. It's like, dude, I need to change the bearings. Like, I'm pretty sure everything needs an overhaul. Everything.
Yeah,
the interior, the exterior. Like,
what year is it?
An 86.
86.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's like one of the later 86s.
It's like 35 years old or whatever.
It's old. Like,
yeah,
no matter what 86 you get, unless it's like a very, very like definitely well taken care of, which this one
like
was
a
not.
showroom one or something.
Yeah, and those ones are the ones that are 30 grand,
yeah.
like 60. Like I already kind of like tabulated how much I would need to spend on this just to get it like really nice.
Mm-hmm.
It cost me 20 grand at least.
But you could do that and then sell it for 60 to 80 grand.
Yeah, right. And that's like, but I plan to keep the car for at least a while.
As you know, I would hope. Yeah, those are good
because it's
cars.
like, damn, I'm putting this much money into it. At least I can keep it, and plus they're getting like, they're already pretty much in classic car territory.
Oh yeah,
like our cars, like in particular, because they're that old, and plus like they don't make them anymore, obviously, and the parts are just so hard to find. It's like, dude, I probably don't even plan on taking this out unless like it's for a show or for hanging out, like on the weekends.
I should do that. I daily my car.
Yeah, I might actually daily the 86 because like I don't really want to daily the STI.
Yeah,
and again, it's like the STI has AC,
all the creature comforts.
Yeah,
the creature comforts and
again,
Apple Play and all this.
There's a reason the Lancer is outside,
Play.
not the Skyline.
Yeah, exactly. Like the AC, like creature comforts, and it's just like the 86 has roll down windows.
Oh, really? It's got cranks. Oh man,
yeah.
I've at least got power windows.
Yeah,
so,
see,
well,
it's just
one
like,
power window.
Like, damn, man, this is totally weird. Like,
that would be
I haven't done that since I was a kid. My dad's old Toyota truck.
God, that's fine. I think I've only ever owned one car with crank windows.
I never owned one, so this is my first time owning one. Like, I've been in one, I lived in one when I was growing up, but like to own one is like, this is such a weird feeling.
Yeah, man. It's my first car I bought was a Firebird, and it had crank windows.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had my first car was a Pontiac 6000, which I miss. I love that car. But it was like an 86 6000, and it had all electrical stuff. But it was like we had just discovered electricity when it came to cars, so nothing on it worked. Like a full digital dashboard, and like only I think the tachometer worked, and it was an automatic. So I don't even know why it had that on there. I think it had on there. It's like everything didn't work. Like the heat. That's actually what ended up happening. The car blew up because it overheated, because it was registering as being hot. And we checked, and the radiator was bad, so we replaced the radiator, and it still registered as being hot. And we're like, well, we've replaced the cooling system. It should be running cold. And my mechanic was like, well, you can bring it in and we can look at it, but it could just be a bad sensor. That car, every other sensor's bad on it. And I'm like, well, I can't afford to go back to the mechanic, so screw it. It's a bad sensor. And turned out it was not. It was a bad fan, so it was very much overheating. And ended up blowing the motor. So I was like, all right, well, it was a good car to learn in, though. So I really liked that. But it had electric windows. They just, two of them didn't work.
Looks okay. Sorry, I'm just texting Mike. He just told me that Jason's face is a little like lit up by the sun now because the sun's showing up on him. I bet you it's getting hot there right now. It's okay. Like, I think it's okay, Mike.
I'm gonna turn the fan over to me.
It looks fine.
Roasting.
But yeah, it looks okay. But anyway, yeah, like, so like freaking, yeah, our old cars is just like, man, at least like your commute isn't so bad, right? Like,
well, I work from home now, so my commute is 0.
Your commute is like what, 2 feet?
Yeah, pretty much. About, I'd say 6. Yeah,
6 feet.
Right
from my bed to my computer.
Triple the distance. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I was driving for a while. I mean, I just started this job back in September. Though my old job was work from home due to COVID for a little bit. But when it was in the office, it was down in Santa Monica. So,
oh man,
where it's cooler.
Well, yeah, but it was also a massive drive. No matter which way I took, I could take Topanga up to like the one. That was usually the route I took.
Nice.
Mostly because it took the same amount of time, about an hour drive. But at least there I was moving. And when you're driving stick, you don't want to be sitting in traffic constantly.
Absolutely.
First thing that happened, I moved out here. I burnt out the clutch on the Lancer because it was already going. And then just in traffic constantly, just killed the clutch. Yeah. So I had to replace the clutch on that, which was not a fun experience. Mostly just because it was like I didn't want to go drop a couple of grand on a clutch. So so I did that, and then now that I'm working from home, I'm just like, sweet. That's why my Skyline's my daily now. Because when I was working that long commute, my Lancer was obviously my dailies. I wasn't driving this. I'd take maybe on a Friday I would take the Skyline.
Yeah.
But once I started working from home, anytime I needed to go somewhere, it's like, oh, it's only about a mile away, 2 miles away. Yeah, I'll take the Skyline. And then it just became, just take the Skyline.
What a cool daily.
Unless my dog's riding with me, then he doesn't get to ride in the Skyline. It's a Husky. He sheds too bad. I'll take the Lancer for that. I mean, he's already Husky hair in the Skyline just from like transient out of the apartment.
Right. Exactly.
The last thing I need to do is put him in it. So, plus he likes to lay down in the back seat. In the back seat, you can't lay down in the Skyline.
Oh, I know. I feel like these cars, like, even the 8.6, it's like I wouldn't sit in the back.
No.
It's like I just have it there for show, like the seat belts, but they're already buckled in. It's like, no, nobody's really going to sit in here because it's not a car that's meant for like people to sit in the back.
No.
I mean, I know they have them there. It's kind of like the GR86, like right now. It's like, dude, people aren't going to ride in the back seat of that car.
Anytime a two-door sports car has back seats, it's almost pointless. My favorite was when I used to clean cars when I was younger, like in high school. I worked at a detail shop. And there was a super rich dude in town who used to bring in, he owned like part of an oil company, so he had a ton of money.
Oh, there you go.
And he had at the time like a brand new Porsche 911, whatever the top of the line one was. Yeah. I'm not a Porsche fan, so I don't remember what it was. But he brought it in, and I remember looking that it was marked as a 4-seater. But you would look, and literally like the front seats barely moved up and back. There was very little adjustment in these seats. But if you pushed them all the way forward, there was like 2 inches of leg space between the back of the driver's seat and the front of the back seat. And I'm like, that just seems stupid. And then I reached back there and there was like no padding on the back seat.
Just a couple slabs
like
for your ass.
It literally was just covered in material so that they could say it was a 4-seater to the insurance companies. That was like it.
Wow.
Like that car was not.
Sense.
And then I was talking to the guy one time. He's like, yeah, no, most people just take those out and put a speaker box in. I'm like, that makes sense because that's what it looks like it's meant. He's like, I just don't because I like keeping it stock. He had this like crazy. It was back when DuPont had just come out with that Chrome Illusion style paint that color.
Yeah.
And he had at the time, I think it was like $200 a gallon for that paint. And he had the whole car painted that color.
Wow.
So the car's paint job was like 30 grand or something at the time. And he was so funny because he'd bring it in every Friday, like clockwork, and have a full like $300 detail put on this car. We'd wash the whole thing, vacuum it, all that. But we would check the mileage. And we knew from where he lived to where the shop was like 5 miles. So he would come in and be like, it has 200 miles on it when he drops it off. We think it's a 10-mile round trip to his house and back. The next week when he'd bring it in, it had 210 miles on it. So like he would drive it home and just not drive it and then bring it back for his weekly detailing.
Man.
Wow.
It was the weirdest. Like anytime we got it and it had like gained any mileage, we were like, oh crap, he's actually driving it. Okay. It was the greatest job though. He would bring it in and we were like, well, this is an easy job. Just kind of wash the car, do all the normal detailing, but you don't have to fight any stains or anything because he hasn't been in the damn thing.
Well, that's good. And that keeps it easy for you guys.
Yeah, well, offset when we get cars from the dealership where they're like, yeah, we took this on trade. And you're like, oh my God, who owned this? It is stained. It is horrible. And we have to get it showroom ready. I'm like, oh God, today's going to suck.
I know. Like we know a guy who does like detail as like his side gig. And, he talks about some of the worst cars that he's ever dealt with.
It was, I hate washing my car because of that job. Like I don't even like. I was like, I'll just pay someone to wash it.
I'm kind of the same way. Where it's just like, man, I don't want to spend time. Like sometimes it's just too hot, or sometimes it's just like, dude, I don't have the time right now, or I don't have the mental bandwidth.
Yeah.
Especially when you have like other things that you're doing. Like, especially you're trying to tackle this whole N64 thing. That's pretty dope.
It's
we were talking about that before we started this podcast.
Yes.
So basically, like you're trying to collect every single N64 game.
Yeah. Well, I collect games in general. So I have a crap ton of stuff, but I don't know why lately I've decided the N64 is my target. So I'm gonna try to collect as many N64, if not all of the N64 titles, and I'm up about. I've got about a third of them is where I'm at now. About 130, I think, is where I'm at. Something along those lines.
I'd cheat you and I'd get the all-in-one ROM and the.
Well,
that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
I'll tell you this: some of the games I get are on that system. I'm going to be cheating and getting like reproductions of.
Screw it,
because it gets nuts. I've actually priced out what it would cost for me if I was to go out right now and just buy the rest of the games I need.
Yeah.
Assuming I just buy the loose cartridge, not like box complete, nothing like that. Just give me the loose cartridge. How much would it run me? And it would be about $7,500 for me to get the rest of the collection. And that's mostly because of like 5 games. Because most of the games are like, $20, $30 worse. The more expensive ones can hit like 100.
Yeah.
But then there's like a collection that are like between $600 and $1,500 to $2,000. And it's just like, that's so much money.
What are these games called? Classics or limited edition stuff? Or?
It's mostly the rare
stuff.
There was the most expensive one is a game called Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. That game was only available, like it was manufactured for Blockbuster and only for Blockbuster. So you couldn't actually buy the game when it came out. It was just for rent. So to buy the game, you have to find someone who bought it when Blockbuster was getting rid of their N64 collections, which is about when they were getting rid of being a business.
Right.
So people had to go out and buy them. So that game, loose cartridge in just like all right condition, can be between $1,500 and $2,500 depending on the market.
Dang, what a markup!
If you can find the instruction manual, that alone goes for like $1,000. And the box, if you can find a box that they would have placed on the shelf, that alone can be like $2,000 or $3,000. So box complete, that game can go for like $10,000. So that one,
the retail box.
The retail box, yeah. So that one, I'm probably going to get a reproduction card of, just for the collectability of the data, like being able to archive the history of the game.
Having it physically.
Yeah. But if I can get to where that's the last game I need and I get a good income return 1 year, maybe I pull the trigger and say, you know what, let's actually make this happen. But there's other games, and it's funny too, all the expensive games for that system are games that you're like, what is that? They're not like, I was like, oh, Zelda. It's like, okay, well, Zelda's like $60, whatever. There's one version of Majora's Mask, the second Zelda game, it's like stupid expensive because it was only available again through like rental outlets. There was a lot of rental only games. It's funny in that era, like that were done just to kind of help prop up the rental companies. So if you're out at a game store and you see a gray cartridge that's Majora's Mask and it's cheap, grab it. Because
gray
it's
cartridge?
Yeah, gray, not gold.
Look, so all Majora's Mask came as gold?
All retail came as a gold cartridge. Yeah.
So if you find something like this,
like the gray cartridge, that I couldn't tell you right now.
Oh, that's why it says not for resale.
Yeah, because that was for rental only. I believe it was rental only, or that might have been sold as a bundle, like a very limited bundle with like a console. But I think even those were gold cards.
I think so too. Yeah.
So if you were to look up the price on that, there's a website called pricecharting.org.com, one of the two.
Pricecharting.org.
I think it's org. It might be a com. I don't remember. But it's good for, that's where like most people get their general pricing for retro games. I wouldn't be surprised if that game was between $500 and $1,000 right now, if not more.
No way.
Yeah. Look at like Majora's Mask Gray is what you have to look for. But then the gold cartridge is worth like $60 because all of them were gold.
Standard stuff.
Yeah. And that's where you'll start really getting to some expensive stuff when you get the variant copies of games that came out. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And were they any different, or were they pretty much the same game? They just came in a
exact same game. It just had a different mold that they used for it.
Oh my god, that's so nuts,
Dude.
That'd be so dope.
Yeah, and then there's other ones that are just expensive because some are expensive because they were sought after. Conker's Bad Fur Day is like $100, $150 or something.
Wow.
And that's because it was a very popular game. People really loved it, and it didn't sell as well as something like Mario 64 or something.
Sure.
But the statistic with Mario 64 is so skewed though, because it's like, I mean, everybody who bought an N64 pretty much bought that
standard pack.
Yeah. So only two games were out when the system
at the time.
It was Pilot Wings and Mario.
So it's just kind of like, it's kind of like how people like revered Wii Sports when the Wii came out. It's like, bro, it came with a freaking console.
Yeah. Wii Sports, if I remember correctly, is one of the most like the highest selling game of all time right now. And I'm like, I don't think that counts.
That doesn't count. No, I completely agree. It's because you had to buy the console, and when you bought the console, you had to buy the game because it just came with it.
Yeah, so when you were buying the game, you got the game for free.
Yeah, exactly.
So technically, it never sold. Actually, you could buy it loose, but it was
who
very rare. If you had to buy the console, like a secondhand, that was
that's true.
Where it sold from. And I think it only, if I remember correctly, you could only buy it with like the player's choice trim, like that sold millions of copies. So they give it that special, usually an ugly trim level to it. Trim level like it's a car, and the ugly look to it. You could only get that version, which was kind of funny. But
oh man, that's so cool. Like,
I like collecting them. I think they're cool. I got some I just picked up StarCraft 64. That was about $100.
There was a StarCraft on Nintendo 64,
and it was not good. To be fair, I will say this, because as a developer, I want to give them credit. They did a good job converting an RTS to the N64. They did the work and they made it work.
Okay.
But inherently, an RTS on the N64 is just a terrible idea.
How's that cursor thing with the?
That's right. Because it's all.
It is not a.
What?
It is not a. That's box complete.
Yeah,
$1,900
for the box complete version. Yeah, like I said, mine's a loose copy, and I paid about $100 for it, and it has a damaged label. Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah. If you start looking at box complete N64, oh, it's easy to find $500,000 titles.
Oh my!
You'd have to be careful though, because this is also part of like the whole people getting stuff graded, and that became like a big money laundering scheme. So if it says it's a graded at that value,
I see.
Take it with a grain of salt. But if it's just like, hey, yeah, here it is, sell it, and that they go for crazy prices.
GoldenEye, hell yeah!
GoldenEye, I've got my original copy of that. You know what's sad? Have you played GoldenEye recently?
No.
Don't.
It
did not age well.
Really?
Like the controls on it are actually off. Like at the time they were great. Yeah. But we've improved so much just with the dual analog.
That's true.
That you feel stupid playing. Like,
it's not just like, oh, it feels bad. Like it's difficult to get your head around. How in the world did we used to play this? I worked at a game studio when the sequel that came out, like Rogue Agent, was being developed. We were doing the handheld version of that. Okay. I wasn't on that team, unfortunately, but we were releasing that. So when we got that contract, we went out, we got TVs, N64s. We're like, we're going to have every major development room in this building is going to have an N64 with GoldenEye. And that day, we just didn't do anything but play GoldenEye. But every single person sat down, grabbed the controller, played for like 5 minutes, and went,
put it down.
This is terrible. Like, oh my God, this is bad. How did we play this as a kid? And like, we tried. We're like, we just need to get the rust off. You know, just get used to it.
Yeah.
The whole time, we're like, this is just not good. And it's still a great game. Like, you can still see the fun, but the controls are so different. Yeah, it's like I give them props. You know, you did a good job with what you had at the time, and it worked, obviously. But it ended up just kind of aging out of being good anymore. Yeah. My favorite thing about this game, though, is, you know, the multiplayer, what it's known for, was like a last minute just addition to see if they could do it.
Huh. Right.
The company, or I forget who the company licensing them doing it. Well, Rare made it, but the obviously whoever owns the GoldenEye license, was like, yeah, just make it a single player game. You know, just a movie tie-in kind of deal.
Yeah.
Whatever. And Rare, there was like I think it was 2 or 3 guys at Rare were like, I think we can make multiplayer work on this, because if I remember correctly, this was like the first FPS split screen on the N64. Yeah. And it was because they weren't sure it could do it. So they just kind of threw something together. I want to say it was like over a week or maybe over a weekend. I forget how the story goes. And then they just, at the next meeting where they were showing the game, oh, by the way, we wanted to show you this. And they showed it, and they're like, oh, well, do we have space on the cart for that? I'm like, yeah, we make it fit.
A couple megabytes, whatever.
Can you throw a couple of levels together? All right, let's do that. So it was totally half-assed. Like, it wasn't like at the start, we're going to make this amazing multiplayer. They put it in thinking, oh, it'll be a neat little back of the box feature.
And here we are.
And just try to get people interested. And it became this huge thing. I mean, they went and made Perfect Dark afterwards, which was really because of this game. And Perfect Dark was about the multiplayer, not the single player. So it was such a crazy thing to think that was just, see if we can do it.
I feel like Rare and Nintendo had such a great relationship because they made a lot of great games together.
Oh, yeah. Especially in this era, the N64.
Yeah, in the N64 era. And slightly before, but also definitely up until the end of their partnership.
Super Nintendo with Donkey Kong Country.
Yes,
sir.
Yes, what a classic game. Yeah. What an amazing score, since we're about music here. Donkey Kong Country had such an amazing soundtrack. Oh, yes. It was so great.
Music in games is such a thing that I am passionate about.
Dude, us too.
My favorite NES game is a game no one ever hears about. They never think about it. It's a game called Shadowgate.
Shadowgate. Okay.
See the confusion you guys have?
Yeah. Owned the console. No.
Common. It was a point and click adventure game. It was part of like a series of 3 that this company came out with. Deja Vu 1 and 2. The Uninvited and Shadowgate were all by the same company. And it was just a simple point and click adventure style game. Started out on the Mac, I believe. And then they kind of ported it to the N60 or the NES.
Is this it right here?
Yep, that's the original NES box. And the
nuts.
music in it, or especially for like the 8-bit era, is the best music I've ever heard. I absolutely love it.
I see.
Mike is pointing to the activate Windows thing there.
Oh.
Don't forget Mike to activate Windows.
Yes. But yeah, so they actually recently, first off, they made an N64 sequel called Trial of the Four Towers, which I have.
Nice.
And I've had that game since it was new. And I don't know what happened. I remember when that game came out, I was at GameStop, or Babbage's is what they called it at the time, like every day. Like, hey, is it out yet? Is it out yet? Finally, it came out, and I bought it. And I was like, yeah, I saved up. I was so happy this game came out. And that game was super difficult to the point that I've never beat it.
Wow.
And I have the same save game that I had when I bought the game originally, and every now and then I'll pop it in and play it for a while. I make no progress. I could look up how to beat it, but I don't want to. I want to do it myself. But music in that game was a little less impressive, but they weren't going for it was very atmospheric, so it was more atmospheric in the music. But they recently, I don't know how long ago, released a remaster, a recreation of the original Shadowgate on PC. Mm-hmm. And they did modern, like orchestral versions of the old music, which sounded amazing. But they also put the original NES soundtrack in, so it's an option you can turn on in the game. So you have these beautifully, because it's the way it plays is obviously you just see a screen and you go hit that, move here, and it just transitions screen. So everything's like hand painted style. Oh, wow. But it's playing this old 8-bit music. And they put in the 8-bit transition, so it's just this crazy like sound effects and stuff at play. It's such a cool mixture of the retro that you can put in, or just keep it more modern. And the game is phenomenal.
Can you look up gameplay of this? I want to see it. See, Mike, put it up if you can. See if you can find up gameplay on Shadowgate here.
For the original NES? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for the original NES.
Because that would give you a feel for how the music sounded and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's very simple music, but it's very good.
No, we won't need the sound. I just kind of want to see. Well, I mean, we would like the sound, but we don't have that option right now. But that's, wow. Damn.
This game was also very, I'm going to say infamous at the time. Because, and it was a kind of a bragging right that they had on the game. Every single screen of this game can kill you. Like every room you're in, everything you can do, it'll just get like the deaths are what this game is known for, because it would narrate what your death was. And when you died, this Grim Reaper would show up, and the big quote would be like, it's a shame your adventures have ended here or something. I forget exactly what the phrase is.
And then you have to start from the beginning.
Well, from your last save.
Oh, from your last save. Okay.
So but it's one of those games where you could sometimes just have to but like right here, here's a good example. Pause it right here. Oh, back it up for a second. So you, next room. Let it play for a second. Get to this room here. So you see this room and it's like, okay, so it's literally a hallway that you can turn, and there's a book on a pedestal. You're like, it's very simple. And remember, this is the third room of the game you see. So you just started the game. One thing you might want to do is like, oh, I'm going to look at this book. So you look at the book. Of course, it's got something in it. Okay, well, you can take stuff. I'm going to take the book. That kills you.
Damn it.
Because a trap door will open.
Oh.
So you have to open the book, and there's a key in the book. You take the key. Like, oh, cool. But then you look around, you can't do anything. Well, up there in the corner, there's a stone that you have to knock loose. Oh, now there's another passage. Right there, But if you go through the next room, there's 4 doors. Or 3 doors you can go through. Well, one of the doors opens and kills you. So it's like, and if you want to do something dumb, the game totally lets you. You find a sword, and there's an option in the corner that it's like self. So like if you find a cloak, you can go use cloak on self, and you put the cloak on. If you go use sword on self, it's like grabbing the hilt of the sword, you give out a glorious, like a gladiator shout as you plunge it to the hilt in your chest. Feeling the blood pour over your hand, you realize this may not be the best way to accomplish your goals. It's a shame your adventures have ended here, and it shows the Grim Reaper, and you restart. The game doesn't go, are you sure you want to do this? It's just like, oh, you want to stab yourself with an arrow? Go for it. Yeah. You found a bottle. You want to drink it? Well, okay, it's acid. You're dead. It's very much kind of like a D&D game with an asshole DM and an idiot player. That's how this game works. But it's so much fun, and you can speedrun the game in like 10 minutes. It's actually a really short game, but it took weeks to beat because there's so many puzzles you have to figure out.
Yeah, exactly. Like a maze.
And the game would like do stuff where, like using the potion example, you drink the wrong bottle of potion, it kills you. But there is a bottle you have to drink. So and it doesn't tell you. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Oh, damn.
And then if you drink the potion in the wrong place, it uses the effect, and now you can't beat the game. There's a few situations where the game can soft lock you. And it doesn't tell you. It's not like, oh, you can't do anymore. You just gotta have to figure it out. And if you saved after that and you reload the save, it's not like, hey, you've put this game in a bad state. It's just like, nope.
No other way out. You got to start over.
Yeah. You have to eventually get so frustrated that you restart or look up a guide. It's
dude, and getting guides back then, like you can like Nintendo Power,
dude,
and you'd have to wait for like your weekly subscription to find out like, did I do this right? Did I not?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, okay, so when I used to play like video games and before, like in the era of strategy guides, pre-internet, obviously, man, like you would call Nintendo themselves, and then there's always Yeah, Nintendo hotline, and you would ask them how to like beat something, and they would kind of tell you or give you clues, like go this, do this, blah blah blah. It's like, oh my god, yes.
And it was like $3 a minute.
Yeah. So I did that at my aunt's house. And she got so pissed off. Like, what is this phone call to Washington? Washington State, because I think that's where they were based
that's
off.
where the Nintendo of America headquarters is. Yep.
Yeah, and she was so pissed off at me. She was like, "Why did you call Washington? It cost me $14." Which it was bigger at the time.
Yeah,
it was just like, I really, really, really had to beat this video game. And I didn't know how. And this was, again, pre-internet, so it's not like you could just look it up now.
I remember when I first was able to get on the internet and I found out about Game Sages, the website where people were like uploading all their, except it was called Sega Sages at the time. And you could look up like these hand-created guides people would put in. There was always like ASCII art at the top of them. Yeah. And I remember that site being like, oh my God, they've got all the answers to everything I ever wanted. But it was just anyone uploading stuff. So half the time it was wrong. Like I remember there being like guides there for like, here's how you keep Aerith alive in Final Fantasy VII, which you can't do. But I was following every guide to try to figure that out, stuff like that. And finally, you're like, I think this guide's lying to me. I think, and I might be wrong, but I think someone has been dishonest on the internet.
Oh man, just the beginning of like, we know the internet for what it is now. It's like, oh my God, man. I just totally remember buying strategy guides as kids.
I used to collect them.
Oh man, do you still have any?
I still got a few, but I got rid of a lot of them just because they were taking up so much space.
I know, and that's the reason why I got rid of them.
One of my favorite is one I got. I think it's from 2004, 2003, somewhere around there. But it's the Prima strategy guide to E3.
Wow.
It was available only at E3, and it had like the layout of all the booths and what was showing where. It was basically kind of their way of doing a pamphlet for the show.
That's
but
so cool.
It was guide-esque.
But it was a full like actual print strategy guide. It wasn't like cheaply done or whatever. It looks just like a normal strategy guide, but it's E3 2000 whatever
so cool.
Prima official strategy guide. I got that because a friend of mine snuck his way into E3 because he used to work at it. He worked at a place called Zebra Graphics at the time. It's the funniest thing. He would always go to E3 because they would require you at the time to be a member of the industry, but they never asked you what you did. So he would just put that he worked at Zebra Graphics. It has graphics in the name, so whoever makes the decision that you work in the industry went, oh well, that's clearly a graphic company. He works in the industry, and all they were was a print shop. They printed like pamphlets. Like if you were like, I lived in Kentucky, and if you lived in Kentucky, you're like, oh, I need these little pamphlets made for something. You'd go to those guys. Like their whole facility was like the size of this house. It's a small place. Wow. And he would roll up in there with Zebra Graphics as his little company thing. And he walked up, I want to say it was to the Prima booth one year. Or no, he walked up, I want to say he walked up to like a Konami booth or something. He was talking to one of the production guys there. And they were talking about whatever game it was.
Is that it?
What is that?
Is that the strategy guide, the Prima strategy guide?
That looks like it. It's been so long since I've looked at it. I don't remember exactly what the cover looked like. But yeah, it was the Prima official E3 strategy guide of 2000. Wow. I was like 2006 or something. I don't remember.
That's cool.
Yeah, if they did different ones, it might have been a different year because I didn't get it. My friend got it for me.
Oh,
but yeah, he was talking. He was talking to some dude. I want to say it was at Konami. He said, and while they were talking, the guy was like, so where do you work? And he's like, oh, I work at Zebra Graphics. And without missing a beat, the dude went, oh yeah, they do the printing for Prima, right? My friend's like, absolutely. And then spent like 30 minutes talking about, oh yeah, this is how we work with them and stuff. And bullshitting the entire time.
Wow, he pulled it out of his ass.
And the guy was like, well, it's good to meet you, man. He was like, good to meet you. And walked off. He's like, oh crap.
So, okay, let me, do you still have to be in the industry to go to E3 now?
No. Oh, well, okay, so that's a multi-complicated question. You don't, but they're also not having E3 this year, or next year. It's been canceled again, mostly because it's just difficult to getting stuff going. E3 is not quite what it used to be back in the day. But the problem is most of the things you would go for was like, okay, well, what's Sony's showing? What's Microsoft showing?
Yeah.
What's Nintendo showing? What's EA showing?
Right.
They would all do their panels. Well, now a lot of them just do their own panel and do
it online.
Do it online
said,
and
Mike.
stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of like, why are they going to spend millions of dollars on E3? So it's harder to get people to show up for it. And E3 is not cheap to put on. That's why they would pay millions of dollars. So, I mean, we might see more E3s. We might not. It's hard to say. I was excited when I first moved out here. Like, oh, I can finally go to E3. And then I had my opportunity, and I'm like, I don't really want to. It's cool and all, but it's still a lot of people fighting LA traffic to see stuff that I can just look at online. I can see what the shows are going to be online. I know most of the people I'd want to go talk to, I can just reach out to because I work in the industry now.
Right.
It's kind of not the networking opportunity it used to be, and it's not the media opportunity it used to be. So seeing it kind of die off doesn't unfortunately surprise me, though it is sad because it was such an icon for gaming for the longest time.
So some industries are kind of heading in that direction. So I do photography, videography like on the side, and I used to do it a lot more so than now. But I noticed every year that I would go to these camera conventions, it would just like get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's just kind of like, well. There's a lot of things that are kind of bridging gaps now. Like phones are becoming like, good with technology and whatnot, and then cameras too. So like people don't need cameras as much as they used to because they have one on their phone, and it's like getting better and better. All phones are just getting better with technology. And then on top of that, COVID really slowed things down.
Absolutely.
And people didn't want to go out as much anymore, obviously. And then on top of that, technology is just getting better with like what he said earlier with the online presentations. Like you don't actually have to be there anymore because you can watch everything on a stream. And it's really bridging those gaps.
Another thing I've noticed, especially in the games industry, at least, not necessarily like the camera industry and stuff, because it's kind of a different user base,
right?
But with games, if I'm Electronic Arts and I want to put on a presentation to really show something off, if I go to E3, I'm competing with all these other big names, and I'm having to push all this stuff. And say I don't want to just do an online by myself thing.
Yeah,
I'll just go to something like PAX.
Right.
Or Comic-Con, somewhere where I can spend half the price and still have a cool looking show, be directly connecting to the fans in person, and get as much, if not more, publicity because I'm the only person hogging the gaming media at that moment.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have been doing stuff like that, just going to other conventions.
Indirect conventions.
Instead of being like, we're going to go fight Activision and Microsoft and Blizzard and all that for these platforms. Let's just go where we're the big guy. We are the name that's going to be on the pamphlet for this other convention, and we don't have to manage running a convention. We just run our own little panel, and we can put half, a quarter, an eighth of what we would pay at EA or at E3, and have just as cool looking show in comparison to what's going on around us. That's why they were always so expensive. You have these massive screens, you have to show up the last person to present. So it's just this arms race of money being thrown into, media. Whereas if you're not fighting that crazy arms race, you don't need as much stuff and still look awesome.
Right.
So I've seen that happening a lot.
Pretty
more
much your
often
user
too.
base is identical, right?
Yeah, because before it was all about, like I said, that marketing aspect, trading information, getting your name out there, trading resumes. We have LinkedIn now. We don't really need that.
Yeah.
So it's a very different world now, and the need for E3, it's very much not there anymore, which is unfortunate. Because I still love it. I wish E3 was as big as it used to be. And if they were to say we're doing it and everyone's on board, I'd be there in a heartbeat. I'd love it. But it's just not. There's no reason for it, and it's just going to cost money.
Oh man, that sucks.
And gaming costs a lot of money to make a game. So anywhere they can save money, they're going to do it.
That makes a lot of sense. I haven't been to a convention in a while.
Yeah, me either. I think the last quote-unquote convention I went to would have been the LA Auto Show.
Oh, well, okay. So I went to the one last year.
Yeah, I went to that one. Well, last year.
And it was just more heavily focused on EVs.
Yep.
You got some people still doing, but that's really, exactly. That's kind of where the direction of the entire world is shifting.
And I'll say this, I think that's what we need to be doing at those conventions, because the problem with EVs right now is they suck. They're ugly and they're not that nice.
Agreed.
Having people see them side by side and have to, okay, we got to make something that looks good. That's going to make people start making good looking vehicles. I mean, my favorite EV right now is the Ford Lightning.
Which one is that one? Is that the truck?
Yeah.
It's essentially just like a 150, but it's a truck.
But it's electric. And first off, while I normally hate when they reuse old branding, like with the Eclipse crossover, that was stupid.
Lame.
I can't think of a better brand to bring back as an EV than the Ford Lightning.
It's because they had it on the F-150.
Exactly.
Lightning, so it's so appropriate.
I remember when they announced it, like, we're redoing the Lightning. Everybody thought that'd be great. And they go, it's going to be an EV. And everyone that wanted to get mad were like, that's actually a good thing. Yeah.
They're just like,
I don't like that it's an EV, but Yeah,
Yeah, namesake wise. Okay,
and then they released it and it's like, yeah, it just looks like a F-150. That's what it needs to do. It just needs to look like a truck. I love it. I want one. But again, I don't want the first year. And you can't get the first year now. They've already sold like 300,000. They haven't even made the damn thing yet.
Oh, I know.
Because I was at the show and they were showing it off. I'm like, how do I get on the list? And he goes, well, the first list of 100,000 is full. I'm like,
100,000 is already done.
I was like, oh, what about the second list? Well, the second order of 100,000 is pretty much full. You're probably not going to get on that one. The third list of 100,000 will open up to the people that are on the waiting list. And if you get on that waiting list soon enough, you might be able to get on the third list of 100,000. I was like, okay, well, how much is this truck? And this is one part I didn't like. I was like, how much is the truck? Like, oh, starts at 40,000. I'm like, it's not bad at all. How much is the one you got sitting here? And he goes, almost 100.
What?
I'm like, this thing options $60,000 worth of stuff. And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, interesting.
No way.
How much of that is first off the range? He goes, well, there's like a long range version, but everybody does that.
Of course.
He goes, most of it's just creature comforts and paint and wheels and whatever. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like a fourth set of cup holders, maybe.
Yeah, it's like, so what you're telling me is this thing could be $60,000 better, but you're making a fleet version, aren't you? And he goes, pretty much, yeah.
That's exactly it.
That's
that
what
makes
that's
sense.
for.
So,
That
like,
makes sense.
the statistic with the F-150 here, at least from what I hear on Top Gear,
Yeah.
is that they say that the F-150 is the most sellingest car or sellingest automobile in America. But I'm like, that's somewhat of a skewed statistic because they're sold as fleet vehicles,
Yeah.
right? So technically, because they say you sell one every 35 seconds, well, companies buying like 10 or 100 or
corporate
whatever,
accounts,
corporate accounts that are getting them, that really it's like not a real statistic. But could you imagine now that they shift to this Lightning version, and hopefully they do, because that means that'll just get cheaper. They'll find ways to make it cheaper.
And I'll tell you what, that feature set it has, what really caught me, like, okay, it's an EV. It's going to be able to haul a lot of weight because they've got that crazy torque. It won't have trouble hauling. It's got power outlets in the front and back for tools. I'm like, well, that'd be cool working on a car, be able to haul your car to the track and have all your power tools working there.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool, right?
That's
The big one that they showed off that I hadn't heard about until then was that if you I think it's like a $1,600 option because everything's an option. You can install your charger at your house, a certain version of the charger that can reverse the charge. So if you have power go out, your truck can charge your house.
Right.
And you can have power in your house off of the truck's batteries, which is a cool idea. I never would have thought about using your truck as a battery pack for the house. I was like, now that's smart. And then they advertised, this one actually really shocked me. They were like a month or two later, like, yeah, we're announcing this new feature for the Lightning. A Lightning can charge another Lightning. And I went, wait, EVs can't charge EVs? That seems like that should just be
that should be inherently a
well,
thing, yeah.
How is that not a thing? Well, I guess props to them for making the realization. I wouldn't have thought to do it just because I thought it could happen. I never would have thought that an EV couldn't just plug up to another EV and say, I'm going to charge your battery.
If a car runs out of gas, you can pick some out of one car, right? Usually that's like the nice thing to do.
Like you see the jokes people online, they'll have like, the EV broke down on the side of the road, so there's a truck with like a gas generator charging it. And they're like, oh, so much for being an EV.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and I always went, yeah, that's funny. And never thought, well, why don't they just pull an EV next to it and charge it? And now I know why. It's because you can't. But the F-150 will be able to. And I'm like, now that's
But is that strictly
cool.
proprietary?
Yeah, it's like, can it only charge another F-150?
Exactly.
How's that work? Or probably can it only charge another Ford would probably be the thing. Because I bet it can charge the Mach-E.
Yeah,
which is an ugly
cross-platform.
car.
Probably put
that.
Chevy at like the very bottom of that list.
Yeah, I guarantee you when the Chevy Silverado EV comes out, it'll be able to do the same thing. Because I haven't seen the Chevy EV. They've shown like renders of it, but I haven't seen one in person. But what I find is very suspect is if you look at the stat sheet for the Chevrolet Silverado EV and the Lightning, it's like every number on the Chevy is just like 10% more than what the Ford put. And I'm like, I haven't seen any proof that you've got any of these numbers factually. It really just feels like you went take their numbers times 1.1 and then that's just what we're going to say we're doing, and then we'll just figure out how to make that work. Because it's like the Lightning's like, yeah, we got 300-mile range. And I'm like, that's impressive for a heavy truck. We're doing all this stuff. And so the Silverado's like, yeah, we got a 400-mile range. I'm like, do you? Do you really? How do you got a 400-mile range? It's like I think the Lightning is like, yeah, we can haul 10,000 pounds. So what's the Chevy say? Oh, we do 12,000. It's like, you can do 12,000 pounds at 400 miles? How are you getting that much more charge? This thing has to have like 5 times the batteries. What's going on here? Or did you just increase all of their numbers to look better.
And then you'll figure it out later.
Yeah, because then you're like, well, can I see the truck? Oh, we don't have it yet. I was like, See, so these are targets, not what you actually.
That's very
can do.
much suits versus engineering, though. Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
I imagine they
they
announced that to the public, and all the engineers at Chevrolet were like,
they just walked out.
We're
doing what now?
they all looked at each other. Is there another engineering department we don't know about? Because that ain't us doing it.
Who scaled these numbers? What the fuck?
Who's pulling this out of their ass? Okay, so here's what I think about you notice all these diesel trucks on the road right now, and they're getting like 8 miles to the gallon, right?
Yeah.
But they're diesel trucks. They're used because of the torque and because of the range of just the inherent diesel engine is just that much more efficient for hauling heavy loads
and
over
more reliable.
distances, more reliable, and they're all straight sixes because that's only one cylinder head you got to work on, right? And as opposed to like a V8 that's 2 cylinder heads, right? So I digress. The main thing here is just like, who's going to be the guy that develops the technology that says, okay, we'll put EV big semi trucks, but they will function a lot like diesel locomotives, where the diesel engine is not even powering the wheels. It's a generator, or in this case, a range extender, right? So it's not necessarily hooked up to the drivetrain, or it could be, but then it also charges the battery, right? So like, who's going to be the guy that develops that technology?
Oh, I'm sure it's already out there. Because like I said, I know if I remember correctly, that's how the Prius works, is it just uses the gas engine to charge the batteries. So, I mean, the only difference is you're using a gas engine versus a diesel. And at that point, I don't know if torque is more important than horsepower to charge.
That's
so
true.
It may just be not worth it with a diesel. I don't know the physics behind it.
The diesel engine is just bigger. It's heavier. So maybe a gas engine is actually much more. And plus, gas is much more readily available than diesel.
It's more readily available. The engine's much lighter.
Yeah.
Especially because you can get a little tiny engine. And like I said, since it's a generator, it's more about rotational speed than it is torque. So I bet you want a high honestly, a rotary engine.
I was about to say rotary, bro.
So I think if I remember correctly, Mazda
Mazda's developing. So they're bringing back the rotary as not essentially like a drivetrain
generator,
but as a generator, as a range extender. So that was just so funny because it's like, obviously, we know initial D and huge part of it is like an FC and FD.
Yep. Which if they don't call the electric version the FE, they're just
dude, that'd be up. So I know.
If they don't call it the FE RX9 or whatever, then I'm done with Mazda.
Dude, seriously, man. But it's like I feel happy for the Wankel engine just coming back, even if it is as a range extender, because it's like, dude, that's just so Mazda. Especially with all the stuff that they've done like rotary wise, it's just like, oh my God, but you're absolutely right. When you say rotational energy, it's like you pulled the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, dude, a rotary engine is small. It doesn't have to be crazy efficient. It just needs the rotational energy to develop like that generating force for electricity. So I think that's how it's coming back.
And the good thing about it being the generator versus being the drive system is the computer can control everything about the motor, because the biggest the reliability issues with those rotaries was like you had to drive them the right way.
It had to be high revving
it all the time, clearing it out. And if you didn't do that right, it would wreck that motor. Yes. Well, if the computer is just using that motor to charge a battery, the computer's going to handle the revving.
Yeah.
So it knows, okay, I need to done, get things going. And then you still have to change your oil and put oil in the fuel and all that. I mean, there's still all the crap you got to do there, not put oil in the fuel, but you're going to burn it in the fuel.
Right.
So you still got to deal with all of that. But I think it'll increase the life. Plus, when was the last time they built a rotary engine? I mean, technology itself has advanced so much in material technology. Apex seals will be more reliable, which is the biggest problem. Yeah, I think it's got a really solid possibility. I just don't know when they're actually going to do it, or if they actually will do it. They're researching it, but they could very well just decide, it's just easier to go full EV at this point.
On YouTube, I saw a couple people talking about the Mazda applying for a patent for a 3-housing rotary, which is like, damn. Like 2 was enough to get like a decent FC or an FD going, but like 3, and you're gonna use this as either a train or like
that seems odd.
Seems a little weird, but like that's a lot. Like 3 housing, like Wankel, like holy crap.
If you're running it as, again, it comes down, I don't know enough about the physics, but if you're running it as a generator, it seems like you just want
that's a bit much. Like 1 is enough
because you're not needing it for power, you're needing it for rotational output,
right?
And a single rotor should still be able to rev up to like 10,000. If you put more maximum point you put in there, it's just more failure points.
Sure. What if they're just making another RX-7?
But if they could well, I think it'd be the RX-9 at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're just going to put more rotors on there for whatever, make it a 4-rotor. Go all out,
dude. I know some people who did that to their FD.
Yeah, well, Rob Dom on YouTube.
Yeah. So it's just like, damn, like you have the space for a 4-housing like wrinkle.
Did you ever see when he they put a rotary engine in a Corvette?
Whoa.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing.
Pull that out.
I think it was a C6 Corvette at the time, and they pulled the motor out. They took it to LS Fest, which was the funniest thing.
It's not even an LS in it.
Yeah, and they took the rotary out of, I don't remember if it was the RX-7 or the RX-8, and I can't remember the name of them. But they hook it up, and it's such a small motor that it didn't even reach the cross member that would support the engine. So they had to build a whole new cross member system because the motor's like this big.
Yeah, dude.
It's the funniest. Like, you could literally get in the engine bay with the motor while it was on and wouldn't even be like risking touching it. It was such a small thing. That is so amazing.
The Wankel engine had so many advantages that never really saw the light of day because it was just like overshadowed by like.
It also had a lot of disadvantages too. That was
too.
Problem.
Like
you
on paper,
know what
good.
You were doing. That's really honestly what killed in my opinion, killed the RX-8 was it was a rotary engine. So you needed to understand how to drive this car. There was a special set of skills necessary. But if you look at how the RX-8 was marketed, it wasn't marketed to that kind of driver. It was marketed to, I mean, women can obviously drive just fine, but it was marketed more to the female driver who's not into cars and just wants a cute little car to get around town. They're not going to know the intricacies of that motor. Even a guy that's just not into cars won't know how that works, or who normally drives a little Honda 4-banger. He's going to think, oh, I know how to drive this. He's not going to know how to handle that motor. You have to have that knowledge for it. If you take care of it, that motor will last.
Right.
No one took care of it, so they didn't last, and they got the reputation for not lasting.
Right.
The RX-8 one did have a design flaw, though. The spark plugs were like at the bottom of the motor, so if it flooded or anything, all that sludge would build up, and it would just fucking wreck it.
Just kill it. Yeah.
But the RX-7, I think, was on the side, so it was less of an issue.
And they used 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used 2 spark plugs.
Yeah, I think they used 2 on the RX-8, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know my rotaries well enough to say for certain, but I just remember I was looking at RX-8s for a while, and every mechanic I talked to said, nope. And I'm like, why? And they said, well, here's why. And they would explain that was the exact same thing explained to me multiple independent times. So clearly it was true. Or either that or they were all lying to me in unison for some reason. But yeah, it's like, and everyone ever saw was like, yeah, 80,000 miles, you have to do a rebuild because of all the sludge and stuff that built up.
Exactly. So like right before I bought the 8.6, I was desperately close to getting an FC because an FC was a very close second to me.
Yep. And probably at the time they weren't that expensive.
Yeah, now they were drastically cheaper at the time, and I was just like, man, they were like $5,000.
Yeah, a few years ago I could have got one for like $7,000, and I was like, I'd rather wait and get the actually at the time I was like, I kind of want a Mark III Supra. I don't know why, I just did. And now both of them have gotten too expensive. I'm like, what the hell?
They're all going up, man. All these Japanese classics.
Well, I'm one right now. It's one of $350 for a track car. And even that, for like a beat up one that doesn't run, it's like, I got $10,000. No.
Oh God.
There's a reason I'm not spending $10,000 on a car that I can just spend $40 and get a brand new Z.
I know. It's like you're already putting a down payment on a brand new car.
My favorite ones are like it's a 350 stick, like half the interior is missing, body's wrecked, welded diff, and
diff. That's a common one.
No title, like no title, bill of sale only, $12,000.
Bro, Sylvia's were another one that's just like astronaut. There was this meme that came out. It was funny. It's like brand new Sylvia. It's like look stock $17,000, like in 1997 or something like that. Like 2000 whatever, it went down, right? Like it went to like $5,000, and then it just went all the way down to like 2022, like really beat up, and it had like X's and like not matching panels and like a roll cage. $20,000 salvage title.
Salvage title, $20,000. I know what I got.
I know what I got. I fucking hate that. Don't. You don't have to sell my car.
I know what you got too. What you got ain't $20,000.
Dude, the fucking drift tax on Sylvia's is nuts.
Oh, Sylvia. So many messages come through. Sylvia's 8.6. Everything. It's like the drift tax and the GTR tax. They're real. Because you can't drift the GTR. Well, you shouldn't drift a GTR. If you do, you shouldn't have bought a GTR.
Trure.
That's my favorite. People are like, are you going to convert this to rear wheel drive? I'm like, why the hell would I do that? When
you would have gotten a GTC.
I'd have gotten a GST then, yeah. But people are like, or my favorite little kid, like two-step it. I'm like, first off, it's not tuned for that. Second off, I like my exhaust system. I don't want to two-step this. That drives me up the wall when I hear that. I mean, there's a place for it, but not in a parking lot.
I know. That's what I don't. I go to car shows mostly that are day shows because one, I'm just a day person, and two, whenever I've gone to night shows, there's always a dick measuring contest with exhausts, and it's just like it's like incessant and asinine, to some point where it's just like some guys just trying to get their jimmies off by like showing how loud they can get things and to see if like flames come out of their exhaust or whatever. And to me, it's just kind of like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, and it's really just a bunch of kids for the most part. It's like a bunch of kids who are really just trying to show like, hey, this is my car, this is me, it's like this is my identity, whatever. And it's just kind of like, to me, it's like incessant and annoying. It's like, why
kids like, this is my identity. I go, well, your identity sucks.
Yeah, I know. And it's just like, well, they haven't gone through that stage of life yet.
Yeah, they haven't gotten a ticket yet.
They haven't gotten a ticket.
Tell you what, I was at a show last night that I thought was going to be small, and it ended up being like, God, it was a few hundred cars showed up. It was nuts. Yeah. And
what kind of cars? Like all kinds of cars?
All kinds, yeah.
Nice.
It was a really good show, but then everybody started leaving. You saw the kids leaving, popping, burnouts and stuff. And we're all like, stop doing that. Well, of course, the cops show up like they do.
Right.
And pulled over like 6 of them, which was great. And then we were all just standing around. It's like, we're not leaving until you guys are far enough away. They're not going to hit us as we're leaving because they're idiots.
Yes.
And this one cop pulls in. The SUV pulls right up to us, and we're sitting there. There was my R32. There was a Hako there. Nice. We had like a Mark IV Supra sitting there.
Oh, nice.
There was a VR4 was in our group. Like, it was a bunch of nice looking cars, but very much cars that looked like they would be doing a lot of the shit that they were watching people do.
Yeah.
And this cop gets out and she walks up to us, and I'm thinking, oh God, she's about to tell us either to get out of here or she's gonna start yelling at us or something. And she walks up, and this cool girl, she's like, so all these people that were just peeling out like idiots, do you know where they went? And we're like, excuse me? She goes, yeah, we want to go try to bust more of them, but we don't know where they went. And all I was like, probably to their parents' house. I don't know. And she was all, we're like, we really don't know. They just all left. She's like, oh, okay, well, y'all aren't about to be assholes, are you? And we're like, no, we're just waiting for them to leave. We don't trust them not to hit our cars. She's like, no, it's a fair thing. All right, well, y'all just have a good night. Don't cause any problems. She got in her car and just kind of parked up by the exit to the parking lot. And
we just else was going to be an
just
idiot.
Make sure no one was doing anything, which we were fine with. And we're like, oh, cool. So it was neat to see the LAPD actually, kind of getting along with the car community.
That's cool.
Because you hear so much crap about like LAPD or any police department and the car community always butting heads. But I'm like, honestly, we get along well as long as you're not an asshole.
Yeah, dude.
That's like that's just like a rule of life. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
And then you don't do shit and shit won't come to you, right? Obviously, there's always outliers, but those
a lot of them.
So like, I don't know if you heard, like in California, they're proposing to put these cameras in place.
The noise cams.
Yep. And I'm just like, ooh, I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm questioning. First off, if it'll even work, because it's like,
what if a Prius pulls up to you and then,
or not even that? What if 2 muscle cars are sitting at the light and one of them's loud? How do you know which one it was?
That's one. That's another scenario.
So I have a friend who's an attorney. Years ago, he was talking, I think like 3-4 years ago, he was looking into, and I don't actually know whatever came of this, but he had an interesting take on like speed cameras and such. He was thinking they might not technically be constitutional.
Oh.
And his reasoning was when you're given a ticket, you're not just given like, okay, here's your citation. Technically, you're accused of a crime, and you can fight that in court. And you can go to court and say, hey, no, I didn't do this. And part of our system is that you can face your accuser. You can say that, the state says I'm doing this, so the state needs to prove it kind of deal. Well, when it's a speed cam, who's technically the one accusing you?
Right.
There's no one to point at and go, that person was wrong. It's a camera. So can you face your accuser if your accuser's a camera? Is there a issue here? And he was really looking into that. And when I heard about these new noise cameras, I thought the same thing. I was like, well, first off, who's accusing you of the noise? But with a speed camera, we have a technology that we can say, okay, here's your car here, and here's your car here at this point in time. There's math that can tell you how fast you were going. So while I may not like it, the speed cam technology makes sense. Noise cameras just look for noise. You can't laser focus a noise cam. So how do they know which car it was, which lane? How do they know that there wasn't construction work going on in the corner and they had a massive machine running while you were sitting there? There's no way to know what actually is on there. And if they record the system, well, it's hard to tell what the recording noise actually is. How do I know the camera volume's correct? Maybe it's reading 10 decibels as 100 decibels.
Sure.
What if it's cranked? And who are we going to trust to know that they maintain that?
Right.
There's all sorts of calibration. Audio electronics in the analog world gets finicky sometimes.
Also, if the law is that they're checking for exhaust, which is what it is, they're looking for illegal exhausts. If my stereo is loud enough to fight that noise and trips it, I could theoretically go to court and say it was my stereo.
Right.
Well, if they don't have a good recording of it, they can't fight that, which means it could not be my stereo, and I could say, yeah, it was my stereo. Like, oh, your stereo is able to do 90 decibels? Yeah, it's competition stereo.
That's not illegal.
Can you prove that? It's not my job to prove. It's your job to prove that it wasn't.
Right.
So, prove that I don't have a stereo that can do that. But we're in court already. You want to delay this? No judge is going to give a shit. All right, fine, get out of here. So it's like the whole system's pointless. Not to mention all you got to do is take one of those air horns or whatever, just strap it next to the thing and go to town.
That's what I was saying too. What about trolls?
Yeah.
What if they take like a Bluetooth speaker and just put one next to it? It's like you just fucking give tickets to everyone.
Yeah.
You're gonna do that? Like even a fucking
honestly,
Tesla.
I would never suggest somebody do something illegal, but it's not that difficult to get a Bluetooth speaker to do that with. If you want to fight the man, there you go. That's a way to do it.
It's like $10
or less.
There's
so much wrong with the idea
in a day.
Yeah. So it's just like, I'm already on the fence about speed cameras to begin with. Not even from they're annoying because they catch it. I've got legal questions. Are these things calibrated correctly? If I ever got caught by one, I would argue it in court immediately. Yeah, you prove it was my car. Okay, you got a license plate, but do you know if I was driving? You don't know, because if a friend of mine's driving my car and he's speeding, I don't get the ticket. My friend does.
Yeah.
So prove that I was the one behind the wheel. There's so much that's wrong with that possibility. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I'm curious if it'll actually go through. We'll see. I'm definitely interested in it, but
that's something I'm following because obviously we're enthusiasts here.
Yeah.
So it's just like, damn, dude, like, this is a huge blow against the car community, and I'm already like questioning how cops have the authority to stop you and tell you have a loud exhaust. No car in this county, at least, is going around with a decibelometer or decibelometer, however you want to say
the
it.
cops will carry them, but another thing about that is,
are they doing it right?
Well, there's a very specific way they have to do it.
Right.
And if they don't do it right, you just fight it in court.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Not enough people are actually fighting stuff in court, I think. They just get to take on, fine, I'll pay the ticket. Like, no, because the more money the state has to, because if you go to court and you fight your ticket, the state pays for that. They have to pay the judge to be there. They have to pay the court people to be there. There's cost to the state to have anybody in court. Fight your ticket. Like, fight it. Go say no. Even if, never admit you did it, but even if you're guilty, fight it. Because I know. Because then if there's enough people fighting it, it costs more to process all this crap than it does to give out the tickets, and they'll start being more selective about it, and they only want the cases that they're going to win. So just do that. And if you can go up there and just say, yeah, no, it wasn't me. Okay, well, they say it was. Yeah, but it wasn't. That's good enough. I mean, it's not, you're the one being said that you did it. They got to prove you didn't, or they got to prove you did it rather. So it's like, no, it wasn't me. I wasn't driving that fast. My car couldn't do that. I had a friend that actually got a ticket one time in a minivan for going like 130 miles an hour.
Wow.
Cop pulled him over and said, yeah, I clocked you on 130. And he's like, no, you didn't. This car will barely do 80. And he goes, well, I got it right here on the gun. And the gun said 130. And turns out, and my friend knew exactly what happened, a Corvette passed him when the cop was clocking him. The Corvette was going 130, and the cop went, click, looked up, and only saw the van, so pulled the van over.
Clearly.
Took it to court and told the judge, like, yeah, no, my car couldn't do that. It barely does 80. And the judge is like, what do you drive? And he's like, a 78 Astro van or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And judge is like, just get out of here. Just wrote it off.
Wow.
And it's just like, and half the time, I've had friends that go to court and the officer that ticketed them didn't even show up.
Doesn't show up, yeah.
If that happens, it's thrown out instantly. Because again, you have the right to face your accuser. That's the officer. He didn't show up. Well, if it's not important enough to him, it's not important enough to the court. So always fight it. Unless it's just absolutely impossible. It's like we've got you on camera, we have footage, we've got the radar, you admitted it. Okay, fine, you kind of got caught there. But yeah, no, fight it if you can.
Well, there's your top tip today.
To be fair, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal
We're
advice.
Not offering
this is my opinion. Fight it every time.
We're not offering legit legal advice, but as a friend to a friend,
yeah,
if you can fight your ticket, fight it. That's our top tip of the day.
Like I said, I can't tell you how many friends I've had actually go to court over a ticket and the cop just not show up.
Well, I feel like they just have bigger things to
Yeah,
do
they
than
got more
show up
To be
there.
fair, that's why I think, and like I said, I drive my car with enthusiasm. And I've never, spiritually or spiritedly, and I've never been pulled over.
Nice.
And I drive fast, but I also stay in my lane. I'm not an asshole. I'm not like driving hyper recklessly. I'm just, speed limit 65. I'm probably going 75 or 80. Cops
Most people do.
Yeah, cops look at that. And I've been going 90, 95 down the 101 before, and cops will pass me. They'll come up behind me, see my plate. They go, "Oh, he's got a California plate. He's done this right, whatever." And they'll just pass me. Like, and I'm still booking. I'll be driving, and I'll look over, and I'll see that sheriff or the CHP or whatever drive. I'm like, wait,
he's pulling up.
I go, I am well within his rights of pulling my ass over. What the heck? And he just keeps going. And of course, I was immediately off the accelerator. I'm like, we're going to slow down just a little bit, but he didn't pull me over. So if you drive, if you're polite in your speeding, cops in this town have too much to worry about.
I feel like on top of speeding, you're also like weaving.
Yeah, if you're weaving.
The weaving is really what gives you away.
Or if you're speeding and someone in it also has a nice car is speeding. Because then they'll think you're racing.
A race.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I'll do that if I'm going fast and I see like a Corvette or something pull up beside me, or even if it's like a Honda that's kind of done up a little bit, pulls up next to me. Of course, they're giving the thumbs up. I'm like, awesome. And I'll also let off the accelerator and let my car slow down to speed. Because I'm like, as soon as a cop sees that Honda and this car going 90 miles an hour down the highway, yeah, we're racing. Even though we're not racing, we're racing to them. So I'll start slowing it down and then they'll start taking off. And then 5 miles down the road, I'll see them pulled over or something.
I am the exact same way, where it's just like, having an STI, just the way it looks, already incites challenge.
Yeah.
So people like pull up next to me and just like, like trying to poke me or something, like trying to just get a reaction out of me. And so like when that happens, I'm already just like, nope, I'm not doing it. And if it's not really that worthy of a car.
Yeah.
The only car that I've ever done it for was an NSX on the Sepulveda Pass, because it was like the first gen NSX too. Mm-hmm. So it was just it was on a Sunday. That same day that I went to the Pierce one, I went to LA to give some donuts to my old coworkers, and then I went back to the Sepulveda Pass, and I was like, I can't pass this opportunity up. I'm really gonna chase this NSX. So I did, right? And I was literally on his tail, and I really could have overtaken him, but I just loved seeing the NSX in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to a set of lights, and I pull up next to him. He's like, "Bro, you could have taken me. Like, it could have gone," because like he was just like, so like, you could have really passed me over here. And I was just like, I really just like looking at your car, and I feel like I was really only chasing just so I could see it. And it was like, he's like, yeah, that's like the one thing that I wish I could do is see my own car. But yeah, it's like I'm not gonna do it next to like a fucking Civic or a Mustang, or like today on the way here, there were a couple of what's that car? Challengers. And a couple of Challengers were just kind of like, like going at it. I was like, dude, I'm not gonna engage because it's just like I just don't feel like it's a worthy enough car to really take down, because I feel like a lot of people who drive those cars are kind of like, questionable. And it's just like, do I really want to like say I got a ticket because I raced a Challenger or a Mustang? It's got to be something cool.
I will say this: I think I get away, not like with the cops, but with people on like the road, with more than I don't say that I should, but like you talk about people pulling up like kind of poking you wanting to race.
Yeah,
I get to times I've had like Civics or even STIs and stuff pull up next to me, and like thumbs up for the car, but they not want to like go for it. And then I'll pull up a gas station or when they pull over and I go, hey, yeah, we thought about renting it, but we can't keep up with the GTR. And I'm like, dude, this is bone stock. You'd fucking smoke me. But they just assume, oh, it's GTR. And he's clearly got that thing at 900 horsepower, even though it's really quiet. And I think that scares them more, that it's so quiet. They're like,
oh, it's a sleeper.
What's he done to that thing? I think it's got to be 900 horsepower built. It's got to be. I'm like, nah, dude, it's like 300 horsepower, maybe. It's 30-year-old stock motor. It's not anything impressive. You'll whip my ass, but keeps people from wanting to race me. And I'm like, that's good, because I don't. Nope. But you do get the Challengers and the Chargers. They'll pull up next to me. They'll look at, and then you hear them take off, and it's so much noise, and they don't go anywhere. That bugs me more than anything. If your car makes a lot of noise, that's great. I'm okay with a loud car, but it better have the power to back up that noise.
Oh, exactly.
I was walking my dog one night, and on the road in front of where I live, there was it's like 3 a.m. And there's a box truck sitting at the intersection, light waiting to change, and next to it was a Challenger. And I'm just watching, and I'm not watching it like directly, but I'm just like, oh, cool, Challenger, whatever. Because that's still cool looking cars.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. I'm turning, and then I hear a light change because I hear them both take off. Of course, it's a giant box truck, so it's just whatever, right? But I hear, and I'm like, oh shit, he's going. I turn, and he's beside the box truck. I'm like, that box truck is keeping up with you, and you're at full throttle. Barely. I'm like, if you're making that much noise, by the time I turn around, you better be at the next light or just gone. That is all you've done is like removed a muffler and think you're a badass. Like, no, build that engine out, make it, because they can be fast cars. Yeah. I mean, look at like the Hellcats are actually pretty quick. Yes. The Demon is just ridiculous. So I have absolute respect for those cars, but you can't just go buy the stock 6-cylinder, stock V8 even, and expect that thing just to be a monster for taking out the exhaust. It's got to be built up, and that's just where it's like you just want to be noisy. And it's 3 a.m. Shut the fuck up.
I know. I fucking hate that. Of all like the American V8s, I think Mopars sound like the nastiest. Like, I'm not a fan. I think like Chevy makes the better sounding engines.
Oh, absolutely.
And then
to be fair, I'm a Chevy guy though, so
yeah. Well, I just love the LS. I think the engineering behind the LS was just amazing, and the fact that you can just crate that motor into almost anything is amazing. And on top of that, it just sounds good. The Ford motors, kind of there. Like, I like the Coyote engine. Not a fan of the flat plane V8s that they're putting out right now, because I just like the cross planes just sound so much better in my opinion. But then you get the Mopars, and I think Mopars are just made to sound like ugly. Like, they're too raw for me.
Yeah. I think they're trying to sound, and I could be wrong, but it feels like they're trying to sound like the old 60s muscle cars.
Yeah.
But it's not quite there. Because they can. If you put the right build on them, stuff, you can make them sound really good. Nope, nobody does that. They just throw an exhaust kit on there, like, cool, yeah, now it sounds really good. And it's like, no, it doesn't.
Of all the engines that are there, though, I think Mopars do best with superchargers. I feel like Mopars have to have like a supercharger whine. It's like having frosting on a cake. You wouldn't have cake without frosting. Like, you want frosting on some cake, and I feel like they just go hand in hand. When you have that supercharger whine on top of that V8 sound, like, oh.
And they're not that expensive. Like,
right.
If you want a car that can have a lot of power for not a whole lot of money, the Mopars right now is where you want to go.
I know. Because
you can get those cars stupid cheap. And yeah, they might not have much power on the lower end of the spectrum, and they may sound like shit. But you throw like $5,000-$6,000 at it, and you get a ton of power, and the engine can take it, and it'll go and it'll sound moderately better. But if you want to do like a Corvette or a Camaro or a Mustang, you're putting more money into it to get that power, either to where you want to be or past it. And it's like, I'd rather put that money into Skyline or like or buy like an old 240 and throw an LS in a 240 because
that's a very common swap.
Yeah.
I've seen.
There's books out there for how to put an LS in just about every car. I guarantee you, there's already a guide to put an LS in a 400Z. Guarantee it. Somebody's looked at that car and went, "Yeah, I can do that. Adam. Here's what's put together right now. Here's a kit. We'll sell it to you right now."
Especially if like you're the kind of shop or guy that puts LSs in anything, because they even put them in bugs.
Yeah,
like Beetles.
How? That would terrify me.
Yeah.
I don't
imagine if it's a true rear engine drive. Like, dude, it's a lot of weight on the back.
How's that thing not popping a wheel?
Yeah, no, that's what I was literally going to say.
The first thing you have to do is like, all right, buy like 40 pounds of cement and throw in the front.
Yeah, right.
To offset the weight of this engine.
And it's just like, dude, like, how would you?
And the crazy thing is, the people that do that, it's like they don't even take that car on the road. They take it out in the sand. It's like, yeah,
they make dune buggies.
Let's take this car and put 500 horsepower in a car that weighs 500 pounds, and let's put it on the most unstable ground we can, and just fucking send it.
I know.
Like, I have mad respect, and they ramp it like, oh, look at that hill. Yeah, I'm going off that hill. I'm like, y'all are nuts.
I'm getting air, dude. Like, when people like swap engines into cars, that to me is just like. That to me is like the car community at its greatest, because it's like, dude, how the hell are you putting this kind of an engine in there? Like, when this last car show I went to was like focused on minis, right? And like traditional minis are super small. Like, I can see how they became this whole front wheel drive phenomenon, obviously. But dude, this guy, he put a K24. It's like an S2K like motor inside of a Mini, and it was just fitted beautifully.
Yeah, well, what was it? Mighty Car Mods took one of those and put a Type R motor in it.
Oh shit!
I was like, what? Now I want to see that LS swapped.
Wow,
the motor's the size of the car.
Literally,
I don't even know how you would do it, but somebody will figure it out.
So trying to think about that right now. It probably wouldn't even be like if I'm thinking how you would put an LS swap in that car.
You'd have to make it rear engine.
You'd have to make it rear engine because
And
that's
it
the
would
only way you'll
literally
get the space.
just you'd sit on the manifold.
Yeah, dude, you'd be sitting on the manifolds. It's just like, what the hell?
Oh, that's
Like-
a lot.
I know that's just like so ridiculous. To just be like, yeah, that's the only way I can see you fitting an LS, and I'm sure people have done it.
So if you want to talk about putting engines that shouldn't be in something in places they shouldn't be, Dodge still wins with the Tomahawk.
Oh,
You
yeah.
familiar with that?
I think I briefly
the,
pulled this up.
I want to say it's a V12, V10. It's out of the Viper, but it's the motor out of the Viper on a motorcycle. It's so stupid.
Holy. Okay, no, I don't think I've heard of this. Holy crap!
Yeah.
There it
Is that what it is?
Yeah. The Dodge Tomahawk, it is nuts.
Play that. Play. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's a motorcycle.
That right there.
What?
When I think Dodge and people talk about the crazy stuff Dodge does, that's what I think of. I don't think of their cars. I think of the Tomahawk.
They took it out of the Viper.
Oh
It's
my
like-
god.
It's like you know what's wrong with the Viper? The body. All we need is a motor. And it's got too many wheels. Well, technically, I guess it doesn't because this has 4 wheels as well.
So could you register that as a 4-wheel vehicle?
I
It is.
I have no idea how you would even buy
let's do
that.
it.
What?
'Cause I don't remember. These are old. Like these have been around for a long time.
Oh
I mean, look
my
at the Viper it's being compared to.
God.
So it's been out for a while. But yeah, they are
That's insane.
Engine on
nuts.
wheels.
Like, how do you cool that thing? Is it air cooled?
It's air cooled.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You go faster.
You have to go fast. It's the only way you cool it.
That's the Dodge solution to everything.
Go fast.
Like it's
Just
not
go
working. We'll
faster.
speed up.
I know, right?
It'll either fix itself or break sooner. Go for it.
I know, right? Oh my god. Well, we could sit here and talk cars forever, but
That's what I do all day.
I know. Damn, this is like our longest podcast
Yeah, man.
to date. Like, holy crap. We could probably keep going just
Hey,
talking
yeah.
about like cars and video
When
games.
it cools down, I'd love to see. I would love to see the.
R32.
Yeah, well, like I said, come
I
out
have
to
yet to see it.
Come out.
Well, I mean, I've
Oh,
seen it.
that's
No.
right.
I've
Oh.
yet to actually like go and like you.
Well,
I've seen it, but
Did
I
I bring
didn't.
it to lunch?
No,
I don't think it
the
was
time
running
we
at
had
the time.
lunch.
Yeah, it
you brought
wasn't
the
running.
Lancer because it wasn't running.
Yeah, I was having.
And then I did see it when I went to Pierce, but you weren't around, so I didn't really I saw it, but I didn't
Okay.
really get to see
Yeah.
it. So
Well, unless something goes wrong, I'll be at Pierce tomorrow, so you should swing by.
well, maybe that's what we should do, man.
Yeah, I may not be there until like 8:00 because I'm bad about waking up at 7. I literally live right next door to Pierce, like
Yeah.
on the same city block as Pierce,
Wow.
and I sometimes still don't make it on time. That's how lazy I am in the morning.
Understandable.
I don't do more. I woke up today at like 10:00 in the
Nice.
morning, like 10 a.m.
An easy 10. You're like, man, it's hot.
No, I woke up and I went, nah, son. Went right back to sleep. I was like, it's not PM yet. I ain't getting up. It's a Saturday. I don't do the AM.
Right.
My AM and Saturday is that like 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. Not this crap in the noon. Nope.
You do like late working hours too sometimes.
Not working hours. I
Yeah.
just stay up playing video games.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl. That's what I usually do. Though I'm not
Okay,
as
dude.
much night owl as I used to be. I used to stay up to like 7, 8 a.m. Like, oh, the sun's out. I guess I should go to bed. But now come 2 or 3 o'clock, I'm like, yeah, I'm tired. Time for some.
There you go. Well, yeah, man. Maybe we should go see it tomorrow.
Yeah, hit me up on.
I'll probably
Instagram.
just bring the 8.6. It's so janky.
Yeah, bring it out. You've seen some of the stuff that's out there. It's fit right in,
That's so true.
and you'd still get a ton of attention because it's 6.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, man.
I know. Pop-up headlights. That's
Yeah,
so
man.
dope.
That's what the Skyline needs.
That I know, right?
Could you make a Skyline with pop-up headlights? That'd be the weirdest
That'd make
thing.
my dick
I'm
hard.
actually not 100% sure that'd look any good, but I'd want it.
I know. It's
They could be like, that'll make it uglier.
such
I'm
a
like, yeah, I'd
bygone era.
miss it.
Pop-up headlights, such a bygone era. So
Damn
whenever I flip
pedestrians.
those, I know, right? Whenever I flip up those like high beams, just for the sake of it, it's just I want to see it pop up like. I like jizz a little bit. It's so fun. But yeah, man, thanks for coming, bro.
Absolutely.
You know, and like
Thanks for having
me. Thanks for hanging,
maybe
man.
one of these times we'll have a podcast where we're doing our cars. And we're
Next time
talking
you come
about
back, this thing will be swapped. This old Nissan over here.
We'll
I
have an
got in high
RB.
school.
Dude,
Yes.
if that gets an RB, that'd be so fucking dope.
Does it do low end torque? Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like,
Anything's tunable.
It's like, dude, I'm pretty sure you could fit an RB, and somebody's done it. Real quick before we stop, Google an Xterra with an RB26. or something like.
Well, and if you can't fit an RB, you can always just get the VQ. What's the engine in the GTR? VR, VQ. I forget which one it is.
I'm pretty sure that'll fit better because it's a V6. Fit,
yeah, V6 twin turbo. Yeah. I think it's the VR38. Or is it VR38? One of the two.
I'm not sure.
I can never remember if it's VQ or VR because I think it's VR because it's a GTR and the VQ is in
the Z.
Or it's in the Q Infinity Q.
Oh yeah.
I think that's right. I always get that crap.
Is that it right there?
All wrong.
Do any of them have it? What's that top left one? I think that's it. Is that it?
26.
RB26. And is that in an Xterra?
Yeah, that's a 26. I don't know if that's an Xterra.
No, that looks like a regular Skyline.
No, that looks. I don't know if that's a Skyline, but it's definitely something.
You would know.
Yeah, the front clip, but I mean, it could be modified. If it has like roof pins, it could look different, or hood pins.
Oh man,
what swap?
I'm pretty sure it exists somewhere there.
I'll tell you what you got to do. You want to talk about doing a swap? There was a car at the Tokyo Auto Salon a few years back that was an R32 body swapped onto an R35 GTR.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah,
that's nuts. That is super nuts. And they had to like adjust like the chassis length and all that, right?
Or
was that backwards?
No, there was the B is for Build did recently did an R34
onto an R35
onto an R35
okay,
chassis,
that's the one
and they had
I
to
saw.
cut 4 inches out of the chassis.
Okay.
But this one was in Japan, and it was an R32, and I think they had to widen the R32 body to fit. I think that's what they had to do, and they may have had to change the drivetrain as well. I don't remember. I don't know what all they had to do because it was just like, oh look, here's an R32 with the RB. Like at first, it looked like they just put the motor out of the 35 in there, but then they go around the inside, and you're like, no, that's the 35 interior as well. That's like the whole 35. What the hell? And then it was I forget who. I think it might have been Noriaro a video. He's like, this is it, and then he just goes to something else. And I'm like, dude, show that some more. That's not his thing. He was off on other stuff. So I was like, oh man.
Mike, it looks like I'll be the first. What's the displacement on the RB?
RB26 2.6. That's what the 26 means.
Right.
Yeah. The Nissan. I love Nissan's naming convention because they tell you everything
simple.
about the
name.
name.
Obviously VQ 40 DE 4 liter.
Yeah, I don't know what VQ stands for though.
I don't know
because in RB it stands for Racing Bred.
Right.
Because it's from the racing platform. So it's Racing Bred 2.6 liter dual overhead cam electronic fuel injection twin turbo. It's RB26 DETT.
Yeah.
That's why the other ones are like the RB, the DET single turbo.
Right.
DE is naturally aspirated.
Wow.
There is no
Nissan
name in
VQ engine. That's so cool. Freaking awesome, dude. Oh my god. Dude, yeah, you should swap. That'd be so cool. What if you're the first guy that does that? Maybe if an RB even fits. That's really the question. I mean, most people went to V6s because they can fit in more cars than straight sixes, but straight sixes are just
you cut
better
that firewall,
engineered.
you'll make it fit. Is the Xterra all-wheel drive?
No, it's weird.
Oh well, you've got to get the all-wheel drive system.
Oh, there
you gotta do a full GTR drivetrain.
Xterra GTR. That'd be so nuts.
You have to put the GTR badge on there.
Yes.
That's not GTR. Go, oh,
yes,
but it is.
But it is. But wait, there's more.
It is where it matters.
I know, right? Oh, dude,
that'd be nuts.
That'd be so cool. Oh my god,
I'm keeping that thing.
I tell you what, I'd really want an RB swap. I wanted to, and it turns out it was expensive. All that stuff we're talking about with California making getting a car legalized here only matters if the car is newer than 1967. 1967 and older, you can skip carb. They don't even care.
Right.
Well, the Skyline actually comes from the brand Prince in Japan. Like Prince was bought by Datsun and then became Nissan. Okay. So Skyline started like in the 50s.
Right.
So I wanted to get a Prince Skyline. And it looks like the old like 40s, 50s era cars.
Look up this one real quick, Mike.
And I thought, man, that'd be so cool to get. So I reached out to a couple of importers. The Prince Skyline.
Did they government fleet them or something, or just like a commuter car?
It was just a commuter car. Yeah. Wasn't even a sports car.
Yeah.
And see how that looks? I thought, so that's either going to be one of two things. In Japan, it's going to be an old beater that no one really cares about, or it's going to be like the 57 Chevrolet in the U.S. It's going to be really sought after because it's a Skyline, so it could be really sought after for the nameplate. So I reached out to, I forget which importer I ended up talking to, and I was like, hey, can you get me an old Prince Skyline, and how much would I be looking at? I'm like, oh, yeah, give us a couple days to see what we can find. And I thought, man, I hope they give me a fine one.
Quoted
and they said, we found one running. Probably need some work, but it is running. And I go, okay. And they're, you're looking at about $60,000 to bring it over. And I'm like,
shit.
Oh, and I thought, can I get one that's not running and do an RB swap on it?
Yeah, right.
And make a Prince Skyline GTR.
Whoa.
So in the back of my head, again, if money's no object, that's something I really, really want to try to do. But man, you want to talk about something that's probably not been done.
Wow, that's like uncharted waters there.
But could you imagine rolling up to like a JDM Classics meet where you see Supras and stuff and pulling up into that?
Dude, you'd win.
People would be like, what in the world's going on here?
You'd fucking win.
Yeah, Leno would probably want to talk to you. You know,
yeah, he'd probably bring you into his garage.
Yeah, it's true.
Man.
Like, hey, I got something you don't have.
He's probably
like, shit, he's probably got one.
I know, right?
I'd be like, hey man, I got a Prince Skyline. He goes, oh yeah, I got two. I was like, what?
Well, it's not swap. Like,
yeah, it's RB swap. He goes, what? You know what? Give me a week.
it's like, yeah, I got it now.
That dude's such a goofball, man. I love Jay Leno. He's so cool.
Yeah, man.
I really liked his series on YouTube, especially the early ones.
The garage
I feel like
series?
Jay Leno's garage, like he was just
It's
talking
always fun,
a lot
man.
about like the stuff that
It
he
just
had.
blows my mind how much that dude knows.
I know.
Like you see him on YouTube,
And he
you're
loves it, man. You love passion.
Well,
man.
when you see him like on YouTube, you're like, okay, well, he knows what they're talking about because they were going to record this video. He did his research. But I've seen him at like shows, and he'll just walk down the line of cars and tell you the entire history of every random car at the show. It's like, how do you know all of this? I know he doesn't just like know, oh yeah, that car came out. He's like, oh yeah, so and so was the engineer on that, and they got the idea from this. Like he knows like deep level, like fanatical stuff about everything.
Dude, he's just like
I was
nuts.
like, how in the hell are you like? And then of course he has like what 300, 400 cars. There's like hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. And it's just like walked around in what denim.
Yeah,
Shirt,
yeah, right.
pants,
Chilling.
just chill. Like, if you didn't know who he was, you're like, he's just another dude. And it's like, nope, he's the dude.
He's like the car guy.
Yeah,
He's the car guy.
like
Like,
just so chill. I love it.
yeah, no, it's just like, and he's here.
Yeah.
He's like out of Burbank or something, like over there. And like whenever he does these like tests, he's
Mhm.
like in Angeles Crest
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
something off the like every time he does a car review on the highway, he's on the 210.
210.
So it's just
Latoona,
like,
somewhere,
dude,
San Fernando.
How have I never seen him? Every time I go to the 210, I never see Jay Leno, but I know he's there.
I've seen him on the road once, I think, because I was out in the Burbank area, which is where his garage is,
Right.
and I forget what the car was I saw, but I saw this one car. I was like, you never see that. And I went, I bet that was Jay Leno because this is right where his garage is, and that's a bizarre like 40s era car. That's got to be Jay Leno because there's no one else that would have that car just out driving.
Dude, seriously.
And it's nuts because he has that garage with all those cars in it, right? And you've seen video; he's got it all decorated and everything. It's not open to the public.
Right.
That's to me, honestly, it's kind of cool. That means he's done all that because he likes it.
Because
It's not doing it. He's not doing it to like sell tickets and get people to come and like he affords his
Monetize it.
cars because
Yeah.
he's monetizing it. I mean, he does it through YouTube with
Yeah.
showing stuff up, but that he can control it. You're not letting a lot of people in. It's just that's his place.
Yeah.
And you know what? I respect that. I think that's so cool that he's doing that just because he could easily just turn that into a museum. Like, check out all this stuff. I'm like, yeah,
Probably
okay,
will at some point.
I'll pay like $100 to come look at a bunch of cars because this is awesome to see. He's got everything. I mean, Peterson's awesome. I love the Peterson.
Oh, I
Museum.
saw that you went there.
Yes.
You saw the Mines R34.
Yeah. They've got some really cool stuff. Dude, that wasn't even the coolest car I saw there. They have,
Really?
I don't remember what it was, but there was a car that's like twin jet engine powered. It's got like
Wow.
2000. I think I have a picture of it on my phone. I'll have to see if I can send it to y'all.
See if you could pull this twin. What was it? What kind of car was it?
That's what I have to look up. Is like what the
Twin
car
jet
was.
engine car. I know jet engines were when they were starting
This
in
is
their
like
infancy.
a new car.
Oh, it's a new
Yeah,
car.
I took a picture of the plate. I just gotta find it.
It looks like a Batmobile. Holy crap! That's like an MR2.
It's the Koenigsegg Regera Honey.
Oh,
Is that it?
Koenigsegg.
Or did I?
Koenigsegg is
with the
K-
No,
OE.
no, I gave you the wrong card.
What?
The wrong car. It is the Devil Devel.
Devel.
Yeah, Devel 16 V8 prototype, and probably put Peterson because that's where it was at. This thing looks like what the Batmobile would be if like it really
it was
existed.
real. Is that it? It looks like a Zonda on the right. Is that it? Devel.
Did I give you the right car? I don't have my pixtures are in terrible order. Yeah, that's it because I
pull
have
up
a picture of
pull
it.
up that first. Yeah, that one right there.
See if you can get a rear shot of it. You'll see the exhaust ports.
And that's a jet car powered
Yeah.
by a jet engine.
Yeah.
What?
Here's the back of it.
Holy crap! Pull up the rear.
Oh, there you go.
Oh
scroll
shit!
Up, scroll up a little bit more. Right there. There's one of the turbines. Of course, it's also a V8. So I don't know what the turbines are doing for that V8, but
Is it just providing thrust? At
I guess.
speed?
But yeah, if you can get a back shot, like keep scrolling down, see if it shows the back. No, they're not showing the back because the back has these. That's how we actually noticed what it was because we looked at it and we're like, all of the mass of this car is in the back. Like the front is so far forward.
Yeah.
And we're like, it doesn't look like it there, but that front's like this big. And we were like,
Oh, look at that side view, right there.
no, there you go. There's the back.
Holy crap!
Those are the exhausts for the turbines. Those giant holes.
So, I see the intake right there. Because I'm like, how do you feed, like when you feed a jet engine, it's got to have a pretty clear path of air. So it's the reason probably why all that arrow is in the front is to channel air into where you feed the jet engine.
The entire car is carbon fiber.
Well, damn.
I'm not to be surprised, but like that thing was, it was in their hypercar display.
Yeah, how are you not going to fly away with that thing, man?
Yeah, it was like, oh my, I have to imagine it's like a one of like 4. Because I just can't imagine that there's many of them.
Nuts.
Because I think it's like $2, $3, $4 million car kind of deal. It's insane. Like, we didn't even know what we were looking at. We looked at it because we saw the front. Well, that's cool. We walked we completely missed the engine on the side because it was up so we could see it.
Yeah.
But we're just like, yeah, whatever. That's the motor. And we wanted to look at it because we were like, what is this car? We're just curious. All this carbon fiber. So we're like so fixated on the carbon, little car. Yeah. We missed the giant turbine. And then we get to the back and we're like, what are those? It was like turbine jet and no, we looked at this, oh shit, it is. And we went to the side and we started taking a ton of pictures. It was like, and it was so funny. Everyone that walked up to it had the exact same reaction. They would see the back and go, what in the world? Those are jets.
Oh my God,
Jeez,
that's
man.
nuts. Because I can't imagine, like, there's no way you're
see
firing
right there.
up a
Look at
jet.
that shot there where the wheel is. Look how small the front of the car actually is. It's like, there's your windshield. The car's done.
Jeez.
Everything else on that car is the engine.
All jet.
Wow. Dude, that thing looks like a fuselage.
Yeah, like I said, it looks like what the Batmobile would be if you really were to build one.
Holy
and keep to like the Tim Burton era with the giant jet engine.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Man.
It is.
Oh, there's the wing.
It is cool to see.
I was wondering if they were going to have a wing because how are you going to keep that thing like planted?
Down, yeah.
It's impressive. Now, I say it's impressive to see. It could be a shit car. I don't know, but it looks cool.
I can't. How do you control a jet engine car if it's not going straight? You know? Like, do you turn off one jet
and, let
and then just kind of let the other jet steer it in like a certain direction?
Anakin it a little bit, like
it's like pod racing. What if it is like looks like pods? Like if you look at Anakin Skywalker's pod in Episode 1, it kind of looks like that.
Throw it in reverse and you're good to go.
You'd be fighting Sebulba with that shit.
That's the question. How does that thing work in reverse? If the jet engine, you can't turn the jet engine around. That's what the V8 motor's for. Is just for the reverse gear.
Just for
you choke out the jet. And you
oh, dude, that'd be so hilarious. Yeah, that's all the V8's for. Just for reverse.
Yeah, that's funny.
It only engages in one gear.
And that's
at the end of the day, the V8 engine and the jet engines are just charging a battery, and it's technically an electric car.
Oh, it's just for show. And all the batteries are just flat on the ground,
Flat
keeping
cell.
it planted.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the center of gravity is
Yeah.
super low or whatever. Oh my God, that'd be super
way
funny.
to troll everybody.
Damn, that is nuts.
That is an awesome
man.
car.
I would
The whole
love to see
hypercar section is the whole wing. They got like it's a room, but they got like 12 or 13 different cars, and it's super cool. Some of the stuff they had in there was really nice.
Wow.
And they have a whole, now they have a whole
Visit.
James Bond display. So a bunch of the Aston Martin that they accidentally set a world record with is in there.
What was the world record?
Most times flipping a car.
Really?
Yeah. Did you watch
Last one?
No, it was like, the first one with Daniel Craig, the Casino Royale.
Yes.
You know, the scene where like he's driving and then she's in the road and he cuts and flips.
Yes.
They were only supposed to flip the car like once, maybe twice, but
Okay.
it flipped like 9 times, and they filmed the entire thing. And that was like a world record at the time for the most flips of a car.
Really?
I don't know if it was in a movie or in general. I don't know how that works. But yeah, that car, it was only supposed to flip a couple of times, and it went just, I think it's because it was a slight hill, so it just kept rolling down the hill.
It was a test track in England, right?
I
think
have
so.
no idea, but yeah, it was a technically
Oh,
a
here's
world
the clip.
record.
Yeah, play that. Play
Yeah.
that. That was a world record?
Yeah, like, but it was an accident. They didn't plan it, but thankfully they had a camera set up to catch it. But yeah, in that scene, he was only supposed to roll the car like once or twice,
Oh my God.
and it rolled more than that.
Holy crap. Oh, there. It's coming.
Yeah, it's kind of because she's just suddenly in the road.
Yeah, she's just, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like right there, I think, because he comes over the edge.
Yeah,
and
there you
boom.
go.
So he swerves, and it was supposed to be like, okay, 1, 2, and it's like, okay, we're done, and it just kept going. Like
Damn.
that was
a real Aston Martin.
Yeah, that was not planned, and they have that car there in its final condition. Like they
Just like
literally
right
looked at
there.
Yeah, it's fully wrecked. It's everything. But could you imagine being the stunt driver in that car? Because you got to think how much they plan these things. Like, okay, you're going to go here, you're going to turn at this mark, push whatever button launches the car.
And you're going to flip once.
Flip a couple of times, come to a stop, and we'll have the crew there to get you out, right? And after that second flip, and you're like, this car's still going. Uh-oh. 3, 4, 5. What in the world? Do you imagine he got out and he had to be like, tell me you recorded that. That's going on my
At least it landed like right side up, too.
Yeah, which is, I mean, all things considered, they didn't know what it was going to do once that second flip went. They're like, it could go end over end. Who knows what's going to happen? And supposedly, if I remember correctly, the stunt driver just walked out.
Wow.
He's doing his job. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they enforced the car to protect him. He had, if you did this car, you'd probably be really messed up. But he was set up for it. Yeah. But even then, he was set up for like 2 flips.
Just 2.
It's like, they say, in Hollywood, they try to make sure you're safe by being overly prepared, and that's why. Because that time, they might have just been prepared.
Expect the unexpected. Right.
I was just like, but they have that car there. They got like the Lotus submarine that they had built for one of the older movies.
Oh yeah, it's a very classic Bond.
Yeah, it's like
Bond car.
That's the car I think of when I think of like modified Lotuses. I don't even think of like a modified. I think of that. I want a Lotus that goes underwater and comes back.
Lotus.
Yeah,
that's so nuts. Yeah, Bond had some really dope cars.
Oh yeah, they have all.
He probably transformed Aston Martin single-handedly.
Oh yeah,
James.
Except for that stint where he decided to go into BMW.
Yeah, that was definitely a whole different era.
Yeah,
that was they had some sort of partnership there, but really like
product placement, light.
Aston Martin's really like.
Dude, I would love an Aston.
I would love an Aston.
They're apparently not that reliable. Well, to be fair, I think now they're pretty good, but when Ford owned them, they weren't that reliable. And that's like the era I would want because I love those cars, like the DB9, the Vantage, or the Vanquish, the V12 Vanquish. I would kill for having one of those.
I feel like they're real Grand Tourers.
Yeah,
those cars, those V12s, like supercars, like
especially Aston. Yeah, they're meant to just get that highway and just go.
And just like eat the miles and just go.
Yeah, you could, but I wouldn't want to put one on a track. Not even because of the risk of wrecking it. Just I don't think it would be that fun.
Yeah, it's like those cars are built for like more comfort. I feel like when you get a Grand Tourer, like an Aston DBS or a Vantage or a Vanquish V12, like you're getting it for you're going across Europe, which is a Grand Tour, right? Mm-hmm. You're going across Europe or you're going across the US, and you just want to go, and you don't worry about like cornering. Yep. You don't worry about like braking speed.
You just worry about the car braking down.
Yeah, you just go, And that's what I think when I think of a Grand Tourer. I definitely think of this generation of Astons.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like I feel like they just did it right. Yeah, there were cars that went faster, but I feel like these cars were just look cool and were much more comfortable.
I tell you what, you can get them for a pretty good price right now.
Really?
For an Aston.
For an Aston.
So it's not like you're going for $5,000, but like you can get like a DB9 for, if you really look. Oh, easy. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I bet if you could look around, it's been a while since I've actually looked at it, so maybe I could be wrong on this, but I want to say if you look around, you could probably find one for, honestly, between 50 to 80.
Wow. That's not bad.
Now, these would be ones you'd probably have to do a bit of work to. They wouldn't be mint condition, but you could do it. Like if you really wanted to say, I bought an Aston, I put, some elbow grease into it, and now it's a good car. Yeah, you totally probably even cheaper if you're willing to do body work and stuff, like one that's been kind of dinged up a bit.
Yeah,
because people that buy these cars, they want them in mint condition. So the mint ones are stupid expensive, but as soon as like little
chip here and there, whatever,
it had to be repainted. Like something happened, and it was repainted. Oh, that's immediately knock on the price.
Knocker.
Yeah. Or you find one owned by somebody that like, I wrapped it, and I did like some like. Rap wannabe guy that like rented one and then
use it for one music video.
Yeah, but then they destroyed the car, so now you can get them on the cheap.
It's a shame.
I mean, that's how if I was to go for any sort of exotic luxury like that, that's how I'd have to go about it. But I've thought about it a few times. I have every now and then I go on like Copart and see is there a wrecked one that is super cheap now, but okay, it needs like a front steering rack. Okay, I can figure that out.
Yeah.
Front clip, whatever. I love going on Copart and seeing the crazy stuff on there, especially the cars that were on fire. Because it's like you're selling this, and like it's a burnt chassis.
I know, right? There's like no way of salvaging it.
And then it has like car value like $200. It's like, God, no.
That's freaking nuts. But yeah, I like those. I actually even like the DB11. I think they look nice.
I love all the new Astons,
Yeah.
but they're just they cost an Aston.
Yeah, they cost as much as an Aston, but definitely like the DB11s. Like I feel like they're definitely doing things right. They look nice. The design language is there, you know, like the classic Aston grille.
Yeah,
I love that Aston look, man. I think it's so dope.
I don't know though. When it comes to like these, the top end exotics, Lamborghini's always going to have my heart.
Well, they're just super like they got the Italian styling done right.
They got the styling done right,
and they're just bonkers.
It's exactly like if I get a car that I spend 6 figures on, I want it to look like it does some shit.
Yeah, right.
And a Lamborghini looks like it'll transform into a robot. It has guns hidden on it. These look like they have guns hidden on them. But that's because of James Bond.
That's because of James Bond.
Yeah. It's like you would think, okay, yeah, this looks like it would have like military hardware guns on it. A Lamborghini looks like it'll have space lasers.
I know.
Or missiles that launch out of the back of it in some way. That's what a Lamborghini does, and that's what I would want.
Sesto. Hey, look up Lamborghini Sesto Elemento.
Sesto spelled with a C?
However the
Sesto.
Italians spell it.
Yeah.
Like
you should
pesto.
get close.
Probably with an S, but I could be wrong.
Because they made this thing out of like 6 element is carbon,
Yep.
right? Sesto Elemento. And apparently the car is entirely or like mostly carbon fiber.
Yeah, if it could be carbon, it was carbon. Kind of.
Yeah.
I think they only made like 5 of it too, didn't they?
Yeah, and it was very limited.
I would imagine 6.
Pick one of those
with the name.
Like,
If it was
put it on the screen, hell yeah.
If it was 5, that would make sense. Yeah.
Look how fucking bonkers that looks, though, man. If we can get it to work. But yeah, like I think Lamborghinis definitely look like the most bonkers car. Extreme lightweight, yeah, no kidding.
I was like, Lamborghini also with their, because this is one that they're special one-off style.
Yeah, these are like more.
6 off or
yeah.
whatever. The first one that they did that they got really known for, the Rebenton, was an old it's spelled like Reventon, but the V is pronounced like a B apparently in Italy, so it's with Rebenton.
What era was this?
This was like a Murcielago style.
Oh, so early.
Yeah, but it was done in like this flat gray because it was supposed to be fighter jet inspired. And the dash, the interior dash, you would have a button. It was like your normal Lamborghini. Said it was like LCD screen. Yeah. But you pushed a button and it changed to like a fighter jet looking UI.
I
like
vaguely
with the level
remember
and
this.
stuff.
Yeah.
And when they did that, I was like, every car manufacturer should have LCD screens as their instrument cluster, and you should be able to modify or download your cluster to look however you want it. Do stylings on it and have it do all these different. And to this day, no one has done that. Like we've gone to full digital display, but they're like, yeah, no, we're still controlling.
Customization,
yeah, just let me, even if just colorizing it, let me change the color to match the car or something. Nope, can't do it. I'm like, I'm an engineer. I work in software. I know how easy or difficult that would be. It would not be difficult for them to set a very basic color swap setup. I mean, it'd be cool to upload a picture and be able to have your car on there or something. Whatever you want to do. Like for people that do Natashas, being able to have like a Natasha dash or whatever. You can do whatever you want, but no one's doing that. And I'm like, I think this is a huge miss. I thought when we went to electric with stuff like the Teslas and like with I looked at one called the Indy 1. Is this weird? It's a weird car, but it's kind of cool what they're doing with it. It's an EV, but it's got like a gaming PC built into it, and it's designed for you to be able to record like podcasts on the road kind of deal. And then the passenger has a display that they can do full video editing in. But the system can also run VR games, and you can play video games on the secondary screen.
Oh shit, it's on VR mode. Oh shit.
Yeah, it's a really neat concept.
It's
the car itself's kind of janky looking, but what the tech they're putting into it's really cool. But a big thing is it's 100% open source, so everything can be changed in it.
That's
anything,
cool.
yeah,
Which means you could change the dashboard. I thought that was really cool. You'd have to program it, you'd have to figure it out, but you could do it. It's a Linux base.
Okay.
Cool. But when like Tesla was doing their stuff, I was like, oh, they could totally make this swap. And then they're like, no, we're just getting rid of the dashboard. I'm like, that was a mistake.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The new coolness factor.
New Teslas look terrible. I've sat in them and just it feels weird not having an instrument cluster in front of you at all. Your speedometer's off on the side, which I think is not just dumb but kind of dangerous. It's like the whole thing is just stupid.
I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of Teslas in general because I just feel like they're for people who don't like to drive.
Yeah.
Period. Like I feel that way about EVs in general, but when I say they're for people who don't like to drive, I feel like people only get Teslas because they need to get from A to B, and they don't want to spend money on gas.
Nah, people that buy a Tesla, I say this: Teslas are, and this is the brilliance of Tesla. Teslas aren't cars; they're fashion statements. You buy people that buy an Apple, like an iPhone. Granted, now people buy iPhones, they like iOS, they think it's good. There is a technical side of that, but think about 90% of the people you see with iPhones and like the culture around the iPhone. It's I have an iPhone. I'm that special.
So it has
I have
it
that
factor.
Yeah, it's like I am elite because I have this. They don't. You could ask them what's the processor in that. What's how powerful is it? What can it? It's an iPhone. It doesn't matter. That's the look. And you're fine if that's your thing. Go for it. But you're not buying a phone. You're buying a fashion accessory that can make a phone call.
Right.
Teslas are the same thing for the most part. They are. I drive a Tesla. Okay. Well, what kind of power does it put out? I don't know. Okay. Well,
most owners won't be able to tell you what the horsepower conversion of what.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but it's not like.
Not that it matters to them.
Yeah, it's you wouldn't say, well, what kind of power is it? Like, oh, I don't know. It wouldn't be like they'd be like, who cares? It's a Tesla. You know, it looks good. Look how nice it looks in the parking lot. Look how smooth. Oh, it's super fast. Oh, I can take on supercar, which to be fair, yeah, it's a very fast car. I'm like, yeah, okay, but how come it's that way? It doesn't matter. It looks good and it's fast. I have a Tesla. It's that sense of power and accomplishment. It's a fashion statement. And again, go for it if that's your thing. But it's not a car at that point. Other than being technically it is a car, but it's not meant from that mindset. People that buy that aren't after a car. Not always. There's always the exception because there's people that buy Apple because they're like, I think their security is really good. And it is. They're much more secure because it's a closed system. People buy the Tesla because like, dude, it's super fast and straight line. I'm going to build this thing for a drag race. All right, fair enough. But most of the people that buy it, they have no clue what makes it better or worse than another EV. But they know that they have a Tesla. And if you have an EV and it's not a Tesla, well, they're better than you. They may not think it directly, but there's a bit of a feeling to that. And it's like, that's fine. That's what they've marketed themselves to be.
Right. That was their purchasing decision right there.
Yeah. That the decision to buying a Tesla wasn't that, oh, well, it's got better range or what. And they may say it does, but you could then show them, no, it doesn't. This has better range. So yeah, but it's a Tesla. And it's like, okay, fine. And nothing wrong with that. I bought a GTR and there were much better cars that I could have spent 30 grand on.
Right.
But I bought it because it's a GTR. There's nothing wrong with that mentality, but that is the mentality it has. Now, I bought it because it's a GTR. I'm a car guy, and I love the fact that it's a GTR.
Right.
They may just like it because they like tech. They like fashion, but it's not the car that made them buy it. So
I'm totally behind you on this,
Agreed.
where it's like, I don't think people who buy Teslas are car enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Maybe I mean,
some
to preface
are.
that,
There's
some
or
can be,
but yeah.
but it's not, if that's the case, it's not their only car.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody's really pulling up to a car show and showing off a Tesla because it's cool.
I'll say this. I've actually lately seen more and more Teslas showing up, getting
Really?
customized and really being done. And I think that's because they've been out long enough now that the secondhand market's grown.
Oh, okay.
So people that want the car because it's got good power, or I'm not very good at wrenching, which again is fine, but I want to be able to work on my car and have fun. Well, Tesla's not bad for that because the part that you would wrench on and really need to keep maintained, you don't worry about. But you want to do all kinds of customization options. There's tons of space. It doesn't have an engine. You have a whole front you can decorate and customize. So from making the car visually my own, it's actually a really good platform. And they're not weird looking. Like Teslas are good looking cars, so you can do a lot with them. But yeah, that's where I've seen a lot of it. I haven't seen new Teslas showing up at events. I see 3 or 4 year old Teslas showing up at events that are secondhand, and the person has bought them, and now they're really, they're putting suspension kits on them. They're putting usually bags. I say bags because what people love to do is put them on bags and then put the compressors in the front on a display. And I'll be honest, it kind of looks cool. It's weird. It almost looks like it's got NOS because they'll use like these things that look like they're not. But you're like, what?
What's that blue tank right there?
Yeah. What's going on here? And then they'll push a button and the car will, and then air out and lift up. And it's like, you know what?
That's cool.
Awesome. So I do see that kind of building up. But the people that have them new, they're not buying them new. They're buying them, or not buying them new for the car. They're buying it new for the status and the prestige of it.
Yeah, it's like it's so hard, and there's no clear-cut definition to like car enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. It's
right.
If you like cars, you like
If
cars.
you like cars, you like cars. we all have different views
Mhm.
on what makes a car person, but I feel like Teslas just don't necessarily belong in that category because a lot of the guesswork's been done for you. And, what are you really doing other than using it as a status symbol,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not like you can say, well, I put this in it. Unless that guy that put like an LS in one.
Rich
Okay,
rebuilds, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was amazing.
That was awesome.
And then look, I think that same guy put like a Cummins engine
Yep.
in a
Jeez.
Tesla, which is like completely bonkers, and it was funny. But it
And
was
Tesla was so mad that he did that. They were not happy. Like they were mad. Like of course they hated him for rebuilding old Teslas to begin with. They were always giving him all kinds of trouble.
yeah.
That's another reason I like Tesla. They're very against you fixing your car. But yeah, no, that was cool when he put that LS in, and apparently it performed pretty well. Of course, he did it right. They went deep in making sure it was put in correctly. It wasn't just like hacked in for the lulls. They did it like legitimately good. So
Wow. See, and that's it. But the other than those outliers,
yeah,
it's not like you can just go into a Tesla and then do this and just kind of make it your own.
Yeah.
I feel like when you get a Tesla, especially with the stuff they do that's proprietary,
Mhm.
you can't really make it your car.
Yeah.
Not like our cars. We can make our cars by putting different stuff in it, like whatever stuff you want to put in it, like an exhaust or something as simple as like an intake or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you can make your car your car.
Mhm.
But with a Tesla, it's just like, nah, daddy has something to say about it.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
what the fuck?
and
Like,
you can
come
barely
on.
do anything to the interior because it's all wired into that
Yeah, it's all
giant
part of
iPad
it.
they had there. So you can't really, I'm gonna put a new stereo in. You're not really. You're not gonna do that.
Yeah, this
Oh yeah.
like individuality, you can't really get out of a Tesla, and that's why I don't consider it an enthusiast car.
Yeah, no. And it's also like you think about it, probably it's not an enthusiast car because it's an EV. But while I may not like it, the Mustang EV is, I'd say that can be an enthusiast car because you could be an enthusiast about Mustang, about Ford's racing heritage. You can be an
Yeah.
enthusiast
Sure.
about all
It
that.
carries the
There's
And
name.
then you're
integrity
like,
to
but
it.
I want an EV, and I like the Mustang, but Tesla doesn't really have any of that.
Yeah, well, they just
You buy a
have
Tesla
just-
if you're like an electrification fanatic. You're like, I like their
I'm
their
a
ball
Nikola
power.
Tesla fan.
Yeah. I'm against wow, I'm blanking. It was Nikola Tesla and Edison. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there you go.
I was like Jefferson. No, that ain't
AC
right.
versus
Edison. Yeah, it's
DC.
like I'm anti-Edison. I'm all Tesla.
That'd be
I'm
funny.
on Reddit, so I have a Tesla, which I'm surprised they don't have like an app for a Tesla where you can have Reddit open. They might actually, I don't know, but yeah, it's like it's just there's a certain ideology and a certain culture around the Tesla that's different than most other cars
Car
when it comes to the
cultures.
car culture. But at the same time, if I see you out in a Tesla and you roll up and you're a cool dude or dudette, whatever,
That's
I'm
what
cool with
matters
you.
more.
Yeah.
Is that like it doesn't matter what you drive
Mhm.
if it has wheels and you're a nice guy or,
Yep.
or girl or whatever,
Exactly.
whatever you identify as, that's cool. Like I think you get, and that's just kind of like the bottom line here is like you don't have to drive a really nice Mustang or a really nice like a Tesla, whatever you drive, just as long as you're a cool person
Exactly.
and the car community. You respect it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not trying to two-step or you're not trying to do donuts in the middle of a street intersection.
Yeah.
I think
Seriously?
that's like,
Those
no,
takeovers
it's
are so
stupid. The
annoying.
takeovers give the car community such a bad name.
Mhm.
If you don't do any of those things and you're showing up to meets with an open mind and a good attitude,
Yep.
props to you.
And as long as you understand what you have.
yeah, that too. And
Like
you're
people
not
that
trying
roll
to
up in
pull-
like a 4-banger Honda and they're like, oh, I'll smoke anybody here. It's like, dude, your car's nice, but it's not that nice. Come on now. Respect what you got. Like I said, I've got an R32 GTR. I'd be like, oh man, this thing's got to be the fastest thing. No, it's not. Most of these cars can probably take you. If they've put any money in their engine, they can take me. But it's a fun car and I enjoy it.
yeah,
That's the idea to have. Like, love what you have. One thing that I used to say I didn't care about, but it's grown to kind of irk me a bit, is when people falsely badge a car.
Man, good thing I debadged mine. Not unbadged. Oh, shit. Jeez.
I'm with you on this.
It's like
Yeah,
it's like it used to, because before I bought my car, there was a guy in Salt Lake. He had a GTST, but it had GTR badge on it.
Okay.
And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, cool, GTR. And I was like, that didn't look right. And he's like, no. And he even said, no, it's a GTST. I just put the badge on it. I'm like, okay, it's your car, whatever. Have fun, right? It didn't bother me.
Okay.
Then the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, dude, just rep what you got. Enjoy it. Yeah, be proud. I mean, you got a fucking GTST. Be happy that
That's
you got
better
that.
than
That's
most.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't lie about what you got. At least he was on like, no, it's not. But if he was like, yeah, no, it's a GTR, and I no, it's not. It's like, because then you look like you don't know what you're talking about, and that's
Right,
worse.
That drives me up a wall because, like, I know a lot of people who put STI badges on their WRX, and like
throw the wing and call it a day.
Yeah, throw the wing on and then put the STI badge. The wing's no problem. The badge is. Yeah. It's just like, bro.
But then that also brings on, like, what if they'd like modify the engine, put all the body kits? Like, what if they get like 80% there,
89%
for that what they could do without buying it, where it's effectively a STI, but it's not. It's like. Then they put the badge on there, and they even say, "Well, it's not a real STI, but I've done this."
But if they're humble about it, that's different.
It's like then it becomes like a, if you're going to falsely badge your car against what it is, at least be honest and be respectful, and don't just do it unless you're like doing something completely wrong. Like you have like a Civic and you put a GTR badge on it. Well, obviously that's sacrilege. First off, I'm going to be like, no, but then I'm also going to give you a thumbs up because it'll piss somebody off, which means I'm going to like it. But at the same time, if you're like, no, I put it on there because I can beat any GTR. I was like, well, okay, now we got a problem. I guarantee you a 35 will just destroy you. But, if you're like legitimately trying to pass your car off as something that it's not through badging, it's like, come on, dude, just be proud of what you got.
Yeah, there's lots of M up badging and AMG up badging up.
Yeah, M badging is
M badging is another common one where they
nuts,
put like
man.
M badges on a.
That's the one I see the most, where all they do is like a little bit of a paint work, throw the badging on there, and it's got the M badge. And then, but to be fair, almost every person I've seen do that, I'm like, yeah, an M? No. They're straight like, no, it's not them. But it's just, I just like the badge. And it's like, okay, well, when'd you buy an M? I couldn't afford it. And I'm like, all right, okay, well, be proud of what you got. You got a fucking BMW, dude. 3 Series. You know how much those are going for right now? Probably sell that and get an old M Series.
I know.
Just enjoy what you got. But that one thing I find that as I get older, when I see it, it irks. I'm like, you should no. But then if the person's cool about it, I'm like, all right, I wouldn't do it, but. All right, go for it.
I wouldn't do it either, but it's just because it's like, well, I have what I have.
Yeah,
I'm proud of whatever I have, and if it's not this particular package, like I'm not putting an S209 badge on my STI.
There you go.
It's just like, but I'm happy with what I got, and you don't have to go fast either. You don't have to necessarily go fast to have fun in the car.
Yeah. Oh no.
And I probably know this better than most because this 8.6 I have is so slow.
Oh,
that's so slow.
I learned that at a track day. We went to Streets of Willow, and I took my Lancer because the GTR was down at the time.
Cool.
And it was a track day. A friend of mine's uncle had rented. I think it was uncle rented out the whole track. So it was like 8 of us on the whole track, which was really cool.
So
and he took his R35, and I got to drive his R35 on the track, and I got to drive my Lancer on the track, and I had more fun in the Lancer, partly because I owned the Lancer, so I wasn't as worried about wrecking it.
Sure.
But it was slower, but it was also in the right power band on that track.
Because you feel like you maxed the engine out
like
more.
It's good.
I never got to a point where I felt like the engine's holding, like it needs to get to speed faster. I mean, obviously I'd have liked to get to speed faster, but it felt good. Brakes worked good in the area. Like it just handled well for that track. Not that my by any means, but then I got his car, I'm constantly like, okay, braking. Oh, the power's it's taking off. Okay, now turn real hard. It's like so much. I wasn't used to that much power, which didn't help. But also, it was just like, this is almost too much power to have fun at this track. And even he drives that car every day. And he's like, yeah, I wish it was about 200 less horsepower to really go to town on this track.
Interesting, yeah.
And I mean, he was also having some brake issues, like they were fading after like 4 laps, so that was another worry.
Damn, only 4 laps.
Well, yeah, we had street pads, and we didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. We thought his tires were going to be a problem before the brakes were, and we were wrong. So he had to come in every so often on them cool. But even when he was out there, he's just like, I just wish it was a little less power. Like I wish he could turn it down to about 200 horsepower, and he said it'd probably be really good. And my car, I was out there just sending it, having fun with it.
Nice.
My Lancer or whatever. I still want to take my GTR out there at some point, but that's why I want to get a 350 now. Because I want to take that out to the track and just like, build a track day car out of it. Yeah. So yeah, low power can be a ton of fun.
Yeah, because you see the limits.
Yeah,
or at least you can get to it.
Yeah, and it's important to start low and work your way up. Because if you just jump straight into a 600, 700 horsepower car before you ever really learn what a 300 horsepower car can do, you're just going to wrap it around a tree.
That's so true.
Or into the field, thankfully. That's what Streets of Willow has. But I never went off track, which I'm proud of. Almost did about 3 times.
Nice.
The best part is you see the tire marks where people have it off the track. You're like, well, that's clearly a dangerous part. Be careful there. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, just start low and work your way up.
Dang. I wonder how much a track day at Willow is.
Yeah,
because like we have a friend that lives pretty close to that track.
I don't remember. I had looked into it at one point. I think you just have to find like the event you want to go to and when I went to our day, getting on the track was like a couple $100.
Damn, cool.
But that was like for the full day, doing different heats and stuff. But that was also a GTR specific event. So I don't know if that price was higher or lower. I don't know if there was a GTR tax on that. But I mean, it's not terribly expensive to go. It's more expensive just to get the car to go. And you have to, of course, buy a helmet and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do it. If you get a chance, do it. I was actually nervous. I was like, I don't know if I'll be any good on the track. I'm in love with it. I want to go back so bad. When I was at our day, I couldn't go on the track because I didn't have a pass to get in. And you have to roll your windows down, and my window won't go down. And I just didn't want to spend $250 or whatever it was to go on the track that day. But I was like, God, it hurt. I was like, I want to be out there so bad. I was like, I want to go back so bad.
Oh man, I definitely want to take my car out to the track. I just want to know like the limits because I can barely find out the limits of this car because it's like we said, like, you know, like in order to find the limits of certain cars, you kind of have to go real fast.
Yeah, you have to send it.
You have to send it. And it's like, if I send this car, I'm getting a ticket. If I send this car, I'm wrapping it around a tree. It's like, I really want to get it on a track to really find what the limits of it are, and then just to see what I can fine tune or, you know, see what I can get. Like, because I know coilovers are one of the next mods that I'm going to put in this car, to help with the, you know, to lower it a little bit, obviously, but then to just get like stiffer rates. But
that's my thing. I want to do my suspension before I take the Skyline out to the track.
Yeah, because I feel like suspension is a very necessary mod, and tires, like to get track tires.
Yeah. Well, my tires are the rollers the previous owner in Japan put on there, so they're basically plastic.
Okay, so you really just want to get like
they handle well enough, but I'd rather get a good set of tires if I'm going to go to the track. So,
and I really want to like battle brake fade, but like I have Brembos on that car, but I really don't know if it's gonna like
you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because my Lancer's heavier than the 8.6, and I had no brake problems the entire day.
Really?
I'm on literally stock pads and rotors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So if we had brake problems with the R35 because it's a much more powerful car, so it needs bigger brakes. But it was also running street pads, and the thing is heavy. That car is a heavy car, so he's slamming it hard on the brakes to get in those corners. You're not gonna have that problem.
Okay.
I guarantee you, your car, unless you start putting a lot of power into that thing, you'll be fine. At worst, near the end of the day, you may start having some fade issues. But I was coming in every 5 to 10 laps just to check my times and let the car cool off a little bit. So as long as you're not out there for like 100 laps without stopping, you'll be fine. And I doubt you would go out for that long of a sprint because you'd want to come in and see your times and see how you're doing.
Plus an opportunity to cool down.
Yeah, let the car cool down, let you cool down because you don't want to run AC. So when you're out there and you're having the sun beat down on you, you're in the desert. So yeah, that's
an experience.
It's a fun thing to do. Yes, but it is. It's. I just took the Lancer. I was only going to do it one lap. I was going to do one lap so I can put the sticker of the track on the back of the car. That was my goal. Because I don't want to put a track sticker on my car if I hadn't been on that track. That seems like a poser. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna do that once, and then I went out there, and the plan was to be in the GTR the whole day, or the 35. And then I was like, really, I went out and I did a couple laps. Well, that's cool. Saw my times, and we had a guy there that he has a Miata built. Like he's done like thousands of laps of that track. Like he had records at that track for a while, and he also had an instructor license. So we could go out with him. And so we were just chatting. I was like, he was talking about what he done. You want to try the Lancer? And he's like, yeah, because he's used to high power, these crazy cars. I'm like, you want like 140 horsepower, front wheel drive, just turtle you want to take out? And he's like, let's do it. So I hopped in the seat beside him, and his line was completely different than what I was taking. I was like, oh, I was way off on how I should be doing this. But he was throwing it through corners, like right up to the side of the track. I was like, man, this dude's good. So when we got back, I saw what his time was. I'm like, I think I can match that. Okay, so then I went back out in my car. At that point, I was out there constantly just trying to beat I beat his time, which to be fair, he had never driven my car before. So, and he only did like that few laps. So I knew the car better, and I saw his line, so I just started running it more and more and more.
That's cool, man.
But every time I'd come in after 5 or 6 laps, it's like, cool, I'm 1 or 2 seconds faster. Okay, I can get better. And then the afternoon, we reversed the track, and I had to figure it out again. And I went out with him in this GTR that time to see what the route he took was. Plus, I was like, I want to see what this GTR can do. And that is the only time in my life I've ever been scared in a car. Like genuinely, like, first off, I knew the car had the brake issue, so I was already nervous, and he's going fast. But on that track, when you're going clockwise, there's a turn that's completely blind.
Wow.
And everyone told me
there's a car on the other side.
Well, it's not that kind of blind. It's like if there's a car there, you'll see it. but it dips just enough that you can't see the track anymore.
Oh shit!
And when you see the track, it's not like there's a track. Okay, there's a corner. No, it's like there's the track. There's a corner. Like you basically have to turn into the corner before you can see the corner.
Wow.
And
anticipate it.
Yeah, and you just have to trust that reality stayed the same. The turn's still there, and so you have to just know it. And he comes flying over that corner. Like I was starting out that corner, even once I knew it was there at like 30, 40. He's in this GTR. He's going like 70, 80, and just sends it over. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like it was the first, the rest of the track, I was fine. That corner, everybody said it was a blind corner. I'm like, yeah, I can handle it. I've driven this track how many times now in the other direction? I know what that road looks like. No, I didn't. It was like a whole new track. He went over that corner. I tensed up. And the next couple times he did the laps, I was like, I was getting it. So by the time I was in my car, it wasn't as scary. But I was like, man, I'm glad I was not driving and just saw that. I'd have probably went off track. I would have turned incorrectly completely. So I was like, yeah, I need some practice. I don't need to be buying an expensive fast car. I need to start small, work my way up. And I'm gonna go with 350 so I can stay in the Nissan family. Really, it's a big thing. So I was looking at Miatas and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do 350.
I feel like they're a pretty good price right now.
Right now, they're all everything's stupid expensive.
Really?
Yeah. Like average price for a 350 is like 10 grand. And
oh shit!
That. Yeah.
Well, it's still cheaper than a Sylvia.
Well, yeah.
Like so.
That's
for a track day car.
A Miata, like our old school Miatas are like 10 to 12.
Damn, they really
going
up.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's so ridiculous.
So yeah, that's why I don't have a track car yet. I'm waiting for the prices to either come down or just find the right buy.
Yeah.
And I'll pay off some bills and stuff. So I got the car I need to work on right now with the Lancer or the Skyline. So, when it happens, it'll happen. In the meantime, I'm just enjoying the cars I got.
Oh my God. Well, we got things to do too. So, but dude, thank you, Mike. Man. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's so, yeah, dude. Thank you for coming. Thank you for talking cars and games. We really love it, man. And we'd love to have you here again to talk about it. And I'll let you know, because obviously we're not even done yet.
I think we're scratching. I'm just taking it in, man. I love hearing about.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, it's such a great experience, and obviously a lot. So, if people want to hit you up, you have a YouTube channel.
I do have a couple of YouTube channels. Yeah. The gaming channel is called The Bullet Train, or just Bullet Train. Nice. And then my car channel is Mike's Garage.
Mike's
YouTube.
Garage, right on. So find him over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, and you'll be at Pierce tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be at Pierce College for Supercar Sunday. So.
Nice. So yeah, that's us, man. So thanks for coming on our podcast. We really appreciate it. I gotta pee. But yeah, man, thanks again for coming, man.
Awesome.
Right.
Until next time, guys.
Till next time.
Hey guys, Jason here from Indescendants. Thanks for watching our videos, and for more videos, hit the subscribe button below.